The black-haired Demon King spits blood in sheer shock and denial of his current reality. He looks back at the grim reality of his fallen army and his own impending defeat. He recalls how his prideful black flames utterly failed to kill the invading heroes. He questions how the legendary sword god of the heroes managed to pierce his protective scales and heart. Bleeding heavily, the Demon King expresses his utter bewilderment at his defeat. An oppressive, fading darkness closes in as his mind wanders back through his memories. He reflects on his past as a brilliant prodigy who easily topped the Demon King Academy. He remembers meticulously studying and following the ancient demonic handbook of rules and standards. Following the protocol, he built a menacing tower, kidnapped princesses, and actively nurtured the heroes sent to rescue them. He believed that a hero's despair was his ultimate feast, but only once they fully matured. His core strategy relied on letting the heroes grow strong to maximize his final demonic feast. By harvesting the collective agony of the realm, his ultimate conquest seemed entirely inevitable. He rode supreme from his throne, engulfed in overwhelming purple dark energy. This methodical approach officially crowned him as the absolute strongest Demon King in history. Yet, he is left completely devastated by his sudden, illogical defeat on his own throne. He desperately demands an explanation for his defeat from the victorious warrior standing before him. The hero mockingly points out that every defeated Demon King asks the exact same question. The hero laughs wildly, explaining that the demons bring this destruction upon themselves and foolishly acts surprised. The Demon King curses in anger, but the hero retorts by exposing the absurd predictability of kidnapping princesses and leaving clues. The hero cackles maniacally while pointing out how much more effective it would have been to simply assassinate the king. The Demon King mentally calculates that targeting the king would only spark civil war instead of breeding resentment toward him. He realizes that avoiding direct confrontation violates the classic standards necessary for his demonic growth. The hero continues his relentless critique of the demon's highly structured training methods. The hero mockingly thanks the Demon King for serving as such a dedicated personal trainer. The hero explains how incredibly convenient it is when all the challenges are neatly compiled inside one tower. He reveals how perfectly structured the tower floors are for low-level heroes to easily grind and level up. The Demon King despairs as he realizes his careful adherence to the rules was his ultimate undoing. A sudden heavy impact echoes as the hero violently kicks the Demon King off his throne. The Demon King screams in absolute agony as his pride and body are shattered. The hero casually explains their cycle of killing the Demon King whenever they get bored to trigger a reset. The hero crazily declares his entire realm to be the perfect playground for the human heroes. The invading army erupts in sarcastic cheers, mockingly thanking the Demon King for being their ultimate godfather. The jubilant heroes raise their weapons, thanking the defeated ruler for providing the finest hunting ground. He lies in his own blood, horrified to realize his meticulously crafted empire was treated as a mere game. The hero nonchalantly praises his strength before dismissively noting how the casualties only boosted his personal fame. The hero raises his colossal blade high to deliver the final execution blow. Ripping the floor in a fit of pure rage, he curses the humiliation of his useless textbook standards. Refusing to perish so pathetically, his eyes flare with a final spark of desperate defiance. He screams his prideful identity into the void as a dark surge of crimson magic erupts from his body. A massive roaring slash of crimson energy tears through the chamber with immense power. Bright crimson blood violently splatters across the blinding flash of the hero's swift execution. His wide-eyed face freezes in a final silent scream of eternal defeat. The victorious human warriors gather around to witness the end of their ultimate adversary. High above, the ancient stone ceiling is painted with the blood of the fallen ruler. The heroes stand triumphant on the blood-soaked carpet surrounding the throne. From the cold stone floor, his severed head harbors one last lingering thought of vengeance against his mockers. His dying vision reflects the mocking silhouette of the hero who sealed his grim fate. He vows silent, eternal retribution as his vision completely fades into pitch-black oblivion. The greedy hero aggressively claims the Demon King's horns as his personal trophy of war. He grunts in sudden confusion as a bizarre purple aura begins to emanate from the fallen demon's corpse. With a blood-red eye reflecting his nemesis, the fallen ruler resolves to sacrifice his final breath. The dark-haired warrior smiles in mocking disbelief as he senses the Demon King's sudden resistance. A sudden violent surge of purple electrical energy crackles furiously across the stone floor. The dark-haired warrior screams in panic, urgently ordering his companions to run away immediately. Shimmering purple magic takes the shape of screaming skulls as a spatial explosion erupts. The dying Demon King realizes too late that following standard demonic rules caused his downfall. He deeply regrets adhering to the ancient handbook as his consciousness begins to fade. He desperately wishes for another chance to redo his life and correct his mistakes. He resolves to completely ignore the conventional rules of combat if given another opportunity. He vows to deploy a ruthless army of unyielding monsters instead of following protocol. A blinding cataclysmic explosion of purple energy consumes his tower and shifts the scene. A distant, echoing voice calls out the name Burj Deus through the darkness. His dark pupil contracts in sudden shock as bright light floods his vision. Burj Deus looks up in bewilderment beneath a high glass ceiling showing a full moon. He stands in confusion among a large crowd of students wearing red and black uniforms. He stares at his hands, utterly astonished to realize that he is still alive. Tiny green demon on stage frantically summons Berger Deus to step forward immediately. He begins walking toward the front of the hall into the gaze of the instructors. He looks around in disbelief, realizing he has regressed to his academy graduation day. The elderly director questions his day's behavior while presenting him with a red jewel. He recognizes the red badge as the prestigious official symbol of a Demon King. He looks closely at the badge, realizing he has returned 15 years into the past. Grand Military Academy stands illuminated under a brilliant aurora on graduation night 15 years ago. Standing in the crowd, he realizes this second chance is his opportunity to defy destiny. The green host on stage excitedly announces the top student, Berger Deus, as representative. He stands before a massive holographic display containing the sacred rules of Demon Kings. He stares at the screen, his mind filled with resentment toward these predictable rules. He remembers how meticulously he studied and followed these exact guidelines in his past life. He recalls the smug face of the warrior, realizing how the standards led to his death. He bristles at the requirement to publicly pledge his life to these foolish rules again. His face darkens with rage as he silently grits his teeth in pure frustration. The tiny green host politely requests that he begin reading the Demon King standard. He clenches his jaw tightly, unable to contain his immense hatred for the rules. Standing before the entire assembly, he shocks everyone by flatly refusing to read the text. The gathered graduating class stares at him in absolute deadpan silence at his defiance. He furiously shouts that pledging himself to such stupid and predictable standards is foolish. He continues his public rant, declaring the traditional rules of a Demon King to be flawed. He stands defiantly in the center of the hall, calling the standards complete trash. His fellow students look on in sheer horror at his incredibly blasphemous speech. A student wearing glasses screams in absolute shock as his spectacles shatter from disbelief. The elderly director roars in a furious rage, completely insulted by the student's behavior. He reflects on how his outburst instantly dropped him from top student to dead last. A heavy gloved fist slams violently down onto a railing in the upper balcony. Archduke Arcane Blarem furiously threatens to execute him on the spot for insulting their standards. Looking down from above, the Archduke offers him one final chance to apologize for his outburst. He demands Berger withdraw his statements or face immediate deployment to the deadly realm of Arene. The noble spectators murmur in shock, noting that a deployment to Arene is a death sentence. Angry nobles in the audience demand his death, furious that he insulted their sacred rules. The Archduke warns him of Arene's danger, but Berger firmly demands to be sent there. He confidently declares his goal to go to Arene and prove the standards are garbage. An angry voice declares Berger hopeless and immediately deploys him to the dangerous realm of Arene. The decree strips Berger of all top Demon King privileges and bans any companions from accompanying him. Berger is cast out of the portal, forbidden from returning to the demon realm until his occupation is complete. Falling through the sky, Berger reflects that this harsh punishment was expected after his defiant outburst. Berger falls toward Arene, the very realm where the heroes who once killed him reside. Recalls that even in his past life before regressing, he had personally chosen to conquer Arene. In his past life, his pride drove him to choose the hardest continent to prove his absolute supremacy. He bitterly realizes his arrogance cost his life as human heroes easily exploited the predictable demon standards. A sudden booming explosion echoes as a massive beam of light strikes a snow-covered mountain peak. Berger kneels in the snowy crater, his dark wings wrapped around him as snow falls around. He resolves never to let defeat happen again, pledging to turn the tables and exploit the heroes instead. He focuses his mind entirely on targeting the predictable standards of the human heroes. Meanwhile, a tanned, long-haired demon with spectacles prepares himself by carefully shaving. He meticulously fastens the collar of his white dress shirt to dress for the occasion. Looking sharp, Gordon Dyrek is introduced as the prestigious top graduate of the Demon Academy. Gordon looks out over the graduation hall, reflecting on how his academy trains the elite servants of Demon Kings. Classmates envy Gordon's prestigious assignment to serve the legendary top graduate Demon King, Berger. Gordon graciously flatters his classmates by stating that all of their assigned Demon Kings are respectable. His smile turns unsettlingly intense as he declares that none compare to the greatness of Lord Berger. Gordon praises Berger as a once-in-a-millennium prodigy of dragon lineage, calling it a blessing to graduate alongside him. Gordon phonetically envisions conquering dimensions with Berger and securing his own place in history. A sudden, shocking declaration of refusal interrupts the grand graduation ceremony from the stage below. Gordon and his classmates freeze in utter disbelief at the unexpected defiance. Berger shocks the entire academy by roaring that the sacred Demon King standards are complete trash. Gordon's mind reels in absolute horror as his dream of serving a perfect master is instantly shattered. Following the regulation, Gordon is deployed to a harsh snowy mountain range to serve his disgraced master. Stranded in the freezing wilderness, he questions his miserable fate with deep despair. Gordon is startled to see Berger approaching, realizing the academy sent him despite the initial solo ban. He stares blankly at the disgraced Demon King, struggling to process the bizarre situation. Berger casually greets his loyal servant, offering a hand of partnership in the snow. Overwhelmed, Gordon demands to know why Berger ruined his reputation with such an outburst. Berger plays dumb, casually asking what Gordon is referring to with a nonchalant shrug. Gordon completely panics, screaming about the ruined standards and his certain doom in a reign. Berger drily tells him to calm down before he rips his hair out, which only enrages Gordon more. Well, that is one way to get a free haircut. Berger observes his servant's dramatic meltdown, surprised by how different Gordon is compared to his past life. Shifting instantly to hypermotivation, Gordon declares that conquering Orion with Berge actually excites his elite drive. Berge decides to keep his regression a secret to avoid looking completely insane to his unstable partner. A sudden, heavy huffing sound echoes as Gordon gasps for air, completely exhausted from his panic. Gordon apologizes for his shameful display, solemnly swearing to fulfill his duty as Berge's servant. He recalls that Demon King towers must not be hidden in excessively harsh environments. This rule exists solely so that human heroes can easily locate and reach the tower. Gordon warns that this monster-infested, inaccessible mountain range is completely unsuitable for building their tower. Burgess defiantly rejects the warning, declaring his intention to build the tower right on this dangerous peak. A sharp, quick stab sounds as Berger firmly plants the red coral-like tower seed into the deep snow. Gordon screams that violating these rules throws away the very pride of a Demon King. Berger empathizes with Gordon's disgust, knowing how deeply demon programming dictates their actions. He reflects that only a profound experience like death allows one to truly break free from such programming. A sudden wet squelch sounds as Berger tightly squeezes his hand, letting his dark blood splatter onto the ground. Letting his blood drip onto the seed, Berger declares that the traditional standards are complete garbage. Gordon looks on in stunned silence as the ground begins to shake beneath their feet. A sudden, thunderous rumbling echoes across the snowy peaks as the ground begins to violently shake. A brilliant, intense red light bursts from the planet seed, radiating powerful magical energy. Two figures watch in awe as a towering pillar of crimson light erupts toward the sky. Berger explains that Orion is completely swarming with a massive number of human heroes. He recalls the diverse ranks of formidable human warriors and heroes who dominate this realm. A magical interface displays his name, Berger Deus, and his demonic dragon lineage. With a booming crash, a massive dark fortress materializes amidst the snowy mountain landscape. Berger explains how humans exploited the predictable Demon King standards to destroy past towers. He points out that traditional demon rules are useless here, dubbing them the hero's standards instead. A completed dark multi-tiered stone tower looms imposingly over the desolate winter wilderness. Gordon looks up at the massive fortress in absolute shock, bewildered by its sudden summoning. Berger casually bids his long-haired companion to follow him inside the dark entrance of the tower. Two demons stand inside the vast, cold, and completely empty first floor of the tower. Gordon observes the hollow interior, realizing the fortress lacks any defensive structures or monsters. They walk down a long red carpet leading to an empty throne on the 5th floor. Gordon reluctantly accepts the tower's existence, but insists they must still follow the second sacred rule. The sacred guidelines state that a Demon King must kidnap a royal prince or princess. The system explains that high-ranking royal hostages yield far greater amounts of demonic energy. Gordon politely asks Berger for permission to offer him some strategic advice. Pointing to a map, Gordon suggests kidnapping the highest-ranking princess from the neighboring kingdom of Corzin. Gordon is completely stunned when Berger unexpectedly and casually agrees to the plan. Gordon eagerly offers to help, but Berger orders him to stay behind and guard the tower. Gordon becomes ecstatic, believing Berger is finally acting like a proper, elite Demon King. Before Berger departs, Gordon asks him which specific royal target he plans to kidnap. Berger pauses thoughtfully, preparing to reveal his highly unconventional choice. Spreading his dark wings, Berger flies toward the most distant southern nation, the kingdom of Hilderin. Cool night wind blows through the open balcony curtains of a luxurious palace room. Floating outside the window, Berge gazes at a blonde princess sitting quietly on her bed. He targets the 13th princess, a royal family member noted for having the least presents. Berger dramatically announces his arrival, declaring his intent to take the young princess away. In a comical panic, Gordon's voice echoes, screaming that this is the absolute opposite of standard protocol. The black-haired Demon King and the blonde princess stare at each other in silent curiosity. Looking up with wide purple eyes, the blonde princess asks the intruder for his identity. Berger proudly introduces himself as the Demon King who has come to kidnap her. The princess completely catches him off guard by calmly asking if he can handle her. Berger bristles at the bizarre question, internally wondering if she thinks Demon Kings are a joke. The blonde princess cheerfully extends her hands, willingly offering herself to be taken away. Suspicious of her extreme calmness, Berger demands to know what kind of trap she is plotting. Berger warns her that he is desperate and will not let his guard down or be tricked. The princess mildly points out that she could not possibly have foreseen a Demon King's arrival. Berger silently admits she has a point, though he still feels a deeply uncomfortable sensation. The princess politely invites him to proceed, extending her hand toward the perplexed demon. Burji flies back through the snowy mountain night skies, carrying the princess toward his tower. Carrying the cloaked princess bridal style, Burgess returns to the tower where a relieved Gordon greets him. Burge orders her housed on the 4th floor, offering leniency because she did not resist capture. Gordon turns serious, informing the Demon King that there is something urgent they must discuss. The blonde princess stands alone in the vast, completely empty stone hall of the 4th floor. Sitting on the cold floor, she realizes she has indeed been kidnapped and bemoans the lack of pillows. She sadly reflects on the complete absence of blankets, maids, or comfort in her new cell. She remembers the lush, beautiful gardens of her kingdom, noting how different this dreary place is. The blonde princess looks on with a knowing, subtle smile as she reflects on her situation. She cheerfully convinces herself that being kidnapped might not actually be such a bad thing. Back at his tower, Burji reads an unexpected invitation sent from the rival tower beasts. Gordon explains that the gathering is a welcome party for the new Demon King, but Burge skeptically dismisses it as a pathetic attempt at hazing. He reflects on how traditional Demon Kings are too proud to collaborate, though the unique threats of Irene force them to work together. Remembering his past mistakes, Burje decides he should at least attempt some light diplomacy with his peers this time around. He arrives at the overgrown, vine-covered stone fortress known as the Tower of Beasts. Inside the tower, the colossal wolf demon Draxen introduces himself as the long-reigning Demon King of Beasts. Grinning mockingly, Draxen questions Burge's reputation, unimpressed by the newcomer who dared to defy the traditional standards. Regretting his visit, Burje calmly tells the Beast King to state his business rather than picking a fight. Draxen laughs and reveals that the powerful Archduke Arcane ordered him to closely monitor Burje's actions upon arrival. Burje casually insults Arcane, dismissively calling him a noisy old vampire who clearly needs more discipline in Irene. Infuriated by the blatant disrespect, Draxen roars at Burje for daring to insult the high-ranking Archduke. A sudden wet splat echoes as Draxen furiously slams his half-eaten meat onto the stone floor. Glaring with glowing red eyes, Draxen demands that Burje lick the dirty meat off the floor to earn forgiveness. Burje remains completely unfazed, asking Draxen if he truly misunderstands the reason for his visit to the tower. Burje smirks coldly as he begins to invoke the traditional rules of the Demon Kings. The sudden thunderous crash, Burje violently stomps his foot, shattering the stone floor with an explosive shockwave. The intense impact uncovers hidden skeletons buried deep beneath the shattered stone of the fortress. Burje asks with absolute menace if Draxen honestly believed he would ever follow such trash guidelines. Draxen begins to sweat profusely, paralyzed by the overwhelming, terrifying aura emanating from the young Demon King. Terrified, Draxen stammers that his assignment was merely to verify if Burje had successfully abducted a royal princess. Walking away dismissively, Burje shocks the Beast King by casually revealing that he has already completed the kidnapping. Burje adds over his shoulder that the princess he captured suits his personal taste perfectly. The scene shifts back to the freezing peaks where Burje's stone tower stands amidst the snow. In the throne room, Gordon praises Burje's dominance, while Burje casually assumes that Draxen won't cause any more trouble. Burje orders Gordon to inspect the princess's condition so they can determine how to utilize her magical energy. A series of heavy, rhythmic footsteps echo as Gordon walks down the stone corridor to check the cell. Alone on his throne, Burje worries that dealing with the host of other aggressive Demon Kings will prove troublesome. Though the consequences of defying the orthodox rules are severe, Burje resolves that he would still make the exact same choice. Spurred by intense pride, Burje declares his absolute refusal to ever bow his head to such garbage standards. Accessing his system interface, Burje plans to build his foundation safely using the low-tier princess to gather demonic points. Burje is left utterly dumbfounded when the system displays an astronomical score of over 13,000 points. A sudden chime sounds as a glowing mail notification floats in front of him. The letter opens to show a congratulatory message from Draxen, offering a gift to his junior Demon King. Draxen confesses on screen that he is deeply impressed, wondering if Burje's defiance of the rules was just a clever cover. Burje realizes with absolute horror that a massive mistake has occurred in his plan. Gordon bursts back into the throne room in a frantic panic, screaming that something is terribly wrong on the 4th floor. A peaceful rustle of leaves sounds as a lush, sunlit garden suddenly appears inside the tower. Vibrant flowers bloom and butterflies flutter about in this impossibly beautiful magical sanctuary. Burje stands completely frozen, unable to process the bizarre paradise that has overtaken his dark fortress. Gazes in wonder at a massive magical dome projecting a realistic outdoor ecosystem inside his tower. Smiling warmly, the blonde princess greets Burje while holding a blue slime, surrounded by adorable floating elemental spirits. Burje realizes only the continent's master spiritist could perform such a feat, realizing his kidnap target was wrong. Burje accuses her of not being the 13th princess, and she happily confirms that he mistook her for Elena. Cold sweat pours down Burje's face as the sheer weight of his error finally sinks in. She proudly reveals her true identity as the formidable first princess of the prestigious Hilderin Kingdom. Outside the tower, panic erupts across the Hilderin Kingdom over the abduction of their beloved princess. Furious, the King of Hildren commands his entire military and strongest heroes to mobilize immediately to rescue Ernan. Armored knights swear an oath to execute the Demon King and rescue Princess Ernan. The blonde princess confidently questions whether the Demon King is capable of handling her. Sweating, Burji demands to know how she managed to hide her immense magical power from him. The princess explains that a royal family heirloom ring allows her to completely conceal her magical energy. She asks if he wants to return her, leaving the dumbfounded Demon King completely speechless. Burji realizes that returning her would make him look cowardly and ruin his demonic reputation. Stealing his resolve, the young Demon King decides he must see this plan through. A system notification alerts Burji that his demonic energy points have soared to over 19,000. Burji declares that his plans do not change even if she is not his original target. The Demon King firmly reminds the blonde princess that she is still his royal hostage. The scene shifts to the grand snow-dusted White Palace of the Hildren Kingdom. The furious King of Hildren commands his court to execute the Demon King and retrieve his princess. Panicked advisors urge patience, admitting they do not yet know which Demon King is responsible. Screaming in a rage, the king demands his officials act quickly instead of standing around uselessly. An advisor interrupts with puzzling news regarding a recent kidnapping by another Demon King. The advisor notes how strange it is for another Demon King to kidnap a princess immediately after the Demon King of Lust was slain by heroes. The revelation leaves the other advisors in the throne room staring in stunned, cartoonish silence. An ominous energy fills the air as the king grips his throne in silent fury. Gritting his teeth, the furious king concludes that this must be the work of a new Demon King. A soldier rushes in reporting that teleportation magic traces lead north toward the dangerous Urgus Mountains. King reacts with absolute shock upon hearing the princess was taken to the Urgus Mountains. The scene shifts to Burgess Tower standing amidst the freezing peaks of the Urgus Mountains. The dark fortress stands isolated and formidable in the middle of the snowy wasteland. Gordon anxiously warns Burji that the approaching Hildren army might be too formidable for them to handle. Burji responds with a confident smirk, completely unbothered by his assistant's warnings. Burji calmly reassures Gordon, explaining that the kingdom of Hildren cannot easily reach their remote location. A map of the continent shows that other kingdoms would never allow Hildren's army to march through their territories to the far north. Burji explains that Hildren will be forced to hire a hero guild instead of deploying their massive army. Left with no other options, the defeated king reluctantly orders his men to contract the Hero Guild. The scene shifts to the massive white stone tower that serves as the headquarters of the Hero Guild. Inside the guild, the mercenary heroes refuse the rescue mission, terrified of the monstrous dangers in the Urgus Mountains. Burji boasts that he chose this location because money-hungry heroes would never risk their lives in such a dangerous territory. Gordon is amazed by Burgess's thorough planning, realizing his master is incredibly knowledgeable despite ignoring traditional protocols. Looking at Burgess's smug expression, Gordon wonders if the Demon King has lived in Arain before. Back in Hilderan, the king screams in disbelief that no heroes are willing to accept the mission. The king laments that the heroes are self-interested cowards who care far more about profits than heroism. Viewing the system panels from his throne, Burji knows it will take time for the kingdom to muster a rescue force. Remembering a past threat of shadowy heroes, Burj reflects that he knows the terror of their power all too well. Burj shocks Gordon by ordering him to contact Draxons so they can sell their demonic energy for human money. Gordon screams in absolute disbelief at the absurd suggestion of selling demonic energy. Desperate, Gordon argues that demonic energy is the ultimate power source and should never be traded away like cheap currency. Burji remains unfazed, explaining that while demonic energy alone won't stop the heroes, human money can buy other solutions. He hints that there is a secret alternative plan he can execute with human currency. The scene transitions to the bustling fortress city of Holton Work near the Urgus Mountains. A cloaked figure walks through the city gates, passing by the guards on duty. The guards halt the suspicious individual, who simply replies that he is a traveling mercenary. Quick ding sounds as the cloaked figure slides a gold coin to bribe the guard, instantly easing his suspicions. Smirking beneath his hood, Burji mockingly asks the guard if they can trust each other now. Walking into the streets, Burji realizes he cannot properly navigate the city alone. In a nearby tavern, a mercenary asks his relaxed captain if they should prepare to depart the city soon. The lazy captain laughs happily, boasting that staying here allows them to collect rewards while others do the fighting. In a tavern, a gray-haired captain dismisses the news of a new Demon King's tower, claiming Demon Kings always build where heroes can reach them. The captain mockingly questions if anyone has ever seen a Demon King travel to the other end of the continent to kidnap a princess. A mercenary with a headband tells the captain that the Hero Guild reportedly turned down the rescue mission after learning the destination. The captain loudly claims the guild's refusal is just a trick to extort more money for rescuing a precious royal heir. The captain laughs hysterically with his crew about the hero's greed, completely convinced it is all a scheme for profit. Emerging silently from the shadows behind the laughing captain, a black-haired young man ominously states that he now understands the situation. Terrified, the captain falls backward, screaming in fright and demanding to know the intruder's identity. Cracking his knuckles, the black-haired young man declares they are knowledgeable enough to be his guides, ordering only one to remain while the others leave. Enraged mercenaries charge at him with swords, screaming that he will not leave the tavern alive. With rapid bone-shattering strikes, the young man effortlessly decimates the charging mercenaries. He continues to violently sweep through the tavern, knocking out mercenaries left and right. Mercenary gasps in horror as a black-booted foot steps heavily onto the floor. A massive, bald giant leaps forward to strike the young man from behind with a heavy wooden club. A powerful explosion of force erupts as the giant's attack is completely shattered. Smiling with glowing red eyes, the black-haired young man easily overpowers his opponent. A nearby mercenary watches in absolute horror, sweating profusely at the display of overwhelming power. Crossbowmen on the upper balcony quickly line up their shots, ready to fire at the intruder. With a devastating shockwave, the upper balcony is destroyed and the young man pins the captain's head to the floor. The captain stammers in absolute terror, calling the grinning young man an absolute monster. Outside on the streets, loud crashing sounds and screams echo from inside the tavern. Pedestrians outside flatly comment on how the tavern mercenaries are fighting again, wondering if they ever get tired of it. The interior of the tavern is completely ruined, with defeated mercenaries strewn unconscious across the shattered wooden floor. Looming over the terrified captain, the young man promises to spare his life in exchange for answers to his questions. The young man demands to know the exact location of the local slave market. The scene transitions to a grand white mansion estate complete with a large stone fountain. Cloaked in dark robes, the young man and the captain walk along the mansion's cobblestone pathway. Looking at cages filled only with human slaves, the captain anxiously asks the young man if they are not to his liking. The young man tosses a heavy pouch of gold coins, asking if there are any rare slaves available. His greed instantly ignited, the grinning captain eagerly offers to lead the way to the rare slaves. Watching the captain's greedy face, the young man reflects that humans desiring money are no different from demons desiring demonic energy. A black-booted foot steps carefully down a dark, cold flight of stone stairs. The captain politely guides the young man deeper into the underground holding chambers. In a brief flashback, the young Demon King explains to his advisor Gordon that he intends to use human money to buy captured otherworldly slaves. The young Demon King notes that an elf known for its strong sense of integrity would be the ideal choice. The young Demon King plans to use the captured elf as a spy to breed chaos among the approaching human heroes. In the Hildren Palace, the king joyfully welcomes the renowned armored hero Hillen Cargill, who has stepped forward for the rescue mission. Kneeling before the throne, the armored hero vows to rescue the princess and deliver the Demon King's head to the king. With a stern, determined gaze, the hero Hillen Cargill prepares to embark on the perilous journey. The young Demon King believes this plan will be highly effective, as the elven species is widely trusted for their innocence. When the merchant asks what slaves he seeks, the young man points to the elven slave and nonchalantly says the captain will pay. Backed by a terrifying dark red aura, the young man asks if he objects, forcing the sweating captain to quickly agree to pay. The young man orders the others to leave so he can verify a few details, despite their warnings that the elf might turn violent. The young man dismisses their concerns, coolly stating that the captain will cover any damages if anything goes wrong. The captain clicks his tongue in deep frustration, thoroughly displeased by how he is being exploited. Left alone in the quiet dungeon, the heavy iron gate of the elven slave's cage slowly swings open. Releasing the green-haired elf from his chains with a dark spell, the young man comments on how a noble elf was reduced to a miserable slave. The green-haired elf immediately recognizes his savior's demonic energy and suspiciously demands to know what business a demon has with him. Standing tall, the young Demon King offers the captive elf a golden opportunity to exact revenge on the humans who enslaved him. Although the offer is tempting, the proud elf states he cannot trust demons any more than he trusts humans. The young Demon King promises that if the elf remains loyal for 50 years, his absolute safety and freedom will be guaranteed. The black-haired young man states that 50 years is brief for elves, far better than human humiliation. Refusing to trust him, the green-haired elf cites the demon's history of destroying the sacred world tree. Finding a demon seeking an elf's help highly suspicious, Granada leaves the young Demon King silently troubled. With a sharp smirk, the young Demon King agrees to make a deal. The young Demon King solemnly vows on his standards to protect the sacred world tree. In exchange for his oath, Burgi demands the elf pledge 50 years of allegiance to him. Smiling despite his severe neck bruises, the green-haired elf prepares to accept the intriguing proposal. Granada of the Mabel tribe insists on personally meeting the Demon King before swearing his oath. The young black-haired man casually reveals his true identity, leaving Granada utterly stunned. Granada bursts into hysterical laughter, dismissing the claim because Demon Kings grow weaker away from their towers. Mockingly, the green-haired elf promises a century of service if the young man is truly the Demon King. The scene shifts abruptly to the grand empty halls of the Demon King's tower. Sitting on his throne, the smug Demon King locks in the century-long contract, leaving the shocked elf speechless. The green-haired elf furiously protests, claiming he was scammed by the completely empty state of the tower. Granada complains that the first 3 floors of the massive fortress are completely vacant. Pointing out that the 4th floor is merely a scenic garden, Granada questions the complete lack of defensive monsters. Granada rants that the weak tower won't survive the human heroes and refuses to work there. The young Demon King unleashes a terrifying wave of dark purple energy, reminding the elf of their binding contract. Stunned by the overwhelming pressure of raw demonic energy, Granada finally recognizes his master's terrifying strength. Recalling their peaceful journey past disaster-class mountain giants, Granada realizes the monsters feared to attack them. The green-haired elf realizes the beasts kept their distance purely out of terror of the Demon King. Dropping to his knees, Granada formally swears a century of absolute loyalty to the formidable Demon King. Anticipating a crucial role in a grand malicious scheme, Granada eagerly plots his path to vengeance. Shattering the dramatic mood, the Demon King nonchalantly orders his new subordinate to prepare him a meal. Granada stands completely frozen in absolute comical bewilderment at the mundane first command. Wearing an apron, the mighty elf begins chopping vegetables while questioning his life choices. The cheerful blonde princess eagerly joins the kitchen, asking to help bake bread while Granada stares in utter confusion. The group gathers for a formal dinner at the grand table in the dining room. Granada cautiously whispers to his master, questioning the identity of the human woman eating with them. The Demon King casually confirms that the blonde woman is indeed the royal princess Hilderan. Granada panics, frantically questioning how they can possibly survive the wrath of incoming heroes with an empty tower. Chewing his food, Burjay explains that is exactly why he acquired the elf, telling him to relax and eat. The Demon King praises the meal, and the proud princess cheerfully boasts about her contribution to the cooking. Granada is left entirely mentally exhausted, unable to comprehend the bizarre dynamics of the fortress. Standing in the garden, Burjay explains that if heroes ever breach the deadly mountain range, combat is already futile. Revealing his true plan, Burjay tasks the elf with infiltrating human territory as a spy, but first demands a duel. Burj beckons Granada to attack so he can evaluate his combat skills, while the elf doubts his chances inside the tower. To balance the fight, Burjay offers to use only one hand without demonic energy, promising to cut the contract in half if he loses. Fired up by the generous terms, Granada unleashes his earth magic and vows to fight with everything he has. The green-haired elf moves with a swift burst of incredible speed. Granada launches a ferocious kick, but the young Demon King effortlessly parries the strike with a single hand. Burjay praises the elf's sharp movements despite his long captivity, noting his unique ability to absorb the garden floor's mana. Granada relentlessly presses his attack, warning the Demon King that he chose the wrong opponent. Thorny golden vines suddenly erupt from the soil, firmly trapping Burjay's boot and catching him by surprise. Seizing his chance, Granada charges a massive magical punch to reclaim 50 years of his contract. Smirking as a monstrous shadow looms, Burjay acknowledges the elf's skill but prepares to show his true dominance. An ominous aura flares as Burjay warns Granada not to forget the terrifying nature of his opponent. With a sinister grin and glowing red eyes, the Demon King promises to hold back enough strength to keep the elf alive. Horrified by the sudden, overwhelming pressure, Granada frantically pleads for him to wait. A massive shockwave shakes the entire remote fortress, echoing through the frozen peaks with a resounding BAM! The scene transitions back to the wooden tavern building nestled at the foot of snowy mountains. With gleaming golden coin signs in his eyes, the greedy mercenary captain erupts in absolute delight. Burjay proposes hiring the mercenary squad for a year, prompting the captain to inquire about their budget while the bruised mercenaries grumble about their captain kissing up to their defeater. Burjay tosses down a massive pouch of glittering gold coins as a deposit, leaving the mercenary group absolutely speechless. Instantly won over by the gold, the mercenaries pledge lifelong loyalty to their captain, who awkwardly accepts while privately wishing for a new squad. Burjay introduces a hooded intermediary to relay his future orders, leading the captain to happily comply despite his men's uneasy protests about welcome a stranger. Bandaged and sporting a comically swollen cheek, the green-haired elf introduces himself to the squad as Granada. Bruised mercenaries stare in silent, speech-free disbelief at their extremely battered new teammate. Feeling an instant emotional connection over their mutual injuries, the battered mercenaries shed tears of deep sympathy for Granada. The mercenaries gather around the battered elf in a warm, tearful embrace of newfound brotherhood. Watching the emotional bonding, Burj reflects that while these urgest mercenaries appear mediocre, they are seasoned, rare, and highly manageable assets. Burj considers his potential adversaries, noting that the only hero likely to answer the Hilderan Kingdom's current summons is Hildenkargel, the conqueror of the Demon King of Lust. The unified squad of mercenaries, including a stern Granada, stands ready for their secret mission. Burj issues a stern command to his new mercenary squad, ordering them to investigate Hildenkargel, the hero hired by Hilderan. A thunderous, unified shout of affirmation echoes as the mercenaries eagerly accept their new mission. With the hero investigation successfully delegated to Granada, the scene transitions to Burj's massive tower standing in the snowy mountains. Seated on his throne, surrounded by holographic profiles of his subordinates, Burj resolves that it is finally his turn to grow stronger. Upgrade screen explains that demonic energy points can enhance either the tower or the Demon King, leaving Burj, who sold his points, to seek an alternate source of power. Narration explains that the Spirit Blossom is a highly potent crystal of natural mana that provides an immense boost in strength to whoever consumes it. Since the monster-infested Urgist Mountains remain untouched by humans, the spirit blossoms there have quietly absorbed raw natural mana for centuries. Pristine wilderness acts as a treasure trove where the energy of these spirit blossoms has become exceptionally refined over time. Burjay informs his aide that he intends to harvest spirit blossoms, noting that while they are less effective than pure demonic energy, they're far better than nothing. Gordon Dyrek warns Burjay that entering the perilous beast-filled mountains unprepared to search for the blossoms is as difficult as finding a needle in a desert. Burjay agrees with Gordon's assessment, noting that while defeating monsters is trivial, locating the blossoms themselves will indeed be highly challenging. Gordon remarks that the difficult task would only be feasible if they possessed an exceptionally powerful mana detector. Their conversation is interrupted by a sudden sharp knock-knock sounding as the grand wooden doors begin to creak open. Princess Ernan peeks around the door with a cute blue slime spirit resting on her head, sheepishly asking if the two are busy. A realization strikes Burjay and Gordon as they stare in surprise at the blonde princess. The cheerful princess skips ahead joyfully, leaving a cloaked Burjay to follow closely behind her. Princess Ernan giggles alongside her floating fire spirit, reminding Burjay of his promise to let her freely decorate the tower's 4th floor. Burj consents on reading the condition that she helps find the blossoms, while silently sweating over how much she has already remodeled the tower to her liking. Burjay inwardly despairs at the sheer absurdity of a human captive daring to redecorate a Demon King's fortress. Ernan privately celebrates her good fortune, delighted that checking in on them resulted in an unexpected outdoor excursion. Erin's excitement turns to surprise as she notices Burjay's black-gloved hand reaching toward her. Instructing her to hold tight, Burjay scoops the princess into a bridal carry and unleashes his massive black wings, ignoring her startled protests. With a sudden high-pitched kaya echoing, they blast directly into the sky in a trail of light. Erin squeezes her eyes shut in sheer panic against the rushing wind of their rapid ascent. Gradually overcoming her fear, the blonde princess cautiously opens one eye to look around. Her sparkling purple eye widens in absolute awe at the breathtaking view unfolding before her. Ernan recalls her royal past in the palace, reflecting on how her life was once a tedious, unending cycle of training and studying. Flying through the air, Ernan boasts that she is likely the first person to fly over the mountains, which Burjay bluntly dismisses to remind her of her job. Ernan warmly suggests they refer to each other by name since they will be together for a long time, leaving Burjay utterly speechless. Irritated by her familiarity, Burjay dangles Ernan in midair and threatens her with the dungeon, prompting her to apologize and order her spirits to search. Cheered on by the princess, the cute blue slime spirit dives down to begin scanning the mountain peaks. The fluffy cloud spirit adopts an intensely serious, determined expression before joining the search. Burjay reasons that while the spirits might take some time, they will still locate the blossoms far quicker than himself or Gordon. The spirits return almost instantly to announce they have already found the target, catching Burjay completely off guard. A spectacular, luminous white spirit blossom stands beautifully fully bloomed in the frozen mountain terrain. Spotting a pack of hulking blue-skinned beastmen guarding the blossom, Burjay notes that some uninvited guests have arrived before them. Burjay demands the beastmen obey his authority as their demon king, warning them to leave the blossom untouched and depart peacefully. The hostile blue-skinned beastmen flatly refuse to obey the demon king, declaring their intent to kill him. Amused by their defiance, the smirking Demon King realizes that his advisor's cautious warnings were entirely correct. Admitting his own foolishness for expecting reason from beasts, Burj prepares to unleash his dark magic. After Burjay vows to burn them to ashes, the enraged beastmen charge forward to defend their territory. The Demon King maintains a cold, focused expression as his purple energy reaches a devastating peak. A massive pillar of purple fire erupts, vaporizing the beastmen as they scream in agony. The dark magic takes the form of a monstrous beast ready to swallow the remaining forces. Amidst the onslaught, the surviving beastmen pivot their strategy to target the vulnerable human princess first. The blonde princess gasps in sudden alarm as the enemy beastmen suddenly direct their attack toward her. Burjay casually glances back, preparing a defensive countermeasure with a lingering sphere of dark magic. A sudden, violent shockwave of dark magic obliterates the charging attackers before they can reach the princess. Ernan marvels at his power, noting that notorious pack hunters like pool orcs cannot even scratch them. The black-haired Demon King silently reflects on the raw scale of his current capabilities. Massive spectral purple dragons materialize as Burjay flies off, leaving absolute devastation in his wake. Quiet returns to the snowy mountains as the defeated beastmen lie buried beneath the frozen rubble. Ernan enthusiastically praises the incredibly pure mana radiating from the newly discovered water attribute Spirit Blossom. Burjay sternly warns the princess not to claim the flower, prompting a meek, obedient response. Burjay promises Ernan a flower of her own if they find more, instantly motivating her to work. Despite their high spirits, they fail to locate another patch of blossoms in the storm. Ernan slumps in exhaustion after spending all her energy unsuccessfully searching the peaks. The scene transitions back to the massive, imposing fortress standing silently amidst the snowy mountains. Back on his throne, Burjay contemplates Ernan's royal identity, admitting his initial doubts about keeping her. Looking at the sleeping princess curled up in his cloak, Burjay recognizes her growing strategic value. Gordon informs Berger that Granada has already sent an update, surprising the Demon King with his speed. Gordon relays that Hill and Cargill and 32 other heroes have left the capital, bypassing their mountain. He explains that the heroes are embarking on a traditional journey to gain strength through questing. Gordon presents several calculated plans to counter the hero's journey, urging his master to review them. Berger immediately discards all of Gordon's elaborate tactical plans, leaving the advisor utterly flabbergasted. The Demon King reveals his counterintuitive plan to let the heroes proceed entirely undisturbed by monsters. Berger explains that premature interference only strengthens heroes, ordering Granada to infiltrate and aid their party. While Gordon frets over their tower's current defense, Berger reassures him that reinforcements are already planned. Berger proposes recruiting a dwarf, triggering an explosive, panicked meltdown from his high-strung elven advisor. The Demon King quietly channels his dark magic, silently prompting the panicked advisor to settle down. Berger clarifies that their true objective is securing advanced dwarven magical technology to defend the fortress. Berger paints a picture of defying expectations by obliterating unsuspecting heroes with an unexpected wall of artillery. Stunned by the unconventional strategy, Gordon realizes the heroes would be completely defenseless against such a trap. Despite the brilliance, Gordon still hesitates, grumbling about how far it deviates from Demon King traditions. Gordon is left standing completely alone in the silent, empty throne room after Berger abruptly departs. His attention is taken by a sudden, quick whoosh sounding as he watches his master fly off to abduct yet another resident. The scene shifts deep underground to Wolfner, a sprawling subterranean city carved into the rocky cavern walls. Inside a bustling workshop, a master dwarven blacksmith works tirelessly, hammering white-hot metal amidst flying sparks. The master blacksmith, identified as Lager Friedrich, pushes up his goggles to inspect his craft. Arriving at the massive stone gates of Wolfner, the cloaked Demon King prepares to enter undetected. Berger reflects on his past battles with dwarves before his regression, noting this is his first peaceful visit. Seeking local information, Berger locates a tavern marked by a creaking wooden midnight inn sign. Berger slides gold coins across the bar, asking the innkeeper to direct him to the city's finest blacksmith. The pleased innkeeper pockets the gold, admiring the visitor's respectful and financially persuasive approach. The innkeeper explains how to navigate the high-security subterranean elevators down to the restricted lower levels. Berger plunges directly down the sheer vertical shaft, bypassing the elevators in a rapid descent. With a soft tap sounding, the cloaked Demon King sticks a perfect landing at the bottom. Berger prepares to find the city's finest blacksmith by heading to the deepest subterranean room. Rhythmic loud hammering echoes through the halls as the cloaked Demon King peeks inside the workshop. The innkeeper's directions promise that the workshop houses Roger Friedrich, the kingdom's greatest blacksmith. Berger observes the master blacksmith working tirelessly amidst roaring flames, hammering white-hot metal at his anvil. Legendary dwarven craftsman is formally identified as the master blacksmith Roger Friedrich. Roger Friedrich lifts his goggles to inspect his craft as bright sparks fly from the anvil. Berger marvels at the blacksmith's extraordinary ability to weave mana seamlessly into his metallurgy. The cloaked Demon King quietly prepares to kidnap the legendary dwarven blacksmith. Roger Friedrich suddenly senses his presence and unleashes a massive wave of fire with his hammer. Berger quickly dodges, astonished that the dwarf successfully detected his carefully suppressed demonic energy. The aggressive counterattack makes Berger suspect the true powerful identity of the blacksmith. Berger effortlessly catches and blocks Roger Friedrich's massive flaming hammer strike with a single gloved hand. Holding back the blazing weapon, Berger calmly identifies his stout opponent as a legendary hero. Roger Friedrich proudly confirms his hero identity and warns that no demon will escape Wolfner alive. Smiling menacingly, the Demon King mockingly notes that despite his bold words, the hero is surprisingly weak. Berger prepares to reveal his true identity, emphasizing that he is no mere demon. The terrifying Demon King pins the screaming dwarf to the ground, casually revealing his massive curved horns. A loud clang sounds as the hero's discarded blacksmith hammer vibrates violently against the stone floor. Two heavily armored dwarven guards barge into the workshop, demanding to know the source of the commotion. Guards are left bewildered as they find the roaring workshop completely empty and silent. Alarms blare across the subterranean city as guards scramble to search for Roger Friedrich's kidnapper. Pinned to a cliff edge, Roger Friedrich accuses the threatening Demon King of targeting their dwarven princess. Intrigued by the escape routes, Berger demands that the captive blacksmith immediately guide him to the secret tunnels. Roger Friedrich desperately weeps over his bad luck as a system message reveals his primary trait is weakness. To counter the dwarf's reluctance, Berger deviously suggests kidnapping the princess instead and releasing Roger. Cartoonish trembling dwarf demands to know what kind of devious plot the Demon King is planning. Berger psychologically tortures Roger by detailing how a rumor of selling out the princess would ruin him. Roger Friedrich screams in absolute horror, completely devastated by the threat of losing his hard-earned reputation. Roger panics that his reputation for weakness makes the rumor highly believable, guaranteeing a lifetime of torture. Berger presents a cold ultimatum, forcing Roger to choose between betraying his princess or cooperating. Leaning close, Berger promises to guarantee the dwarf's safety, swearing it on the Demon King's standard. Roger realizes that a vow sworn on the standard is an absolute, unbreakable religious oath for demons. Squeezing his eyes shut in intense desperation, the cornered hero finally makes his fateful decision. Roger suddenly looks up with a sparkling, adoring face, leaving the disgusted Burjay completely speechless. The scene transitions to heavily armed dwarven guards standing in formation outside the massive cavern tower. Pink-haired dwarven woman looks on with tear-filled, hopeful eyes, whispering Roger's name. Princess Louise Verft of the Dwarven Kingdom gasps in alarm as guards report Roger's sudden abduction. Princess Louise fiercely screams at her guard to remember that Roger is a celebrated hero. The sweating, nervous guard points out that Roger's primary role as a blacksmith limits his combat power. Ignoring the excuses, the furious princess demands her guards immediately hunt down the kidnapper. The princess issues a fiery, terrifying warning to her troops if they fail to retrieve Roger. Burjay glares in absolute disgust as he is forced to crawl directly behind Roger's stout backside. Burjay angrily threatens Roger with dark magic, ordering the panicking dwarf to crawl much faster. Roger leads Burjay out of the narrow tunnel, revealing a sprawling, magnificent underground castle. Having guided the Demon King through the passage, Roger Frederick attempts to quickly make his exit. Burjay blocks his path with dark magic, prompting Roger to desperately protest his broken vow. Roger cries in absolute despair as the grinning Demon King casually dismisses his sacred oath as complete trash. Roger deeply regrets his decision as the smiling Demon King prepares to unleash his dark magic. Desperate to survive, Roger grovels pathetically and offers his unmatched metallurgy skills to the Demon King. Roger eagerly offers to steal dwarven information and spy for the Demon King just to stay alive. Burjay expresses surprise at the dwarf's immense loyalty and agrees to grant him mercy. Roger grovels pathetically at Burjay's feet, profusely thanking the Demon King and wishing him long life. Roger secretly plots his escape, planning to organize a pursuit squad the moment he is released. As Roger mentally vows revenge against the Demon King, a voice suddenly interrupts him to apologize. Roger is completely stunned as the dreary atmosphere suddenly shifts to a bright, peaceful meadow. Roger looks bewildered in the meadow while Gordon frantically points at him and rants to Burjay. Gordon panics over Burjay bringing a dwarven hero to their sanctuary, but Burjay calmly orders silence. With Roger knocked out, Burjay dismisses an incoming call from Granada on a magical hologram screen. Hernan excitedly asks the silent, sweating dwarf if he is the hero who came to save her. Roger questions why he was kidnapped, but Burjay explains that his promise of mercy only meant sparing his life. Burjay explains he knocked the dwarf unconscious to prevent any trouble during their journey back. Roger forces a highly strained, hysterical laugh as he realizes he has been completely outmaneuvered. A wave of absolute horror and despair washes over the trapped dwarven blacksmith. The dwarven blacksmith stands frozen in the peaceful meadow, completely processing his hopeless situation. Burjay mockingly asks if the dwarf is happy to finally become his subordinate. Crying tears of pure agony, Roger desperately lies that he is extremely happy to serve. Burjay praises Roger's attitude and immediately prepares to assign him his first crucial mission. Burjay commands the dwarf to install massive artillery on the first floor to obliterate the heroes. The scene shifts to the massive, elegant mansion serving as the hero's journey preparation station. Granada reports that rumors of the Demon King's black flames have prompted heroes to equip fire-resistant gear. Granada notes that heroes believe the Demon King is too afraid to deploy beasts, maintaining their confidence. Burjay explains that by denying them battles, the heroes will lose interest and fail to grow. Burjay orders Granada to keep monitoring the heroes, calling it a strategic battle against time. Granada marvels at Burjay's brilliant psychological strategy to weaken the heroes without directly fighting them. Granada wonders if there has ever been such a calculated and unconventional Demon King before. As he enters the bustling prep station, Granada walks among the unsuspecting heroes. Granada quietly reflects on how relieved he is that the Demon King is not his enemy. Back in the fortress, Burjay delivers a crucial restriction to his newly acquired dwarven blacksmith. Burjay gives the dwarf complete freedom over the remodel, provided he abides by the restriction. Roger protests that traps without mana stones will fail, but Burjay leaves the problem to him. Burjay explains that heroes easily sense mana-powered traps, making standard weapons useless against them. Burj threatens Roger with dark magic, prompting the terrified dwarf to immediately find a solution. Roger frantically explains that he has a special weapon in his workshop that hides mana traces. Burjay menacingly accuses him of trying to escape, but Roger desperately insists he is serious. Burjay agrees to trust him, but clamps a mysterious magical collar around the dwarf's neck. Burjay cheerfully explains that the device can instantly decapitate him with a single hand gesture. Burjay presents a magical mask to hide his face, warning that removing it means death. Burj travels across several kingdoms to secretly gather supplies and rare mana-type materials. After a month of gathering resources, Burjay stores everything inside his secure subspace pocket. With all materials secured, Burjay and his masked dwarven prisoner return to subterranean Wolfner. A door is violently smashed open as fury erupts within the dwarven royal chambers. Princess Louise fiercely screams at her guards for failing to find Roger after 6 weeks. A nervous guard explains that Roger's countless tunnels make the investigation incredibly slow and difficult. Princess furiously shouts that the kidnapper would obviously have fled the city by now. Princess Louise gives her terrified captain a strict 2-week ultimatum to retrieve the kidnapped hero. The princess commands her troops to seal every single tunnel dug by the local blacksmiths. Princess Louise stands alone, her massive muscular back highlighting her immense physical power and anger. Princess Louise gazes at the massive black sword Roger was crafting for her before disappearing. She desperately prays for Roger's safety, hoping the master blacksmith is still alive. Her concern shifts to selfish rage, declaring Roger cannot die until he finishes her weapon. A soft creak sounds as the masked dwarven blacksmith cautiously opens a hidden floor hatch. Princess Louise turns her head in surprise, noticing a sudden noise in her chambers. A holographic system window indicates that the dwarf's face recognition interfering mask is currently active. Princess Louise stares with wide, startled eyes as she processes the unexpected intruder. The pink-haired princess silently deduces that only her missing blacksmith would know about this secret entrance. The imposing dwarven princess looms over the trembling masked blacksmith as he crawls out. The masked dwarf nervously stammers her title, sweating profusely while hoping his mask conceals his identity. Laughing dryly, the princess cracks her golden knuckles as she easily recognizes the blacksmith's voice. Princess Louise furiously celebrates the unexpected return of her missing blacksmith. Louise terrifyingly demands to know if he ran away simply to avoid making her weapon. The cowardly blacksmith frantically sheds tears, desperately claiming that there has been a massive misunderstanding. Rejecting his excuses, the princess steps forward with a glowing golden gauntlet and declares him her slave. The furious princess sentences the trembling blacksmith to forge weapons for her for the rest of his life. The princess charges up a devastating strike to punish him, while the dwarf pathetically begs for mercy. A sudden barrier of dark purple magic erupts, blocking the princess's golden fist strike in midair. Sliding back from the impact, Princess Louise fiercely demands to know the identity of her opponent. A black-booted foot lands firmly on the stone floor, signaling the arrival of a powerful warrior. Burge commands the door to quickly gather his equipment while Logger scrambles away to comply. Princess Louise demands to know why Berger is helping the dwarf, and Berger calmly identifies himself as the blacksmith's master. Denying his claim, the furious princess leaps into the air and asserts the blacksmith belongs to her forever. The enraged princess screams in absolute fury, demanding to know who Berger is to take him away. Their elemental magic clashes violently as Berger blocks the princess's rapid, yellow-glowing physical strikes. Berger maintains intense focus, closely analyzing his opponent's immense strength and speed during the clash. Berger unleashes a strong counterattack of dark magic to push the aggressive princess back. Louise is caught off guard by his defense, while Berger maintains a calm, focused gaze. The princess unleashes a powerful shockwave of golden energy to blast the Demon King away. Berge effortlessly deflects the strike with dark magic, keeping her at bay to buy time. A massive barrage of magical energy explosions rings out as their opposing powers continuously collide. Louise relentlessly presses her close-quarters assault, trying to break through Berge's dark defenses. Narration boxes identify Louise Werft as the exceptionally strong second princess of the Dwarven Kingdom. Berge recalls that before his regression, the princess was one of the absolute strongest warriors. Berge realizes he could kill her now, but it would completely drain his currently limited demonic energy. Berge worries that overextending might lead to his capture, especially since she has recognized his dark power. Logger frantically uses wrenches to dismantle the giant machine, sweating in sheer panic. Berge demands to know if he has secured the machine, while the struggling dwarf admits he is still working on it. The massive gear-filled device is revealed to be Mana's Phantom, a giant machine created by Logger to hide mana traces. Berge fiercely threatens the dwarf with death if he does not finish immediately, causing Logger to panic further. Louise charges back in as Berge internally resolves to abandon the dwarf if the situation turns critical. Desperately weeping, Logger promises to quickly finish wrapping up the dismantling process. Berge worries about his endurance, knowing his suppressed demonic energy will not sustain a long battle. A colossal shockwave erupts as Princess Louise's golden fist clashes heavily against Berge's purple shield. The furious princess vows to kill the intruder and permanently break Logger's legs to prevent another escape. Smiling mockingly through the pressure, Berge retorts that her brutal threats make her sound exactly like a demon king. Berge confidently demands the second princess surrender, declaring he is taking both the blacksmith and the equipment. White steam shoots violently from the pipes as the massive dwarven machinery finally detaches. Logger triumphantly screams that he has successfully dismantled the device as Berge prepares to claim it. Realizing their true objective, the enraged princess screams at Logger, refusing to let them steal her machine. Spotting a brief opening in the princess's reckless, anger-fueled assault, Berge prepares to strike. Berge delivers a powerful, well-aimed kick directly to the princess's chest, shattering her guard. A massive explosion of dust and debris erupts as the princess is slammed hard against the stone floor. Berger swiftly uses his subspace pocket magic, ordering the dwarven blacksmith to get out of the way. Princess Louise strikes down with immense fury, screaming that his magic attack is completely useless. Looking at the broken floor, Princess Louise gasps in shock as she realizes her machine has disappeared. Princess Louise furiously berates her dwarven guards for arriving far too late to assist her. She commands her troops to pursue the runaway blacksmith through the underground tunnel. A massive, fiery explosion violently collapses the tunnel pathway to block the guards' pursuit. Feeling deeply disappointed, Princess Louise wonders if the blacksmith blocked the tunnel just to avoid her. Her expression twists into a terrifying grin as she finds the blacksmith's defiance highly intriguing. Louise crazily vows to scour the continent and make the blacksmith regret his daring escape. The pink-haired princess screams the blacksmith's name, her eyes wide with terrifying obsession. Heavy metal chains clank loudly as they are securely wrapped around the massive gears. The massive machine is reinstalled in the center of the fortress's grand first floor. Berger explains to his odd subordinates that the massive machine is necessary to stop the heroes. Lorger announces that the installation is complete, prompting Berger to order its immediate activation. Berger threatens the nervous dwarf to make sure the machine is actually worth their trouble. A glowing blue swirl of magical energy activates inside the core of the massive machine. A blinding pillar of bright blue light shoots upward, forcing the subordinates to shield their eyes. A system notification appears, requesting 10,000 points to synchronize the device with the fortress. Berger ponders in surprise, realizing the fortress possessed an undocumented synchronization capability. Berger consumes his remaining points to confirm and initiate the synchronization process himself. System alerts confirm that Berger is recognized as the master, converting the power source to demonic energy. Loader frantically explains his own shock at the unprecedented merger, leaving Berger mildly bewildered. Berger instructs the blonde princess to cast any spell she wants to test the defense field. Princess Elenia joyfully conjures chaotic elemental magic, much to the despair of the butler. As Granada screams for her to stop, Berger steps outside to check if the magic leaks. Stepping out into the snow, Berger expects such heavy magic to easily leak to the exterior. However, as he turns back toward the fortress entrance, he is met with an unbelievable sight. Berger stands shocked, realizing he cannot perceive the tower's interior or feel any presence inside. Berger unleashes a burst of dark purple magic to physically test the boundaries of the hidden structure. A faint distortion ripples in the snowy air, confirming the physical tower remains securely in place. The Demon King watches in wonder as his magic confirms the cloaking barrier's success. The realization of this defense's full potential finally dawns on Berger. The system confirms that the massive fortress has vanished entirely from sight. The snow-covered mountain landscape appears completely empty, leaving no trace of the formidable stronghold. The Demon King manipulates his dark energy, testing his control over the cloaking field. With a single wave of his hand, Berger commands the massive tower to materialize once more. Berger notes he can hide the tower at will, though it consumes immense demonic energy points. Smiling confidently, Berger determines that while costly, this feature will be an invaluable future asset. The eccentric blacksmith desperately begs Berger to let him examine and dismantle the historic discovery. As Lager frantically pleads, Berger compares his intense obsession to that of a battle-hungry demon. Berger promises to grant the dwarf's desires if his traps successfully wipe out the heroes. While Lager celebrates, Berger proposes that Princess Elenia defend the fortress's 4th floor. When Elenia hesitates, Berger reminds her of her formidable skills as a genius spiritist. Berger briefly worries of asking the sheltered princess to betray her kind as too unreasonable. However, Elenia instantly dismisses his doubts by excitedly debating which element she should use. Berger reassures her that she only needs to fluster the heroes, promising her a reward. Elenia agrees, demanding only to be introduced as a subordinate rather than a princess. Amused by her simple request, Berger readily agrees to her terms as she celebrates joyfully. Berger quickly shuts down Elenia's absurd suggestion to seduce the heroes, keeping her focused. Satisfied with his strategic preparations, Berger monitors his domain alongside his loyal butler. Berger examines his layout on the holographic screens, noting that his defensive preparations are nearly complete. The overwhelming numbers of the approaching hero expedition loom heavily on Berger's mind. Berger examines a contaminated spirit blossom, determining he must harvest more to gain sufficient power. The dark fortress stands silently amidst the freezing wind-swept peaks of the mountains. Wandering through the deep snow, the white-haired princess sighs over their lack of finding any spirit blossoms. Berger grumpily criticizes the elemental spirits while the princess remains completely perplexed by their search. A heavy, menacing crunch echoes in the snow as a massive creature suddenly approaches them. A towering peel orc with braided white hair stares intently down at the intruders. Exasperated by yet another encounter, Berger prepares a sphere of destructive red magic to attack. A sudden, heavy thud sounds as the giant creature drops to one knee. The massive chieftain Krutu bows deeply and begs the startled Demon King to accept his tribe. Scores of Pel orcs kneel across the snowfield, pleading to serve under his dark banner. Berger stares in mild surprise, questioning why the proud tribe would seek his alliance. Krutu confesses his ancestors' betrayal of the demon realm, seeking redemption by serving Burja. Burja immediately dismisses the flattery, pointing out their true desire to gain power through him. Acknowledging his sharp insight, Krutu immediately commands his subordinate to bring forward a chest. A brilliant, colorful light bursts forth as a treasure chest is opened, revealing 3 rare spirit blossoms. Realizing why their search failed, Burja commends the chieftain's exceptional intelligence and preparedness. Krutu explains that enduring the harsh northern climate forced his tribe to prioritize intellect over strength. Burja hands the prized chest to the princess while questioning the chieftain's pursuit of power. The chieftain silently bows his head, accepting the truth of the Demon King's words. A confident smirk plays on Burja's lips as he finds their philosophy highly intriguing. Pleased with their cleverness, Burja unleashes a magic circle to accept their formal allegiance. A roaring torrent of dark power engulfs Krutu as Burja begins the singular transformation process. A glowing red dragon crest burns into his skin as Burja commands him to expand his tribe. The terrifyingly enhanced Krutu stands complete, officially recognized by the system as the Demon King's kin. Standing tall before his new master, Krutu passionately pledges his absolute loyalty to Burja. The entire Peel Orc Legion echoes their chieftain's roar, bowing in absolute submission. High in the frozen mountains, Burja's imposing dark tower stands prepared to unleash its full force. Outside the fortress, the heavily armed Pell Orc Legion stands guard amidst the freezing blizzard. Inside the first floor, Logger stands proudly surrounded by 60 massive ready-to-fire mana cannons. On the 4th floor, the masked princess poses dramatically alongside her elemental spirits. Watching his subordinates on holographic monitors, Burja smiles as all his strategic pieces align. With cold, resolute eyes, Burja challenges the approaching heroes, promising absolute vengeance. Hillen smiles broadly as he and Granada lead their forces to the edge of the mountains. The towering, snow-covered peaks of their final destination finally rise into view. The massive expedition force marches resolutely through the snow, closing in on the fortress. Scene shifts to the magnificent preparation base, brightly illuminated against the night sky. Inside the lavish hall, a lively feast is held for the brave warriors of the expedition. Hillen graciously thanks the host for the grand feast, who considers it an honor to aid them. The old lord urges a startled Hillen to address the eagerly waiting crowd of soldiers. The energetic lord loudly announces that their champion is about to give a speech. Excited knights turn their attention forward, eager to hear their champion's inspiring words. Hillen gathers his composure, preparing to deliver a speech to rally his soldiers. Hillen stands before the vast assembly, declaring that their long campaign is nearing its end. While others laugh confidently, Hillen warns them to remain vigilant despite the lack of resistance. Raising a glass, he reminds the crowd of their mission to rescue the kidnapped princess. Hillen passionately roars that they will prove to the world who its true masters are. Toasting to absolute justice, Hillen initiates a loud cheer that sweeps across the hall. Granada quietly observes the celebration, noting the expedition's size has remained exactly as predicted. Granada praises Hillen's extraordinary charisma for successfully securing guild funding and keeping the mercenaries organized. Remembering the empty fortress, Granada secretly wonders if he should betray the heroes right now. Granada immediately panics, reminding himself that a successful subjugation will finally lift his curse. Deciding to calm down, Granada resolves to send a quick report while getting fresh air. Under the bright full moon, Granada Magic transmits a report about their arrival to his black-haired master. The black-haired man on the glowing screen warns Granada to beware of the mountain's harsh snow. Granada is left completely confused when the communication abruptly dings and cuts off after a strange warning. Hillen suddenly surprises Granada, prompting the startled elf to claim he is just enjoying the cold air. Hillen politely offers Granada a glass of fruit wine, noting it is a favorite of Els. When asked if anything is wrong, Granada nervously asks Hillen if the subjugation will actually succeed. Staring at his reflection in the wine glass, Hillen admits he does not know either. Looking out over the balcony, Hillen warns that raiding a Demon King's tower is always hell. Granada is surprised, reminding Hillen that he previously defeated the formidable Demon King of Lust. Granada asks Hillen to share the untold heroic tale of how he defeated that Demon King. Hillen remains dead silent, his face cast in an ominous shadow as he holds his glass. Laughing it off, Hillen claims his victory was only possible thanks to brave comrades like Granada. Hillen asks Granada to cover his flank during the battle, promising they will be victorious. Granada smiles warmly and readily promises to support his leader on the battlefield. With their alliance strengthened, Hillen cordially guides Granada back into the warm hall. Walking slightly behind, Hillen glances back at Granada with a chillingly dark and calculating gaze. Inwardly, Hillen thinks about exploiting Granada, mockingly referring to him as elf in his thoughts. The next morning, the grand preparation base stands fully active under the rising sun. The townspeople cheer passionately as the grand hero expedition marches out of the fortress gates. The formidable expedition force marches resolutely into the narrow, snow-covered canyon of Vergis Mountain. Encouraged by the sunny weather, the marching soldiers confidently predict an easy reach to the tower. The mercenaries laugh arrogantly, boasting that the local monsters must have fled out of fear. A thick, glowing blob of purple slime suddenly splats onto a soldier's head from above. Confused and disgusted, the soldier touches the strange, glowing fluid dripping down his forehead. Panic screams erupt as giant skeletal ghouls suddenly swarm down the canyon walls. Drawing his glowing sword, Hillen commands his troops to prepare for combat and protect one another. As skeletal beasts swarm the gorge, Hillen urges the knights to cover the spellcasters. A terrified soldier warns that a frost giant has appeared, prompting Hillen to order a retreat. A colossal skeletal frost giant with glowing red eyes blocks their path through the canyon. Hillen orders Lord Wharton to lead the escape while he prepares to face the giant alone. A massive surge of blue magic erupts as Hillen leaps into the freezing air. Hillen fearlessly launches himself at the towering colossus with a sword drawn. Towering giant glares menacingly at the incoming hero, its red eyes glowing fiercely. Smiling confidently, Hillen asserts that the giant cannot compare to the Demon King of Lust. Hillen dives headfirst through the snow, closing in on the skeletal giant. With a powerful cry, Hillen delivers a massive downward slash against his foe. A massive explosion of ice ripples through the canyon as their strikes clash. Pressing his attack, Hillen aggressively slashes through the giant's icy skeletal arms. Electric blue lightning surges around Hillen's sword as he prepares a devastating blow. With sharp determination, Hillen spots an opening and prepares to strike the decisive blow. Hillen unleashes a massive cross-shaped burst of lightning that cleaves the giant. Screaming desperately, Hillen commands his retreating army to run and escape the collapsing canyon. A powerful explosion blocks the canyon path, keeping the swarming monsters away from the fleeing troops. The shattered skull of the giant smolders in the smoke as the path is blocked. A massive cloud of snow and debris seals the canyon, successfully halting the enemy pursuit. Farther away, the exhausted soldiers collapse into the deep snow, panting heavily from their escape. The exhausted expedition soldiers rest in the deep snow, whispering in awe of Hillen's heroic intervention. Watching Hillen closely from afar, the soldiers debate whether his legendary power exceeds even that of a demon king. Listening to their praise, Granada quietly watches his leader, feeling a growing sense of relief and hope. Granada fully convinces himself that Hillen possesses the true strength required to successfully subjugate the new Demon King. High above on a snowy ridge, the heavily armed Pell Orc Legion stands prepared to ambush the unsuspecting expedition. Realizing the enemy is nearby, Hillen alerts his weary companions to the lingering demonic energy of the orcs. Standing tall, the fearsome chieftain Krutu sneers as he mockingly welcomes the invaders to his frozen territory. While Hillen prepares to charge, Granada suddenly stops him, alarmed by a deeply unsettling, low rumbling sound. Burge's final cryptic warning about the mountain's harsh elements flashes in Granada's mind. Granada's eyes widen in sheer terror as he finally understands the true horrific meaning behind his master's warning. Krutu screams a menacing promise that none of the intruders will survive. Burge's cold, triumphant smile looms over the scene as the trap is sprung. A massive tremor ripples through the peaks, signaling the sudden, violent onset of a catastrophic disaster. Granada shrieks in utter panic, feeling completely helpless against the overwhelming force of nature. Granada curses the Demon King's sheer insanity as a colossal, devastating avalanche sweeps down to crush the scattered human forces. Staring directly at the oncoming wall of snow, Granada shrieks as the freezing wave crashes down. Inside his quiet fortress, Burge sits comfortably on his throne, amused by the frantic screams echoing from his screens. With a chilling, dark smirk, Burge welcomes the struggling invaders to his playground. Glaring intensely, Burge vows to ruthlessly hunt down every single hero who dared step foot on his domain. Resting his chin on his hand, Burge reflects on the 3 specific warnings he delivered to his elven spy. He recalls the first warning, which predicted the devastating power of the mountain's heavy snowfall. Surviving soldiers slowly pull themselves from the snowdrifts, realizing a massive portion of their forces has vanished. Refusing to abandon his men, Hillen orders the remaining troops to set up camp and search for survivors. Burge's second warning echoes as Krutu quietly guides a massive horde of monsters through the darkness. Chaos erupts in the dead of night as towering skeletal beasts suddenly descend upon the vulnerable camp. Preparing his defensive magic, Granada curses the Demon King for orchestrating such a relentless poodle onslaught. Burge smugly explains the endless cycle of daytime avalanches and nighttime raids designed to break the hero's spirits. Panting heavily, a manic smile slowly creeps onto Hillen's weary, dirt-smudged face. After 3 agonizing days of constant attrition, a devastated Hillen looks back at his severely depleted army. He wonders in growing frustration why they still have not caught sight of the dark fortress. Completely unraveling, Hillen screams at the sky, furious that the tower is nowhere to be found. The extreme stress finally fractures the expedition, causing the remaining forces to split up in despair. Despondent and broken, Wharton approaches Hillen to deliver the devastating news of their desertion. Hillen stares blankly, unable to comprehend that his most trusted allies are abandoning the campaign. Wharton turns away, prioritizing the survival of his men over a clearly doomed heroic quest. Gritting his teeth in silent fury, Hillen clicks his tongue as his grand expedition collapses around him. Suddenly, a shout echoes across the peaks as the elusive dark fortress is spotted at last. Perched on the basin's rim, the mere 52 survivors stare down at the hidden fortress. Regaining their confidence, the surviving soldiers throw open the heavy gates, expecting an easy victory. Burgess' third and final warning rings out, advising the elven spy to stay clear of the entrance. Dozens of massive glowing mana cannons fully charge in unison, aiming directly at the doorway. Hylin's confident expression instantly dissolves into sheer, paralyzing horror as he stares down the glowing barrels. An incredibly powerful torrent of blue energy erupts from the gateway, obliterating everything in its path. The true destructive force of the dwarf's specialized artillery is unleashed upon the helpless soldiers. Watching the devastating aftermath, Burge is slightly amused to see that even this did not finish them. Standing alone amidst smoking debris, Hylin pants heavily, his mind reeling from the absolute devastation. Shaking with unbridled rage, Hylin screams at the unfairness of this unconventional, calculated nightmare. Granada runs toward his leader, claiming he only survived the blast by a hair's breadth. Hylin immediately urges Granada to push onward to the next floor despite being immediately isolated. Igniting his legendary blade, Hylin boasts that the new Demon King is nothing compared to his absolute power. Granada agrees to accompany Hylin after the hero confidently reassures him they are more than enough. A system notification declares the tower's second floor entirely empty as the two survivors walk inside. Finding the lower floors deserted, Hylin senses a trap and suspects something is deeply wrong. Upon reaching the fourth floor, they are stunned to find a beautiful blooming forest basin. Butterflies fly across a bright blue sky that is secretly covered by a magical grid. Confused by the tranquil scenery, Hylin loudly questions what kind of place they have entered. Hylin doubts they are in a demon fortress, while Granada silently curses their bizarre situation. A mysterious figure steps forward as a voice mockingly welcomes the heroes to the floor. A masked girl flanked by elemental spirits introduces herself as one of the four heavenly kings. Flashing a mischievous fanged grin, the masked girl confidently declares herself as their opponent. Staring at the bizarre enemy, Granada nervously questions what kind of monster they are facing. Shocked to recognize Princess Hernan, Hylin demands answers while Granada quietly slips away to escape. The flustered princess angrily rejects her royal title, asserting she is the Dark Spiritist. The dramatic command, Arnon conjures a massive swirling vortex of water, fire, and stone. Stunned by the high-ranking magic, Hylin realizes she cannot be acting under simple mind control. Hylin recalls the relentless trials of orcs, avalanches, and nighttime ambushes they narrowly survived. He grows increasingly frustrated by the rule-breaking obstacles culminating in a crazy attacking princess. Pushed past his absolute limit by the absurdity, Hylin breaks into a crazed, exhausted laugh. Snapping in pure rage, Hylin vows to destroy everything since the princess is attacking her savior. Enveloped in sinister dark magic, the Demon King mockingly asks if Hylin can actually succeed. A massive blast of dark purple magic erupts, tearing through the lush forest landscape. Stepping calmly through the smoke, the Horned Demon King smugly addresses Hylin by his full name. Readying his sword, Hylin curses the cowardly Demon King while desperately seeking a way to win. Spotting Granada nearby, Hylin prepares to exploit his elven companion's power for the battle. Scurrying over to Granada, Hylin swiftly grabs him to initiate a secret magical extraction. Hylin demands they combine their power, leaving Granada completely confused by his sudden physical grasp. Granada screams in agonizing shock as his life force is violently drained from his body. Hylin stands triumphantly over the collapsed elf, gloating that having Granada nearby makes him unstoppable. The Demon King watches with cold interest, immediately recognizing the forbidden artifact Hylin is utilizing. Glowing with stolen energy, Hylin explains his forbidden ring converts an elf's infinite vitality into mana. Hylin casually dismisses Granada's impending death as a necessary sacrifice for the ultimate greater good. Barely conscious on the grass, Granada weakly curses his betrayer as a hypocritical swindler. The Demon King laughs mockingly, expressing his genuine amusement at Hylin's vile and hypocritical nature. He smugly questions if removing the magical ring will render the hero weak once again. Hylin arrogantly boasts that even the Demon King of Lust failed to remove his ring. An ominous voice suddenly echoes, invoking the name of a hidden ally named Gordon. Before Hylin can finish laughing, his ring-bearing hand is suddenly severed in a clean, bloody slash. Mid-boast, the brown-haired hero stops in complete bewilderment as blood spurts from his stump. Hylin screams in agonizing terror, unable to comprehend how an enemy bypassed his senses so easily. A long-haired dark elf with glasses calmly steps behind Hylin, calling him rude and noisy. With blinding speed, the dark elf butler swings his sword to deliver a follow-up slash. The powerful strike sends a bloody Hylin flying backward across the grassy forest floor. Crashing onto the grass, Hylin is horrified that a mere high-ranking demon easily defeated him. A black-gloved hand suddenly reaches down and grips Hylin's shoulder armor with terrifying strength. The grinning Demon King looms over the hero, warning him that he is not going anywhere. Terrified by the crushing pressure, Hylin desperately realizes he must dodge the incoming attack. A colossal, terrifying purple dragon construct of pure dark mana manifests, overshadowing the tiny hero. Oppressive darkness and purple energy completely wash over the field as the attack commences. The Demon King pins the helpless hero down, unleashing a devastating close-range blast of purple mana. Glowing with red eyes, the triumphant Demon King mercilessly smashes Hillen into the ground. The Demon King mockingly declares it is time for Hillen Cargill to face his defeat, leaving the exhausted hero trembling in sheer terror. A devastating strike of purple energy slices downward with colossal force. A magical ring of energy descends rapidly, sealing the decisive blow. Amidst rising smoke, the Demon King stands victoriously over the motionless defeated hero. The Demon King exhales a heavy sigh as he gazes down at his fallen opponent. The Demon King calmly praises his opponent's resilience, while Hillen groans in agonizing pain beneath him. The Demon King notes with mild surprise that the battered hero is still breathing. The Demon King orders Hillen's imprisonment, while the Masked Princess directs her allies to lock up the remaining invaders who collapsed outside. Believing his end has arrived, the severely drained green-haired elf weakly whispers about seeing the afterlife. The Demon King offers a radiant crimson flower of spiritual energy to restore the dying elf's failing life force. The elf blinks in sheer astonishment as the potent magic begins to course through his body. Surprised by his sudden surge of energy, the rejuvenated elf realizes his strength has been completely restored. The bewildered elf wonders why the Demon King would use such a rare item to save him, while watching him casually distribute more blossoms to his allies. Demon King congratulates the dwarven engineer, granting him enthusiastic permission to dismantle the tower's components. The Demon King issues his final orders, instructing everyone to return to their designated floors and begin restoration efforts. Observing his confident departure, the survivors marvel at how unaffected the Demon King appears after such an intense duel. The Masked Princess trails off thoughtfully, prompting the elf to ask what is troubling her. While the princess voices her suspicion about his exhaustion, the Demon King's hand trembles as he quietly struggles to stay upright. Once completely alone, the exhausted Demon King collapses onto the floor in relief, breathless from the narrow victory. He reminds himself that a ruler must never display vulnerability in front of his subjects. Panting heavily, the Demon King curses Hillen Cargill, finally respecting the true terrifying power of the continent's legendary warriors. A stellar constellation depicts the 10 stars revered as the 10 most powerful champions across the land. The narration reveals that despite his legendary status, Hillen Cargill is actually considered one of the weakest members of the 10 stars. The Demon King admits to himself that without his strategic advantages and Hillen's weakened state, he would have easily been defeated. He recalls how his carefully designed traps on the mountain journey successfully drained the hero's physical strength. He remembers how the constant psychological pressure successfully broke the hero's composure, causing him to lose his temper. The continuous onslaught of rule-breaking events threw the legendary warrior into a state of absolute confusion. Overwhelmed by anxiety and physical fatigue, the hero's tactical awareness drastically deteriorated during their final confrontation. In his blind fury, Hillen exposed a critical vulnerability, leaving him completely defenseless against a counterattack. Seizing the perfect opportunity, the Demon King unleashed his ultimate offensive. The Demon King's concentrated magical assault successfully connected, sealing his victory over the legendary champion. Overjoyed by the unprecedented outcome, the Demon King celebrates achieving a flawless victory that defied his past fate. Sitting up with renewed resolve, he triumphs in his newfound ability to reshape the course of destiny. His gaze hardens with determination as he confidently vows to reshape his destiny and conquer the challenges ahead. Driven by a deep-seated grudge, he smiles sinisterly at the thought of finally enacting his long-awaited vengeance. He maliciously resolves to unleash his wrath upon all the self-righteous heroes of the continent. The scene shifts to the outside world, where rumors spread about the heroes abandoning their mission due to the elusive tower. Outraged members of the public and financial backers demand immediate accountability for the expedition's spectacular failure. Wharton desperately begs for more time, falsely claiming that Hillen and his champions are still pursuing the Dark Tower. Shocking news of the legendary expedition's struggle ripples rapidly across the entire continent. The furious king vows to execute Hillen if he fails, while his daughter desperately demands the immediate rescue of her sister. As exaggerated rumors of Hillen's death circulate, a profound sense of despair washes over the populace. Fueled by the continent's widespread despair, a system notification reveals that Barrage's demonic energy has skyrocketed to nearly 300,000 points. Wharton stands before the continent's High Council, facing intense interrogation regarding the truth of his claims. Wharton firmly defends his statement, swearing on his honor that he has spoken nothing but the truth. Acknowledging the gravity of the situation, the council leaders advise extreme caution due to the mysterious nature of their new enemy. They reason that as a member of the 10 stars, Hillen Cargill could not have been defeated so easily. The council resolves to launch a massive, full-scale invasion of nearly 5,000 heroes if Hillen does not return within 10 days. Meanwhile, deep within the tower's gloomy underground prison, the Demon King silently patrols the rows of iron-barred cells. The Demon King stands before Hillen's cell, commenting on the chained hero's remarkably swift recovery as he wakes. Chained inside the dungeon, Hillen Cargill angrily demands that the Demon King stop beating around the bush and state his business. The Demon King smiles smugly and unexpectedly proposes that the legendary hero become his loyal vassal. Completely dumbfounded by the bizarre proposition, the sweating hero wonders if he misheard the Demon Lord's words. The Demon King begins listing the staggering material and financial costs required to fund Hillen's massive military expedition.
Standing outside the cell, the Demon King explains that failed heroes are inevitably crushed under the weight of their backers' massive debts.
With a menacing smile, the Demon King reveals that all of these financial liabilities were concentrated on a single individual. A wave of absolute panic washes over Hillen as the Demon King points out that he alone holds his ruinous debt. Realizing he will spend his life as a heavily indebted fugitive, Hillen desperately asks how his captor learned of the secret liability. Green-haired elf Granada steps forward from the shadows, calmly revealing himself as the informant who leaked the truth. An enraged Hillen accuses Granada of betrayal, but the elf furiously retorts that he has been working with the dark forces from the start. The Demon King explains that while his rule-breaking tactics easily defeated them, humans will eventually adapt to conquer the Dark Towers. To prevent future human success, the Demon King presents a dark purple magical artifact known as Larmani's Orb. An ominous graphic illustrates how the magic tool binds directly to the host's brain to ensure absolute loyalty through threat of instant death. The Demon King issues a chilling warning that any biological rejection of the monitoring orb will result in Hillen's immediate execution. Panicking, Hillen desperately argues that a hero of his immense strength might accidentally neutralize the mind control magic. Granada smugly points out that a hero can easily bypass their own mental defenses, prompting Hillen to scream in absolute frustration. Refusing to feel guilty, the furious elf yells back that Hillen is the one who should feel deep shame. Before Hillen can finish his desperate protests, a black-gloved hand forcefully grips his jaw to silence him. The terrifying Demon King commands the hero to shut up and swallow as he forcefully pushes the glowing orb down his throat. A close-up captures Hillen's agonizing struggle as the parasitic magic tool successfully enters his body. Standing over the collapsed hero, Granada wonders what they would have done if Hillen chose death, but the Demon King remains completely unconcerned. Demon King notes that a selfish, greedy human who treats his allies like disposable tools would never choose self-sacrifice over survival. Left with no other choice, the defeated hero submits to the painful integration, officially registering as the Demon King's vassal. Back in the throne room, the dark elf butler Gordon points out that Hillen's massive gold debt will severely restrict his usefulness in human territory. Pointing to their meager gold treasury, Gordon asks how the Demon King plans to accumulate the vast sum needed to clear their new vassal's debt. The Demon King responds with a confident, mysterious grin that leaves his loyal butler completely bewildered. The Demon King explains his plan to exploit the annual gathering of dark rulers, known as the Unison of Towers. He notes that his long-surviving beers must have amassed immense treasures, making them the perfect targets for his next scheme. Though initially shocked by the brazen plan, Gordon quickly realizes that standard demonic methods would never have succeeded against their enemies. Observing a newly arrived magical invitation, Gordon finally accepts his master's brilliant rule-breaking approach to leadership. The Demon King flashes a highly sinister, fanged grin as he prepares to execute his most ambitious scheme yet. Exuding pure confidence, the Demon King leads Gordon away, boldly declaring his plan to swindle his senior demon colleagues. The scene shifts to the Grand Dark Tower standing majestic and isolated in the middle of a tranquil sunlit lake. Formal system notification confirms their arrival on the 13th floor inside the Grand Demon King's chamber. Clad in a dark fur cloak, the horn-crested Demon King enters the Grand Assembly, noting that the other rulers have arrived early. Introducing himself as Burj Deus, the draconic Demon King of Flames smoothly questions if his peers were plotting behind his back. Draxon Doldorf, the ferocious werewolf Demon King of Beasts, growls Burj's name with deep-seated hostility. Raina Soldanane, the elegant Frost Demon King of Winters, notes that Burj has quickly become the talk of the entire realm. Ugar Belvec, the towering Titan Demon King of Indestructibility, mocks the newcomer for insulting traditional demonic protocols. Jason Kochman, the theatrical Demon King of Lies, laughs heartily as he extends an overly enthusiastic welcome to the young lord. Burji mockingly questions if the veteran Dark Rulers feel no shame in forming a defensive alliance against the human threat. Enraged by the blatant insult, the massive Titan Demon charges forward to crush the arrogant newcomer. As Ugar threatens to grant him a swift death, Burj confidently releases a surge of purple energy and dares him to try. Before their clash can destroy the chamber, a pair of pristine white-gloved hands prepares to intervene. A sharp clap echoes through the grand hall as Jason steps in to halt the escalating conflict between the two furious lords. Smiling pleasantly, Jason requests that the gathered rulers refrain from wasting precious meeting time on petty brawling. Burj is deeply intrigued by how the eccentric host managed to instantly dissolve their intense killing intent without using magic. As Ugar reluctantly backs down, Burj silently debates whether the host's strange authority stems from the tower's unique structural power. Vowing to remain vigilant, the Draconic Lord watches as Jason officially opens the floor for the annual conference. The five powerful Demon Kings sit in tense, expectant silence as the high-stakes meeting finally begins. The werewolf Demon King Draxon furiously demands to know the whereabouts of Hillen Cargill from Burj Deus. The black-haired Demon King Burj Deus remains completely silent in the face of aggressive questioning. The Draconic Lord parts his lips to deliver his carefully fabricated explanation about the missing hero. A dramatic narrative text bubble announces the prop to reveal where Hillenkargel is. The Beast Lord's cat-eared aide and the Lie Lord's red-haired aide wait in suspense for the truth. Sweating nervously, the Dark Elf butler Gordon claims he doesn't know and suggests the hero is wandering the Urgus Mountains. Inside the Tower of Lie's aide's reception room, the visiting representatives discuss the bizarre rumor of the Demon King situation. Reflecting on his instructions, Gordon informs the other aides that everything is exactly as his Demon King described. A flashback reveals Berger instructing Gordon to feign ignorance about Hillenkargel to ensure the hero's secrecy as a spy. While adjusting his glasses, Gordon reflects on how his master's rule-breaking insights have proven to be entirely correct. A tense narrative bubble marks a sudden shift in Gordon's internal train of thought. Gordon screams internally that his stubborn master never listens and gets into trouble the moment he is left unattended. Breathing a sigh of immense relief, Gordon is surprised by how satisfying it felt to vent his frustrations. The surrounding aides express deep sympathy, agreeing that all of their respective Demon Kings are incredibly weird. Stunned by their shared grievances, Gordon quietly processes the realization that other aides face similar troubles. Back in the meeting, Draxon skeptically asks if he expects them to believe that, and Berger flatly replies yes. Furious, Draxon demands to know if Berger is joking, while Berger retorts that he can build his tower anywhere. Jason Kochman points out that heroes are still targeting his tower and questions why he left it completely undefended. Jason mockingly reminds Berger that academy lessons dictate a dreadful end for any Demon King who loses their tower. Leaning on his gloved hand, Berger calmly tells the Lord of Lies to mind his own business. Berger glares intensely, thinking to himself that the theatrical Demon King of Lies is incredibly irritating. Laughing heartily, Jason backs off and cheerily agrees not to pry any further into Berger's business. Draxon furiously brings up Archduke Arcane, but Berger dismisses the old geezer, prompting Jason to ask if something is wrong. Berger reasons that lying is safer than being discovered, even if it makes the other kings suspicious of him. Berger remains focused on his primary objective of accumulating 100,000 gold during the gathering. As the discussion continues, Berger notes the clear hierarchy among the kings, placing the Lord of Lies near the top. Berger listens in to gather intelligence and identify which Demon Kings are currently short on demonic energy points. The Frost Demon King Reyna Soldane suddenly shifts her icy gaze toward Berger with quiet curiosity. Berger blinks in mild surprise as he notices the elegant queen staring directly at him. The scene shifts to the exterior balcony on the 13th floor of the Grand Tower. Reyna tells Berger she wanted to speak alone, explaining that there is nothing to hide between them. Reyna surprises him by stating she agrees with some of his points, prompting mild shock from Berger. Sweating, Berger wonders if the Frost Queen had shown him this same side in his previous life. Reyna clarifies that she does not hate standards and actually lives by them, catching Berger off guard. Reyna explains that she prefers talking to him alone to find flexible solutions rather than reasoning with the others. Smiling, Berger asks what she thinks of him, and Reyna admits he is not bad and looks better than expected. Reyna hands him a glowing blue orb transmitter, offering her advice as long as he respects the standard. Berger asks what she thinks of the Demon King of Lies as Reyna begins to walk away. Reyna admits she cannot read him at all, though he's still better than the other two idiots. A soft clicking sound echoes as the Frost Queen steps back inside, leaving Berger alone. Berger stares at the blue transmitter, noting that Reyna Soldane is an unexpected but untrustworthy gain. The scene shifts to a large dark tower nestled quietly among snowy, pine-covered mountain ranges. On the first floor of Berger's tower, the blonde princess cheerfully offers a plate of freshly baked cookies to the dwarf Logre. The princess explains she used ingredients bought by Berger and helper elementals, leaving Logre impressed by her genius. Logre happily takes a cookie, touched that a pampered princess would go through the trouble of baking for him. Logre resolves to praise the cookies' taste even if they end up tasting absolutely terrible. Taking a bite, Logre's eyes bulge in absolute shock as he experiences the unbelievable flavor. Logre experiences a hilarious spiritual ascension of pure bliss, naked except for a single leaf. Weeping in pure ecstasy, Logre asks what she created, and the princess eagerly asks how it tastes. The princess happily boasts about her baking skills, while a tearful Logre realizes the cookie was infused with massive mana. The blonde princess cheerfully tells Logre that she wants to stay close in the future since they will be working together for a long time, while the dwarf sweat drops in nervous agreement. Holding a tray of freshly baked cookies, the blonde princess asks Logre if Granada will enjoy them as well, and the dwarf assures her that Granada will love them even more than he did. Delighted by her success, the blonde princess giggles happily with pure satisfaction. Clad in his dark fur-lined cloak, Berger enters the quiet room and wonders aloud if everyone has already left the meeting. From across the circular table, Jason informs Berger that their discussion is finished, prompting Berger to remark on how brief the meeting was. Jason politely offers Berger some tea if he wishes to speak more, which surprises Berger, who wonders if they are meant to speak privately. A close-up reveals calculating white-gloved hands clasped together in calm anticipation. With a devious smile, Jason confidently claims he knows that Berger is in desperate need of the human's currency. Berger's eye widens in shock as Jason's sudden insight catches him entirely unprepared. Burge's expression darkens as he demands to know exactly what Jason means and where his private information could have leaked. Jason tells Burge that pretending to be ignorant is useless, revealing that Draxon was the one who shared the secret. Urging Burge to stop wasting time on mind games, Jason proposes a mutually beneficial deal to trade gold for demonic energy points. Burge glares intensely at the Lord of Lies, carefully evaluating his rival's motives. Jason cheerfully laughs off Burge's suspicion, claiming he is entirely on Burge's side and suggesting they cooperate from now on. Defeated guild members stand meekly before a massive pile of gold sacks. Burge orders Hillen to take 100,000 gold from the pile while warning him to keep the source of these funds hidden, leaving Hillen completely stunned. Barrage's internal thoughts warn that if Jason manages to trace their money flow, he will perfectly predict all of their plans. System dialogue warns of the dire consequences of becoming Jason's helpless puppets. Burge resolves to proceed with extreme caution, realizing that he cannot fathom the exact plot the Lord of Lies is cooking up. Burge explains to a shocked Hillen that he has turned the rest of the guild members, including Amon from the Golden Moon Merchant Guild, into Black Knights and Black Mages. Burge tells Hillen to use these loyal subordinates to grow the money, promising they will follow every order perfectly. Under the forced black magic contract, Amon and the other guild members lament their humiliating situation as Demon King underlings and beg Hillen to save them. Hillen silently reflects that keeping his crew alive is not a total failure, as he can now pay off his debts and resume his hero duties. Hillen greedily agrees to the arrangement and welcomes Burge as a business partner, leaving his subordinates utterly horrified by his betrayal. Infuriated by Hillen's casual proposal of a partnership, Burge clutches his contract core as his anger flares. A glowing contract core sparks violently, signaling the activation of powerful magic. Activating the contract's painful curse, Burge makes it clear that they are master and slave rather than partners, delighting the captured guild members. Panting from the agonizing pain, Hillen delivers a sarcastic remark, but Burge flatly demands he start moving, as loyalty is not required. As Hillen rests in exhaustion, his attention is caught by the blonde princess walking in and calling out his name. The blonde princess holds out a purple letter and asks Hillen if he can deliver it to her younger sister, Elena. Shocked to hear of Elena, the 13th princess of Hilderin, Hillen questions why the princess is siding with the Demon King. The princess apologizes, explaining she has no desire to return to her kingdom and reminding him that a hero should know the royal secret. Hillen remembers rumors about the kingdom of Hilderin's secret, realizing that her actions are understandable if the rumors are true. The imposing dark tower stands magnificently silent amid majestic snow-covered mountains. Back in the throne room, Gordon expresses his concern to Burge, questioning if the greedy hero will truly follow their orders. Burge reassures his butler that despite his outward appearance, Hillen is not a despicable man solely focused on money. Burge reflects that he never observed the uniquely human crassness of money obsession in Hillen, though the hero is not particularly noble either. Burge explains that what Hillen truly desires above all else is something completely different from simple gold. Flashback depicts Hillen confidently addressing the press amid multiple flashing cameras. Holding up the contract core, Burge smiles as he explains that Hillen's proactive nature to stand out makes him the perfect spy if controlled properly. Gordon is profoundly impressed by his master's deep understanding of human psychology, vowing to work even harder to keep up. Burge grins as he remarks on how spectacular it will be when a hero destroys human society from within, which Gordon enthusiastically agrees with. A sudden sharp knock echoes from the heavy double doors, startling both men. The blonde princess peeks around the door with her elemental helpers, cheerfully asking if they would like to try some cookies. Burge complains that she has been entering too comfortably, threatening to imprison her if they taste bad, while the princess urges him to try them first. Taking a bite, Burge assumes that human desserts are bound to be mediocre and simple. Burge's eye widens in utter bewilderment as an extraordinary flavor bursts upon him. Princess clenches her fists with excitement, eagerly waiting for his reaction while a spiritual image of Dwarf Lager's blissful ascension floats in her thoughts. Burge's gloved hand violently crushes the stone-thrown armrest in intense inner struggle. Sweating profusely, Burge grudgingly admits the cookies are decent for a human, leaving the princess stunned that he managed to endure the flavor. Burge asks the princess if she mixed spirit blossoms into her cookies, which she happily confirms she did. Sweating nervously, Burge sighs in relief and realizes she is seeking a different favor in exchange for her reward. The blonde princess giggles mischievously, keeping her specific request to herself for a moment. Under Crew 2's giant escort, Hillen's hero party safely completes their descent down the mountain. Upon arriving at Holton Walk, the party quickly teleports to the kingdom of Hilderan. Meanwhile, the sheen shifts to a large medieval tavern where Granada is headed. Granada arrives at the Scarlet Hawk Mercenary Guild headquarters to establish discipline among his men. Granada angrily confronts his crew for abandoning him during the blizzard, while the mercenary begs for mercy. Weeping, the bruised mercenary desperately explains they fled only because mid-tier fighters couldn't survive the storm. Furious at their betrayal, Granada prepares to strike the cowering mercenary as a voice calls his name. Granada pauses mid-swing and turns around in mild confusion at the interruption. A blonde female knight named Kaid enters, introducing herself as a hero who missed the journey. Kaid earnestly requests to join the hero's journey despite her late arrival. As Granada questions her claim, his subordinate happily reveals Kaid paid off their bar tabs and offers a drink. Exasperated by his lazy subordinates, Granada chases them down with his glowing fist once more. Granada informs Cade that the journey has already ended and Hill and's party is left. Cade aggressively demands to hear about their failure, and Granada reluctantly agrees to share limited information. The sun sets over Holton Walk, casting a warm golden glow across the city. Seated at a tavern table, Granada finishes his story, leaving Kaye shocked by the tower's location. Declaring she has no reason to stay, Cade leaves a gold coin on the table as thanks. Granada silently watches the blonde hero as she turns and departs from the tavern. The mercenary chuckles, remarking that the rookie hero is naive and bound to get backstabbed. Cade walks down a quiet alley, her face completely concealed beneath a heavy steel helmet. Peering out from the tavern, Granada notices 3 armored knights walking together down the street. Granada remains quiet, his expression turning serious as he observes the suspicious movement outside. Slipping quietly into the shadows, Granada begins tailing the group of knights from a distance. The knights confront Cade, telling her that her fiancé awaits, but she fiercely refuses. Observing from Haubing, Granada realizes Kaede is a princess, noting the silent movement of the armored knights. Deciding not to get involved in royal affairs, Granada turns to leave the scene. A sudden cold blade is pressed against Granada's throat, stopping him in his tracks. A knight holds Granada at sword point, demanding to know his identity and why he is spying. Granada panics internally, realizing that being caught with the Demon King's magic tool will expose him. Deeming him a hostile spy, the knight coldly declares that Granada cannot be allowed to live. Trembling, Granada desperately calls out to the Demon King in his mind for help. A violent explosion erupts nearby, catching the attention of the startled knights.
Taking advantage of the chaos, Granada flees as the knights pursue him, yelling about assassins. The knight warns the princess to stay back as the threat of assassins looms.
Granada hesitates to use his elven powers to escape, fearing it will instantly expose his identity. As the knights try to shield her, Cade defiantly insists she is a hero and will fight. Left with risked alternative, Granada prepares to unleash his elven magic despite the risks. Suddenly, Burge's voice echoes, noting he was wondering why Granada was running late. A terrifying column of purple demonic energy crashes down, stopping everyone in their tracks. Floating in the air with massive wings, Burge chides Granada for slacking off. Granada complains about his severe bruises, but Burge casually dismisses them as mere scratches.
The knights panic that the Demon King is here, while Kaede sees this as their chance.
Burge claims ignorance of her royal status, prompting both the knights and Granada to question his presence.
Burge casually claims he was just running an errand, which the knights furiously reject as a lie.
Scene shifts to Burge's throne room, where Gordon asks what favor the princess wanted. A flashback shows the blonde princess walking away after making her request. She requests Sunil powder, confirming to Gordon that she needs it for spirit contracts. A blonde woman kneels before a king on stone stairs as he delivers a royal decree. The king ordered her to develop a supplement allowing humans to easily contract with spirits. The successful completion of this mystical research led to the creation of Sunil powder. Burge questions why she needs the powder given her high talent, while Sunil explains that she struggles to maintain her spirits because the tower lacks mana. Burge accuses her of planning to contract with a high spirit, which Sunil reluctantly admits might be true. Burge recalls that in his past life she contracted with a high spirit at 27 years old, shocking the continent. Burge wonders why she wants to contract 7 years earlier now, while she wonders how he knew her secret plan. Burge decides her motives do not matter as long as the tower's power continues to increase. Sunil politely thanks him for the meal and promises to return soon.
Burge states he has his own circumstances and intends to finish his task quickly.
A blonde female knight wide-eyes in shock at an unexpected development. A sudden, powerful blast of purple magical energy ravages the city street. Horned Dark Knight turns his head as something unexpected catches his attention. Burge reflects in silence on whether a hero will always act like a hero. Armored guards call out to the princess as she unleashes a powerful glowing aura. She declares her place is on the battlefield, harnessing her demon-destroying hero's aura. She unleashes a high-rank crescent moon slash technique, demonstrating her supreme imperial swordsmanship skills. The supreme aura technique is described as an exclusive skill passed down to elite imperial swordsmen. She laments her low royal status, but refuses to be married off to a creepy elderly king. She fiercely rejects the unfair marriage proposal, refusing to wed such an old pervert. She recalls training tirelessly day and night to be recognized as a true hero rather than just a princess. She resolves to capture the Demon King to finally prove herself as a proper hero. She believes that defeating the Demon King will finally free her from her father's unwanted orders. She passionately and fiercely declares that she will choose her future husband on her own terms. A black-gloved hand casually catches and shatters her powerful crescent blade aura with ease. Burge casually praises her blade aura, noting that it is fairly decent. Blonde Katie stares upward in stunned disbelief, her face pale with sweat. Burge menacingly questions if a true hero can survive his upcoming magical attack. Burge summons a series of massive glowing red magic circles to launch a devastating attack. Battered and exhausted, Cade struggles to stand, using her sword for support. She gasps in absolute terror, recognizing the overwhelming power of the Demon King. Burjae grins evilly, noting that a princess who is also a hero will be highly useful. She desperately stammers a weak protest, completely paralyzed by fear as he closes in. The armored guards desperately shout warnings for the princess before being caught in the blast. A devastating column of black fire erupts, completely engulfing the surrounding buildings in chaos. Panic erupts as people realize the sudden explosion was a demon attack, crying out for healers. Bystanders desperately call for healers as they survey the massive crater left by the attack. The red-haired man gasps in shock upon realizing the princess was taken by the Demon King. A voice desperately pleads for a wounded survivor to stay conscious and keep their eyes open. Witnesses wonder if the terrifying black flames are the work of the Demon King of Urgest. The scene shifts back to the Dark Tower standing silently amid the snow-covered mountains. Inside the dark underground prison, the captured blonde knight lies unconscious on the straw floor. Saniel identifies the captive as Cade Zespine, the 9th Imperial Princess, while Burjae watches from behind. Burj instructs Senil to patch up the princess, suggesting she might be useful later. Burjae explains they must kidnap royal targets to collect Magi points, leaving Saniel highly confused. Burjae panics internally, realizing he has accidentally revealed classified information to a prisoner. He quickly changes the subject, reminding himself to treat the princess strictly as a prisoner. News of the 9th Imperial Princess's sudden kidnapping in Hotenwalk rapidly spreads across the continent. At the Hero Guild headquarters, Heelan Kagel is formally questioned about the truth of his report. He sweatingly admits his failure to find the Demon King's tower, accepting full responsibility. Heelan Kagel's silhouette appears on a card as he speaks up, arguing that holding heroes responsible for failed expeditions would discourage future volunteers. Overlooking a circular balcony, a speaker explains that the Demon King of Urgest kidnapped the 9th Imperial Princess of Zespine, prompting Zespine to request a hero expedition and asking the gathered heroes for their opinions. Silhouetted hero silently apologizes to the 9th Princess, admitting that even he could not locate the tower. Heelan Kagel suggests that instead of launching an immediate expedition, prioritizing a small reconnaissance squad to locate the tower first would be the best course of action. Heelan Kagel stands before the hero silhouettes, confidently proposing that subjugation will be easy once the tower is found, reasoning that a confident Demon King wouldn't hide. An unseen hero agrees, claiming a strong Demon King would have no reason to hide and that if he is a cowardly weakling, he poses no major threat. Another silhouetted hero joins in agreement, expressing his belief that the current Demon King is weak. Silence falls over the assembly as one of the silhouetted cards remains completely quiet. Glowing red eye shines from the silhouetted figure as the guild decides to take Heelan Kagel's advice until the tower is located. The guild officially postpones the all-out hero war until they can pinpoint the tower's location. Heelan Kagel walks down the steps, mentally asking the Demon King if blocking the hero expedition at its source was what he wanted. Heelan leaves the assembly thinking that he has bought the Demon King enough time to handle the rest of his plans. Saniel appears on a magical hologram, acknowledging Burjae's command to keep watching as he logs off. Burjae sighs in relief, realizing they would have been in trouble if Heelan Kagel hadn't intervened, and praises his own decision to make Heelan a vassal. Burjae plans to use Heelan Kagel and Granada's activities outside the tower to further delay the launch of the hero expedition. Burjae calculates the steady rise of his Magi points from kidnapping Princess Kade, considering using the Orb of Armani to turn her into a combat asset. Burjae notes that the dwarves are reinforcing the tower's first floor while Krutu expands his influence over the demon forces. He expects that once Princess Ernin contracts with a high spirit, ordinary hero expeditions won't dare challenge their territory. A mighty formidable dark tower stands tall, representing the final stage of his grand defensive stronghold. Burjae's expression turns dark and vengeful as he resolves to complete the tower before unleashing his ultimate revenge on the detestable heroes who once killed him. Burjae stands on a rocky cliff overlooking a massive domed city, noting that he must first secure Senil powder to advance his plans. He gazes at the majestic towers of Amor, the central hub of magic engineering teeming with powerful wizards and heroes. Burjae worries about whether he can obtain the powder without being detected by the city's powerful residents. Burjae sweats nervously, admitting to himself that the difficulty of this infiltration is exceptionally high. The scene transitions to the majestic spires of the Akan Kingdom's renowned Magitech city of Amor. On the outskirts of the world's best magic market stands Jettison's World of Wonders, a dilapidated two-story shop. The shopkeeper smokes a pipe while reading the newspaper, complaining about the Hero Guild's incompetence and commenting on a wanted poster for a dwarf named Logger. A sudden chime echoes through the small shop as the wooden front door is pushed open. The shopkeeper eagerly welcomes the customer, and Burjae flatly requests Senil powder while silently criticizing the rundown state of the store. Alchemists and mages gather in the city of Amor, which serves as a legendary hub where heroes and magic engineers exchange knowledge. Since prestigious shops are crawling with dangerous mages, Burjae deliberately seeks out a shabby, empty store to minimize the risk of detection. The shopkeeper loudly boasts about his special stock, offering a pair of purple potions for 1 gold coin, but an annoyed Burj tells him to quiet down and calls the price expensive. Berger questions why the senile powder is purple instead of its usual green color, prompting the shopkeeper to enthusiastically explain it is a newly developed version. The merchant leans in close and whispers that the purple powder is a rare, confidential prototype straight from the Mage's Tower that hasn't hit the general market. The shopkeeper urges him to buy it immediately, greedily plotting to swindle the young nobleman and drain his pockets completely. Realizing the merchant is caught on to his inability to shop elsewhere and is trying to scam him, Berger angrily considers killing him on the spot.
A sharp chime sounds again as the wooden door swings wide once more.
The shopkeeper calls out a welcome as Louise Werft enters the shop, loudly complaining to her companion about having to visit such a shabby place. Berger turns his head in absolute shock, sweating as he recognizes the newly arrived customer. Louise Werft and the gray-bearded dwarf walk in, reasoning that their target, Lager, wouldn't go to any popular places, while Berger grumbles about how Lager's actions forced him to this rundown shop. Louise Werft steps up to the counter, announcing that she has a question and is currently searching for someone. Berger recognizes her nasty attitude, rough voice, and distinct red pigtails, identifying her as Louise Werft and realizing she doesn't recognize his face since he previously fought her using a magic tool. The shopkeeper slyly claims he suffers from a sickness that prevents him from remembering anything unless he makes a sale first, shocking the dwarf and disgustingly annoying Louise Werft. Louise Werft furiously draws her blade and presses it against the terrified shopkeeper's throat, barking at him for trying to negotiate with her and ignoring that murder is forbidden in the capital. The shopkeeper desperately trembles at sword point, pleadingly asking if she can at least purchase an item first, leaving Louise Werft and the dwarf completely dumbfounded by his sheer greed. The sweat-drenched merchant nervously grins, explaining that he is only insisting on a sale because he truly believes she might stab him otherwise. Louise Werft holds her sword steady, staring intensely at the greedy shopkeeper as tension fills the small room. Louise Werft suddenly bursts into booming laughter, thoroughly amused by the shopkeeper's bizarrely shameless survival tactic. The shopkeeper enthusiastically tries to pitch the purple bottle as highly prized Arsha powder for 3 gold, leaving a sweating Berger flabbergasted as he realizes the merchant just renamed the supposed senile powder on the fly. Louise Werft tosses 3 gold coins onto the wooden counter and demands to know if any dwarves, specifically one named Lager, have visited the city recently. The shopkeeper suggests checking a famous store called Roe Deer's Leaf in the central square, prompting Louise Werft to head there. Berger politely excuses himself as he walks past Louise Werft inside the shop. Louise Werft and her gray-bearded dwarf companion walk away down the street outside the shop. Berger remarks on the merchant's guts for swindling 3 gold while the shopkeeper confidently explains his reasoning. The greedy merchant shamelessly offers to teach Berger his sales secrets for 10 gold, mildly irritating him. Recognizing the merchant's top-notch scamming skills, Berger directs him to join the Golden Moon Merchant Guild. The shopkeeper dismisses the offer, pointing out that the Merchant Guild is on the verge of bankruptcy. A sudden query questions the shopkeeper's hesitation to go. Berger smiles slyly as he prepares to reveal the identity of the customer. A purple potion bottle shatters on the floor as the name Louise Werft is spoken. The shopkeeper trembles in absolute terror upon realizing he just scammed the notoriously violent princess. Berger offers a monthly salary at the guild, threatening to bring Louise back if refused. The terrified merchant desperately begs for mercy with his hands clasped in prayer. The shopkeeper's expression suddenly turns smug as he mocks the idea of actually surrendering. The merchant furiously rejects the threat, shouting that a princess would never personally return to his shop. Berger calmly accepts his defiance and walks out of the shop. The shopkeeper's smugness vanishes as Louise Werft's fiery, menacing silhouette looms in the doorway with Berger. The shopkeeper freezes in silent monochromatic shock as the realization of his doom sets in. Gah! A desperate scream echoes into the sky as the merchant receives his swift punishment. Berger walks away down the street while the battered shopkeeper weakly calls out a farewell. Holding a vial of genuine green senile powder, Berger reflects on how even outskirts shops carry proper stock. Louise Werft suddenly reappears behind Berger, surprising him as she calls out to him. Louise Werft thanks Berger for helping her secure a refund and asks about the shop owner's fate. Louise Werft angrily laments only being able to give the foreign merchant a light beating, terrifying her companion. Berger sweatily notes to himself that her legendary bad temper remains completely unchanged. The mention of a heart triggers a sudden realization for Berger. Berger asks Louise Werft if the dwarf named Lager she seeks is indeed a blacksmith. Berger presents a golden necklace, which the dwarf immediately recognizes as one of Lager's early creations. Berger explains that he received the necklace from Lager in Ormouth Forest after sharing his food. Louise Werft is deeply touched by his help, dramatically offering to treat him to alcohol. She hands Berger a valuable dwarven badge used to exchange for top-tier equipment before she leaves. The dwarf asks about their next move, and Louise Werft decides to request royal reinforcements. She grins maniacally, declaring that she has absolutely no intention of letting Lager escape her grasp. Watching them depart, Berger contemplates the summoning beast's heart and how he lost track of time. He recalls how, before his regression, Draxen Doldorf absorbed a summoning beast's heart to gain overwhelming power. Berger calculates that a direct confrontation with a fully equipped Louise Werft would only result in a stalemate. He resolves to rapidly develop his own powers in order to survive and execute his revenge. A screen outlines his strategy to lure Louise Werft to the Beast Tower in Ormouth. A towering, ancient stone structure covered in vines stands silently within the dense jungle of Ormuth. Text block highlights the legendary name of Louis Werft. A split panel depicts Louis Werft's ferocious combat skills and Draxen Daldorf's terrifying wolf form. As the two formidable forces fiercely clash and tear each other apart, an opportunity arises. Berger resolves to seize the glowing beast's heart for himself amidst the chaotic battle. A holographic interface displays the tower's two new functions unlocked by fusing with Mana's Phantom. The interface details the remote tower management system and the magical item transfer mailbox. Berger contacts Gordon remotely from a rooftop, leaving him in charge of the tower. System prompt processes the delivery of 10 top-grade Senel powders to Princess Ernin. Princess Ernin excitedly receives the rare materials, while Gordon advises her to use them with extreme care. Princess Kade sits calmly inside her stone dungeon cell under strict orders to remain behaving. The notification confirms the plan to train her in swordsmanship until she can be utilized at full power. The blonde-haired girl fiercely clashes swords with Gordon, swearing to make him regret training her, while he calmly tells her to defeat him first. A system interface processes the delivery of a Hellforge to the first floor to further reinforce the tower under Logger's direction. Lodger ecstatically marvels at the bizarre advanced furnace and cooling equipment, while Gordon instructs him to remain grateful for the Demon King's immense generosity, prompting an eager agreement. A booming "whoa" echoes as Logger enthusiastically promises to craft exceptional equipment for the Demon King. Berger casually inquires about the current status and progress of the Pyo Orcs. A status update reveals the unification of 3 tribes, doubling their forces to successfully hunt monsters in the Urgus Mountains. A quick click sounds as Berger commands Gordon to manage the tower properly, receiving an eager promise of compliance from the holographic screen. Berger leaps down to the town streets, highly appreciating the extreme convenience of remote tower management. A sharp beep sounds as Hillen Cargill contacts Berger first with impeccable timing, prompting Berger to ask for his update. Hillen reports that control of the Golden Moon Merchant Guild is complete, placing it under the management of Amon and his Black Knights. Hillen explains his political manipulation to secure the guild leadership, earning praise from Berger for his successful operation. Berger directs Hillen to send a crucial message to Granada next as he enters an establishment. Berger orders Hillen to fund Granada through the guild to purchase every elf slave on the continent, leaving Hillen completely stunned by the directive. Berger evilly reveals he is sending Jettison, the conman who dared to scam Princess Louise Werft, to the guild as the trembling conman cowers in absolute terror. A chilling warning reveals that Jettison's personal information is fully tracked, leaving him no room to escape. Grinning wickedly, Berger threatens to dispatch an assassin to eliminate Jettison, driving the trembling conman to tears of absolute dread. The empty, ransacked shop stands in absolute silence, completely abandoned by its owner after the chaotic encounter. A sudden, quick plop breaks the heavy silence inside the ruined store as a stray object tumbles onto the floor. An exclamation of pure disbelief echoes loudly, reacting to the shocking news. A voice demands confirmation, completely shocked by the sudden directive to buy up all of their enslaved people. At the shared training grounds, the green-haired elf captain acknowledges his orders and promises to assemble his people swiftly. Grunts of "ha" echo from the background while the green-haired elf silently worries about leading his rescued people directly into the Demon King's grasp. Gritting his teeth, the elf captain agonizingly wonders if the Demon King deliberately designed this mission to exploit his people as spies. The whispering recruits quietly complain to their vice captain about being forced to learn elf swordsmanship under the orders of their ancient bragging captain. Blue-haired recruit sweatily suggests deserting under the vice captain's leadership while their distracted captain's back is turned. The captain remains deeply lost in his internal conflict as his recruits quietly sneak away behind his back. He reflects on the grim alternative of spending their entire lives suffering as miserable human slaves. He contemplates the tragic reality of ultimately dying in chains under human captivity. Activating his green magic, the captain firmly decides that serving the Demon King is infinitely better than human enslavement. A sudden realization strikes the deserting recruits as they turn back in absolute wide-eyed horror. Tightly bound in thorny magical vines, the crying vice captain desperately begs for mercy, while the recruit loudly laments his terrible luck. Grunts of "ha" resound through the courtyard as the remaining deserters are swiftly disciplined for their attempted escape. Hillen Cargill curiously asks about the commotion over the screen, but current captain dismisses it before asking about the Demon King's next moves. A narrative box recalls Burgess's casual mention of heading out to look for valuable treasure. The scene transitions to a lush, dense jungle where the word treasure echoes with deep curiosity. Inside the humid Ormuth rainforest, Princess Louise Werft stands grinding her teeth in immense frustration. The dwarf commander warns of an urgent ultimatum to withdraw, but an angry Louise Werft refuses to leave without finding her target. Gritting her teeth, Louise Werft determinedly declares that there is still one unexplored location left to search. Louise Werft gazes out at the towering peak of the dangerous Beast Mountain. The dwarf commander frantically warns that the Beast Mountain is too dangerous, but Louise confidently ignores his protests.
Grinning confidently, Louise argues that the beast would never dare touch royalty due to the threat of international war. A burning tower recalls the historic subjugation of a foolish demon king who once dared to harm dwarven royalty. The dwarf commander suggests they might have been tricked, but Louise Werft fiercely orders him to move or face her violent wrath. At the ancient stone tower, a frantic voice screams out an urgent warning of impending trouble to the demon king. A panicked scout reports Princess Louise Werft approach, shocking Draxen Doldorf as he wonders what the crazy princess wants. Draxen Doldorf nervously wonders if the princess discovered the secret summoning beast's heart, though he trusts his airtight security. A narrative bubble details the immense volcanic mana sleeping beneath the magma, a power far more precious than anything else. Draxen eagerly anticipates achieving absolute supremacy once he fully absorbs the pure mana of the volcano. Draxen furiously orders his troops to stop the princess at all costs, strictly forbidding them from killing or severely injuring her. Sweatily looking down, the beast-eared subordinate nervously mutters that keeping the chaotic princess safe will be highly difficult. Max Ormith towers over Princess Louise Werft, questioning if she has a death wish. Blocking her path on a tree branch, Max Ormith warns her about invading forbidden territory. The second Prince of Ormith, Max Ormith, mockingly warns her of the deadly demon tribe. Louise Werft angrily orders him to clear the way, refusing to leave without finding Lager. Max Ormith sneers maliciously, calling the dwarves incredibly foolish as he plans his next move. He reflects on how a neighboring kingdom amassed an absolute fortune during a historic war. He notes how those immense wartime profits fueled that kingdom's rise into a powerful empire. Max Ormith sinisterly suggests that framing the Demon King for her death will spark a highly profitable war. Unspeakable fury burns in Louise Werft's eyes as she fiercely glares at the treasonous prince. Laughing insanely, Max Ormith lunges forward and orders his soldiers to slaughter the dwarves immediately. The dwarf shield guards instantly form a tight defensive wall to shield their princess from above. The charging Ormith forces rally with fanatical war cries for the ultimate prosperity of their kingdom. Raising her massive battle axe, Louise Werft furiously dares the attackers to try and face her. A frantic scout reports the impending dwarf massacre, shocking Draxen Doldorf in his wolf form. Draxen Doldorf quickly realizes the Ormith prince intends to frame him and spark a massive war. He immediately commands his demon forces to intervene and save the dwarf princess at all costs. A sharp cue echoes through the jungle as Ormith spears brutally pierce the dwarven soldiers. An enemy swordsman smiles wickedly as he slashes his weapon, relishing the bloody conflict. Golden protective magic flares to life as the dwarf shields deflect a deadly volley of spears. Her commander desperately implores Louise Werft to escape while they try to clear a path. Boiling with intense frustration, Louise Werft tries to charge while her guards frantically hold her back. Huddled beneath the steel dome of shields, Louise Werft grits her teeth in absolute frustration. Max Ormith mockingly taunts them for cowardly hiding behind their defensive shields. Channeling a powerful purple aura into his spear, he prepares to shatter their defense completely. He suddenly freezes in shock, sensing a massive wave of dark demonic energy nearby. Watching silently from a high branch, Berger observes that the human betrayal was completely unexpected. Both leaders look up in pure bewilderment, realizing the source is not a beast demon. Wearing a magic jamming mask, Berger coolly declares that the Ormith prince will die today. Terror spreads through the enemy ranks as they realize they face a high-ranking demon. Max Ormith frantically orders his men to execute the princess while he confronts the demon. Max Ormith aims his spear at the floating demon while his soldier charges from below. A purple-haired soldier lunges forward, determined to finish off the dwarf princess. Soldiers roar their absolute compliance as they rush to execute the prince's orders. Debris explodes as a sudden, powerful speed attack streaks across the forest canopy. Max Ormith turns back in shock as a sudden scream of agony pierces the air. Bursting through the defenses in a blazing golden fury, Louise Werft strikes down the attacker. Max Ormith stares in absolute silence, completely caught off guard by her terrifying speed. A panic warning frantically echoes through the trees, telling everyone to look away. A furious voice roars in disbelief at the audacity of her direct frontal assault. Louise Werft flies forward in a blazing aura of pure rage, her eyes glowing white. Sweating profusely, Max Ormith panics at how exceptionally fast the dwarf princess is. He resolves to eliminate her first as purple magic suddenly traces through the air. Floating on a branch, Berger activates his dark magic, unleashing powerful purple binding spells. Before he can strike, Max Ormith is suddenly tightly bound by coils of purple energy. The prince gasps in absolute horror as he realizes he has been fully restrained by demonic energy. Sweating in sheer terror, his eyes widen at how effortlessly the demon bound his movements. A bright orange flash of destructive power cuts cleanly through the dense jungle air. Seizing the perfect opening, Louise Werft delivers a devastating bloody blow to the helpless prince. Horrified screams ring out as the soldiers watch their prince get brutally struck down. Louise Werft lands on a branch, deeply confused as the demonic energy suddenly vanishes without a trace. Ormith soldiers charge, furiously yelling to execute the dwarf princess who attacked their prince. Enraged, Princess Louise Werft screams back that they were the ones who initiated the fight. Tightly gripping her weapon, the princess fiercely vows to send every attacker to join their dead prince. Forming a tight defensive wall, the dwarven guards rally to shield the princess from the onslaught. Observing the chaotic battlefield from a high branch, Burjay realizes the dwarf princess will not die easily. Smirking confidently, Burjay decides it is time to unleash his trap and let them take the bait. A massive aura of dark power signals the impending arrival of the formidable Demon King of Beasts. Burjay silently turns his gaze toward the towering structure of the distant stone tower. Ominous purple magic crackles violently around the ancient peak of the dangerous Tower of Beasts. Sensing the massive surge of raw energy, the wolf demon king Draxen Doldolf growls in absolute shock. Trembling, his subordinate nervously alerts the demon king to the bizarre, unregistered demonic energy. Draxen Doldolf quickly confirms that the intense energy signature does not belong to any of his subordinates. Furious, the wolf demon king deduces that another rival demon king has intruded into his territory. He wonders if this massive surge of power belongs to an elite demon or something far stronger. Draxen Doldolf notes the suspicious timing of this intrusion occurring right during the clash between royalty. Baring his teeth, the Wolf Demon King suspects that the impeccable timing cannot be a mere coincidence. Determined to uncover the truth, he decides he must personally investigate the source of this energy. Rushing through the dense jungle, Draxen Doldolf frantically asks his scouts about the dwarf princess. He urgently demands to know what happened to the mysterious demons that invaded his domain. The panicked scout apologizes, explaining that they found Princess Louise Werft completely surrounded upon arrival. Draxen Doldolf experiences a wave of dread, fearing a repeating pattern of a devastating ancient war. Looking wide-eyed in absolute horror, the Wolf Demon King realizes he is powerless to stop such a catastrophe. The subordinate wolf explains that despite their efforts to save the princess, they were too late. A devastating golden slash erupts across the screen as Princess Louise Werft single-handedly massacres her attackers. Horrified by the sudden bloodshed, the dwarf commanders frantically beg their princess to halt her rampage. The sweating wolf scout explains that the terrifying princess slaughtered everyone alone before they could intervene. Enraged by the failure, Draxen Doldolf brutally disciplines his subordinates as they painfully lament their luck. A scout confirms that Prince Max Ormith was successfully killed by the devastating hands of the dwarf princess. The subordinate wolf asks for orders regarding what to do with the remaining Ormith soldiers. Draxen Doldolf realizes that executing the survivors will only lead to him being framed for murder. Although tempted by the potential demonic energy points, he knows that murder carries far too much political weight. He reflects on how even a minor kingdom could spark a massive, problematic war over their prince's death. Draxen Doldolf strictly commands his troops to release the survivors so they can report the truth. He inquires if they have located the invading demon, but his scouts nervously admit they have not. He furiously scolds his subordinates, yelling at them to use their heads and wolf noses. Draxen Doldolf pauses, realizing a high-ranking stealth demon would easily evade ordinary tracking methods. He decides to activate his formidable sensory enhancement technique to track down the intruder. A system window explains the mechanics of supersensory maximization, which concentrates demonic energy to boost senses. The system details how the maximized senses can detect even the most hidden traces of stealth magic. Draxen Doldolf scans the forest as glowing red trails of the unknown demon suddenly become visible. The Wolf Demon King deduces that the intruder went directly in pursuit of the dwarf princess. Following the glowing crimson trail, Draxen Doldolf tracks the intruder's path deep toward the towering mountain. He stops and demands to know the exact direction where the dwarf princess fled. His subordinate wolf points in the direction of the escape, confirming her path. A surge of intense fury washes over the Demon King as he curses the mysterious instigator. Letting out a deafening savage roar, Draxen Doldolf unleashes his bottled amber into the sky. He suddenly stops in shock as a terrifying realization about the enemy Demon King crosses his mind. His massive claws dig into the dirt as he prepares to make his next move. An absolute chill runs down his spine as he realizes they have walked straight into a trap. The Wolf Demon King finally uncovers the dark truth connecting the dwarf princess and the prince. A dark clawed beast silhouette leaps rapidly down through the green forest canopy. The White Wolf Demon King Draxen realizes that the evil energy exposure was a decoy plan to lure him away from the volcano. Staring at the distant volcano, Draxen deduces that the rival Demon King's true objective must lie hidden there. At the entrance of a stone cavern, bear-like guards supervise heavy wooden carts. Deep inside the subterranean tunnels, beasts pull carts loaded with rocks away from the intense heat. An ominous text bubble reveals that the legendary heart of a mystic beast rests within the burning magma below. A black-haired man with large demonic wings descends gracefully toward the glowing sea of liquid fire. The winged invader observes that the lava possesses abnormal heat fueled directly by the mystic beast's lingering aura. Standing near the volcanic abyss, the black-haired demon notes that even the formidable Draxen could not survive diving directly into the lava. Bear-like subordinates labor to drain the magma basin, confirming that the secret excavation serves to clear a path to the depths. Showing a confident smirk, the black-haired man boasts that his black-flame dragon scales allow him to navigate the lava directly anyway. Spreading his dark wings, the black-haired man dives headfirst into the volcanic cavern. Suddenly, a massive three-eyed tiger beast roars ferociously from the shadows of the volcanic cave. The ferocious three-eyed tiger lashes out with a powerful claw strike, tearing through the cave air. Violent tremor erupts as rocks shatter under the incredible force of a sudden collision. Easily catching the strike, the black-haired dragon-winged demon wonders how a beast noticed him from such a far distance. Caught in a vice-like grip, the three-eyed tiger gasps in absolute shock upon recognizing the powerful intruder. The winged demon smiles wickedly with glowing red eyes, forcing the struggling tiger beast to descend with him. The giant beast screams in sheer agony as the winged demon ruthlessly plunges it into the blazing fire. Floating amidst rising bubbles of superheated magma, the black-haired demon contemplates his rival's past. He reflects on how his rival Draxen acquired unmatched power in their previous lives by absorbing a specific legendary entity. He analyzes how Draxen's incredible physical regeneration capabilities were entirely derived from absorbing the heart of that supreme mystic beast. A greedy smile spreads across the black-haired demon's face as he recalls wondering which specific divine beast his rival had claimed. The realization dawns that the core buried in the lava was the ancient corpse of a supreme creature. A majestic glowing golden phoenix materializes from the flames beneath the floating black-haired demon. He silently marvels at the majestic presence of the legendary phoenix resting beneath the volcanic surface. Flashback reveals the black-haired demon reading ancient dimensional texts during his days as a cadet at the Demon King Academy. The records describe these divine creatures as legendary cosmic entities of supreme magical power. The books detailed how phoenixes reigned as ultimate arbiters of finality across several distinct worlds and dimensions. Despite their vastly different manifestations, the ancient texts highlighted a single, crucial commonality among their hosts. Every legendary demon king who managed to fully absorb a phoenix's power ultimately achieved legendary status throughout history. Deeply grateful for the path his rival prepared, the black-haired demon thanks Draxen for finding this ultimate prize. He dives eagerly toward the deep core of the flaming magma, completely unfazed by the heat. He rejoices that his current opportunity to seize this godlike power exists solely because his rival absorbed the phoenix long ago. His eyes wide with intense greed, the dragon-scaled demon smiles at his impending ascension to godhood. His razor-sharp demonic claws strike downward, tearing open the volcanic core's final seals. A massive, blinding golden shockwave of pure energy erupts, completely consuming the cavern. Waves of intense, white-hot flames burst violently outward, completely illuminating the deep subterranean world. Realizing his hidden treasure is being disturbed, a furious voice demands to know who dared to uncover his phoenix. Leaping down in his armored wolf beast form, Draxen furiously wonders if a rival named Burzi Deus is behind this. Draxen quickly dismisses the idea, knowing Burz would have gained nothing from such a reckless, uncalculated gamble. He continues analyzing the situation, eliminating potential conspirators who lack the resources for such an infiltration. He reasons that no rookie king could breach his security, especially since the only high-ranking general was stationed elsewhere. The gray-furred wolf demon king asserts that his territory's secure border should have easily kept out standard demonic spies. Landing heavily on the forest floor, Draxen grows increasingly furious at his compromised security management. Two startled bear guards at the cavern entrance stammer in fear upon seeing their powerful leader arrive. In a flash of raw fury, the Wolf Demon King effortlessly slashes the guards aside with a brutal sweep of his claws. As his enemies fall, Draxen mentally eliminates other possible rival candidates named Reyna and Ugar. Charging deeper into the subterranean tunnels, the silver-furred Wolf Demon King kicks up a storm of debris. He reasons that Ugar lacks the tactical intelligence for this coup, while Reyna's frost affinity makes the fiery phoenix lethal to her. Draxen Doldorf crushes his foot down, realizing his rival is the only one remaining. Panicked thoughts swirl over whether the supreme mystic beast remains safe from the intruder. Draxen Doldorf roars in utter shock upon receiving the urgent news from his beast subordinates. The boiling lava bubbles violently inside the volcanic cavern, hinting at the impending chaos below. A loyal subordinate obeys the command, preparing to carry out the urgent rescue orders. The bear subordinate reveals that the Tiger Guardian suddenly plunged into the boiling magma, shocking Draxen. Furious and panicked, the Wolf Demon King commands his forces to retrieve the tiger immediately. Draxen realizes Bathif intends to steal the phoenix, while a subordinate warns him of danger. A sudden rumble shakes the cavern as the surrounding volcanic rock begins to collapse violently. A blinding, fiery explosion erupts from the depths of the volcano, shattering the entire subterranean area. Draxen's eye glows with intense crimson energy, reflecting his sheer rage and focus amidst the destruction. A traveling merchant stares in absolute disbelief as a massive tower looms in the distant sunset. Covered in blood, Dwarf Princess Louise stands shocked with her battle axe amidst the fallen warriors. A green-haired elf warrior looks on in disbelief at the sudden devastation before them. A young blonde-haired knight in pristine golden armor gazes upward with a bewildered, solemn expression. A blonde-haired girl with bright purple eyes leans forward in shock, witnessing the unfolding catastrophe. An enraged scream echoes through the air, cursing a betrayer named Jason for his treacherous actions. The White Wolf Demon King unleashes a feral, blood-curdling roar of pure unbridled fury. A deafening, agonizing scream reverberates as the volcanic power reaches its absolute limit.
Legendary fiery golden phoenix rises majestically from the boiling core of the volcanic magma.
A dark transition screen builds anticipation for the next phase of this grand fantasy epic. Awakening in a lush, vibrant green forest, a mysterious silhouette questions his sudden change in surroundings.
He recalls trying to store the phoenix corpse, but its immense mana was absorbed into his body.
He remembers being blasted far away from the volcano by the sheer force of the eruption.
The red-haired man wonders how a powerful demon king like himself could end up here.
Stripped of his clothes, the bewildered red-haired man finds himself completely surrounded by gentle forest animals. Realizing something is fundamentally wrong, he feels as though his body is no longer his own.
Looking down at a crystal-clear pool of water, he prepares to examine his new visual reflection. He gasps in absolute horror upon seeing the unfamiliar, handsome face staring back at him.
The scene shifts to the magnificent and ancient stone temple known as the Ormus Palace.
Princess Louise and her commander kneel in defeat, reporting how Prince Jetson saved them before dying. The king of Ormus slams his fist down in anger, dismissing the notion of a peaceful death. Consumed by grief and rage, the king orders the Heroes Guild to defeat the Demon King.
A sharp beep cuts through the quiet forest, signaling an incoming magical communication.
A glowing blue hologram reveals the panicked knight Hillen Cargill, who fails to recognize his master. The red-haired man reveals his true identity and commands Hillen to report on the kingdom's movements. The system window details that Roselle Charnt, a powerful 10-star mage, will command the upcoming expedition. The system displays Roselle Charnt, a formidable battle mage specializing in destructive fire magic. It introduces the vice commander, Balraf Desrode, a muscular 10-star hero of immense martial prowess. Hundreds of elite heroes gather in Ormus, preparing to launch a direct assault on the tower. Hillen worries about the massive number of heroes, but the red-haired man remains completely unfazed. The red-haired demon king deduces that shadow orchestrators are manipulating the conflict behind the scenes. He reflects on how humans greedily exploit demon towers and corpses for immense profit and treasures. He contemplates the complex web of conflicting human interests surrounding the Demon King of Beasts. The red-haired man commands Hillen to join the expedition and promises to reveal the enemy's weakness. He explains that Hillen must land the final blow to gain the humans' complete trust. Hillen nervously chuckles, questioning if his master can still control him if he becomes too strong. With a terrifying, dark expression, the red-haired Demon King scoffs at the idea of being surpassed. Walking away, he is interrupted by another loud beep from his glowing blue communication screen. The blue-haired elf subordinate Gordon shrieks in terror upon seeing his master's shocking new red-haired form. Inside the lush jungle, Gordon questions his master's new appearance, but his master commands him to speak, prompting Gordon to report an emergency summons from the Tower of Beasts. The red-haired man reacts in shock to the mention of Draxon, while Gordon's holographic message confirms that the transmission has indeed just arrived. At the Tower of Beasts gate, the wolf demon king Draxon waits as a portal manifests. Towering stone demon Ugar questions the reason for Draxon's summons, while the elf-eared woman complains about the terrible stench of the location. Draxon commands Ugar to wait upstairs, planning to escort their final guest up himself. Staring intently, the gray-furred wolf king Draxon grows suspicious over the late arrival of Burze Deas and Jason Cockmundo. Draxon's inner monologue reveals his intent to suspect Burze Deas if he arrives late. A massive shockwave is unleashed as claws slam down near the red-haired man, who laments letting his guard down as time runs out. The blue-haired elf Gordon appears via hologram, explaining his plan to use a portal since his master is already nearby in Ormus. The dark-haired man in the white shirt flies off, leaving Gordon startled by his sudden departure as a magical beep rings out. Walking through the woods, the red-eyed wolf king ponders how arriving too early or too late will only increase his colleagues' suspicions. An intense red background underscores his plan to return to his tower, grab Gordon, and portal to the Tower of Beasts. The flying dark-haired man urges himself to fly faster, realizing he will be a few minutes late. A dark purple heart thumps loudly inside his chest, radiating unstable magical energy. Majestic orange and golden phoenix wings burst from the red-haired man's back as he flies. The red-haired man hesitates, realizing he shouldn't waste his mana despite the powerful phoenix wings manifesting. A vibrant orange heart beats with immense power, surging with unstoppable mana. He gasps in disbelief as a small, glowing golden phoenix heart emerges directly from his chest, still beating. Staring in shock, the red-haired man realizes the phoenix is still alive and is the reason behind the wild animal's earlier behavior. Blinding golden energy and swirling feathers envelop him, making control nearly impossible. Golden feathers rain down from the sky as he hurtles toward the ground. A desperate cry for a pause echoes as the sheer power of the descent threatens to overwhelm him. The red-haired man grits his teeth in frustration, struggling against the terrifying speed of his fall. A golden pillar of light crashes violently into the snowy ground with a loud whoosh. Steam rises as the impact damages the glowing red hexagonal barrier of the fortress. A metallic tower stands tall in the snowy mountains, smoking from the collision. Kneeling in the snow, the red-haired man clutches his head, grumbling about his lack of control over the phoenix. Walking toward the massive iron doors, the red-haired man confirms with Gordon that the phoenix has fallen asleep and orders him to come down. A handsome black-haired man coolly declares that they must set off for the Tower of Beasts immediately.
The scene shifts to an ancient stone pyramid temple nestled deep within the jungle. A crowd of gathered heroes whispers in absolute awe upon seeing the legendary 5-year-old magic prodigy Rosal Chart. Several warriors clamor for a chance to greet her, calling it the greatest honor of their lives. Rosal Chart, the orange-haired commander of Dawn's Flamestrike squad, rests on her staff and bluntly insults the starstruck heroes. Her vice commander, Balra, frantically scolds her for ruining their squad's reputation, while the nearby heroes swoon over her harsh insult. Rosal turns her back to the whispering crowd, completely unimpressed by their presence. The crowd erupts into excited chatter as the legendary 10-star hero Helen Cargill arrives to join the expedition. Helen Cargill walks up to Rosal and warmly greets her, offering his help for the upcoming raid. Rosal smiles mockingly, calling Helen a thick-faced loser and teasing him about a missing ring and his past exploits. Helen laughs nervously, silently cursing her for knowing the embarrassing truth about how he defeated the Demon King of Lust. Helen's face darkens with worry, realizing his hard-earned heroic reputation will be completely ruined if she exposes his secret. Rosal walks past him, asserting her resolve to slay the Demon King of Beasts herself while warning him to keep his hands off. Helen grins brightly, cheerfully agreeing while privately swearing that the Demon King's head belongs to him. A swirling purple and black portal opens in a grassy, sunlit forest clearing. 3 figures, including a black-haired man in a purple and gold uniform, step out of the magical portal. The massive Wolf King Draxen welcomes Jason Cockman and Burgess Deos, instructing them to follow him inside. The black-haired man maintains a calm, focused gaze as he prepares to enter. He sweat drops but maintains a polite smile, assuring the wolf beast that they arrived right on schedule. The group of Demon Kings steps deeper into the dark cavern entrance. The massive one-eyed stone demon Ugar questions Draxen about the urgent reason behind the emergency meeting. Jason, the white-haired Demon King of Lies, smiles and asks if the meeting is related to the heroes gathering in Ormuth. The White Wolf Demon King Draxen decides to speak honestly since they already suspect the truth. Draxen reveals to the gathered council that another Demon King infiltrated his territory to steal the Phoenix corpse he intended to absorb. He explains that the thief also caused the second prince's death, triggering the hero's journey, while Burgess silently realizes Draxen had been hiding a phoenix. Reyna Zoldain and Jason Kochman ponder if the thief also killed the dwarf princess to provoke a continental war, noting how stupid it was to lose a summoning beast. Growling fiercely, Draxen declares that while someone is targeting him, he refuses to go down alone. The Wolf King vows to purchase a special key to expose and eliminate the traitor. A system explanation reveals that every tower contains a black box recording its Demon King's actions to analyze past mistakes. It details how these black boxes are typically ignored since they cost immense demonic energy and disappear if the tower falls. Burge's expression darkens as he realizes he will be completely exposed if Draxen opens the black box in his tower. Draxen explains that opening a black box requires the target tower owner's permission and asks if everyone will comply. His glowing red eye narrows as he remarks that only the guilty culprit would dare to hesitate. Burge remains completely silent, inwardly cursing Draxen for backing him into a corner. Reyna Soldain and Jason Kochman readily raise their hands, granting permission to search their towers. Ugar Belvec also steps forward and easily grants his permission. Forced into a corner, Burge raises his hand to grant permission to avoid raising immediate suspicion. A menacing grin spreads across Draxen's snout as he accepts their approvals and concludes the meeting. The system details the exorbitant cost of the single-use key, which requires nearly 10 million demonic energy points. The scene highlights how Draxen would never waste such points or risk his life before the upcoming hero raid. However, it is certain that once the hero raid fails, Draxen will immediately buy the key to open his and Jason's boxes. Walking away with his elf subordinate, Burge resolves to act before Draxen gets the chance to buy the key. He steels his gaze with absolute determination, realizing he must find a way to eliminate Draxen. Returning to his own fortress, Burge instructs his subordinate to prepare as he begins inspecting his tower starting from the first floor. Upon entering the first floor, Burge is welcomed by a triumphant shout from atop a massive high-tech magical cannon. The eccentric dwarf boss Lager Friedrich laughs boisterously while introducing his masterwork, the Inferno Catapult Mark I. Ladra proudly boasts about the majestic, beautiful form of his creation, calling it the ultimate masterpiece of his life. He enthusiastically details the weapon's elemental capabilities, its automated mana regeneration, and its versatile attack patterns. Burge's sweat drops, questioning the dwarf's sanity, while his elf subordinate reassures him that the weapon's destructive power is guaranteed. In spite of the dwarf's mania, Burgess decides to let him continue building as many weapons as he wants. Shifting to the second floor, the fierce blonde warrior Hade Jespine lunges forward with a furious war cry. She unleashes a massive, glowing cyan energy slash directly at Burge. With a sharp crack, Burge effortlessly blocks the blade with his bare-gloved hand. Burge calmly smiles, noting that his subordinate's aggressive attitude hasn't changed at all. Undeterred, Hade readies her massive sword, eager to begin their training match in earnest. She prepares to execute her ultimate move, the Crescent Moon Slash variant. Hade leaps high into the air, plummeting downward with her sword cloaked in a blinding crescent of blue energy. Berja smiles, acknowledging her slight improvement before noting she is still far from ready.
With a casual wave of his hand, Berge unleashes a dark purple energy sphere that easily counteracts her strike. Haid shrieks in absolute terror as she realizes she's completely outmatched by his effortless defense. A massive boom echoes through the snowy mountains, signaling the devastating impact of her defeat. Standing over the defeated warrior, Berge asks why she is on this floor, learning that she was temporarily relocated for another princess's summoning. Berge looks deeply surprised as he repeats the mention of a summoning occurring in his tower. Whimsical elemental spirits dance cheerfully above bottles of magical powder, signaling the ongoing preparations. A system title card introduces the formidable fourth-floor boss, Princess Ernan Hilderin. The young blonde princess stands surrounded by swirling blue light and magical bubbles as she channels her spell. A glowing magic circle materializes in the air, radiating ancient runes and brilliant blue light. Concentrating deeply, Ernan chants an invocation to the Great Spirit and Guardian of Water. Drops of blood drip slowly into the center of the shimmering blue spell circle, forming a contract. Breathing heavily, Ernan makes her final plea in her own name, desperately asking the spirit to answer her call. The magic circle erupts in a blinding, brilliant flash of blue light. A massive surge of divine energy pulses from the glyphs as the summoning reaches its peak. The summoning circle shines brilliantly as a blue-haired water spirit named Niruniel finally manifests in a rush of water. Looking directly ahead with wide, luminous blue eyes, the water spirit flatly declines the initial arrangement. Niruniel's glowing blue eye narrows as she closely evaluates the summoning contract before her. An ancient water covenant is invoked amidst the shimmering depths of the magical circle. Floating gracefully, Niruniel formally introduces herself as a high-ranking water spirit ready to fulfill her role. Floating underwater, the blonde-haired Princess Ernan Hilderan raises her arms, seeking recognition from the powerful spirit. The water spirit reaches out to officially acknowledge Princess Ernan Hilderan as her summoner. The contract is completed as Niruniel accepts the princess as her official soul companion. A blinding flash of light erupts as their hands meet, finalizing the sacred spirit bond. Having depleted her energy, the blonde princess drifts unconsciously through the glowing water. Floating limply amidst rising bubbles, Ernan's eyes remain closed in a deep slumber. The unconscious blonde princess continues to sink gently through the serene, sunlit water. Safely back on land, the black-haired man catches the unconscious princess in a grassy meadow. Awakening in his arms, the blonde princess looks up in bewilderment, questioning if he is a demon king. The black-haired man grins warmly, teasing her about witnessing a rare event and praising her successful summoning. Blushing deeply, Ernan sheepishly credits her success to the special senile powder he previously provided. With starry, affectionate eyes, the young princess gazes up at him with deep gratitude. The romantic atmosphere shatters instantly as Ernan reacts in absolute shock and confusion to an unexpected voice. Panicking wildly, she desperately pleads with the black-haired man to believe she did not speak those words. The black-haired man realizes she summoned a troublesome spirit as Niruniel gleefully expresses love for him on Ernan's behalf. An official profile reveals Niruniel is a high-ranking water spirit who loves reading forbidden romance novels. The black-haired man demands to know what kind of nonsense she is spouting while Ernan stammers in horror. The scene erupts into chaos with a loud, exasperated demand for an explanation. Her face flushing bright red with embarrassment, Ernan shrieks in panic over the sudden mention of dating. Niruniel smugly asserts that the legendary love story between the Demon King and the princess is already famous. The mischievous spirit asks when they will make the relationship official while Ernan begs her to return. The black-haired man asks Niruniel how he currently looks to her as the spirit swoons over him. When Niruniel cheekily claims he looks destined to marry Ernan, the black-haired man sternly prepares to ask again. A vibrant orange and red feather floats quietly, signaling a sudden shift in energy. Blazing yellow flames erupt around the red-haired man as his true aura is revealed. A glowing feather appears as he asks how his appearance looks to her eyes now. Niruniel and Ernan stare in absolute wonder, stunned by the incredibly pure mana radiating from him. Surrounded by fire, the red-haired man realizes his pure mana successfully fooled a high-ranking spirit. Grinning confidently, the red-haired man realizes his perfect disguise will allow him to eliminate the Demon King of Beasts. Ernan looks completely shocked and worried, wondering if he truly intends to defeat another Demon King. Chapter card transitions the scene as a quiet moment passes. The sky remains vast and clear, carrying the quiet tension of the upcoming confrontation. Wind currents slice through the open sky, hinting at a sudden departure. A dark streak zooms downward, cutting through the clouds at immense speed. Sudden exclamation of absolute disbelief echoes across the snowy fortress. The long-haired elf subordinate screams in sheer panic, completely losing his composure over the sudden plan. Clutching his head, the elf questions the sanity of a demon king setting off to kill another. The black-haired man calmly walks away, announcing he is leaving to eliminate Draxon as his panicked subordinate objects. The loyal elf subordinate is left clutching his head in absolute despair and confusion. A loud scream of utter incomprehension echoes as the elf subordinate struggles to process the reckless plan. Desperately argues that this dangerous mission is on a completely different level of risk.
The black-haired man deploys his massive dark wings and takes flight, leaving the fortress behind. The elf subordinate desperately warns that the other demon kings will react violently if they discover his actions. Flying swiftly, the black-haired man resolves that he will be ruined if he doesn't eliminate Traxon first. The panicked elf subordinate screams after him, questioning if the suicidal mission is truly necessary. Bold text on a stark white background details the struggle with a hostile dimensional barrier. The system screen defines the concept of dimensional energy and explains its naturally hostile nature. A massive glowing blue avatar of dimensional power looms over a tiny helpless intruder. The swirling blue cosmic energy flows menacingly as it actively rejects any foreign presence. An illustration demonstrates how a level 666 demon from the demon realm gets debuffed into a level 1 ape in rain. System boxes explain that it is the natural role of chosen heroes to eliminate these weakened invaders. Blood splatters as a grinning human hero ruthlessly slays a weakened ape demon on the grassy ground. A colossal dark fortress surrounded by crackling red lightning stands under a crimson sky. A high-tech magical cannon channels energy toward a dimensional portal showing a distant dragon fortress. Enveloped in bright flames, Burji channels demonic energy as he prepares for his next move. Burji's formidable true demonic appearance is shown with glowing red eyes and horns. The system begins explaining the correlation between the tower's height and a demon king's power. The system concludes that the height of a tower directly reflects the peak strength of its demon king. Standing in his tiled hall, the worried elf subordinate warns Burji about the immense danger of his plan. Sweating profusely, the elf subordinate reluctantly warns Burji about the extreme risks of entering the tower. The narration shifts focus to what lies inside the dangerous Tower of Beasts. Burji spreads his massive dark wings as he stands before a colossal roaring black wolf beast. The dark narrative warning concludes that victory in this territory cannot be guaranteed. A single thought bubble appears as Burji reminds himself of the phoenix's heart he absorbed. Massive black wings are shown being engulfed by intense purple and pink flames. White wind currents stream across a serene blue sky as Burji evaluates his current strength. A menacing smirk spreads across Burji's face, prompting a panicked realization from a subordinate. Enveloped in fiery energy, Burji flies through the sky in his red hair disguise. A jagged speech bubble captures his subordinate's absolute speechlessness at the daring plan. A vibrant orange feather cuts through the sky, leaving a brilliant trail of flames in its wake. Fire rains down upon the vast forest surrounding the distant dark Tower of Beasts. A sharp slash cuts through an attacking beast demon, unleashing a sudden spray of blood. A tense thought bubble expresses shock that the enemy forces pursued them so far. On a blood-soaked grassy field, human soldiers face off against a pack of menacing beasts. Shouts echo across the battlefield, directing everyone to cover the retreat as the demons fall back. Frantic call for aid echoes across the clearing as soldiers tend to their wounded. The noble light brown-haired knight kneels in the forest to offer a healing potion to an injured, grimacing soldier. Lord Pale approaches the camp, causing the surprised knight to look up from his task. A commanding speech bubble instructs the nearby allies to stand back. The red-haired hero stands calmly as the knight relievedly identifies him as Lord Pale. Sweating with tension, the knight begins to recount the details of their failed campaign. The knight explains that they targeted the Beast Demon King's tail as instructed. A massive white wolf beast roars in agony as a brilliant blue energy slash cuts into its tail. Wrapped in glowing blue mana, the knight delivers a powerful sword strike while explaining what went wrong. The wide-eyed knight shouts desperately for his companion to unleash her final attack. Amidst a horde of approaching beast shadows, the orange-haired mage prepares to cast a spell. Bleeding heavily from her left eye, the young orange-haired woman grits her teeth through severe pain. The knight's eye dilates in absolute horror at his companion's critical condition. The monstrous white wolf beast roars with terrifying fury under a red sky. The knight grimly explains that Lady Roselle sustained severe injuries during the clash. The giant wolf beast pounces ferociously, scattering terrified human soldiers in every direction. A chaotic blurred motion shot captures the desperation of the retreating forces. An archer looks back in panic as the injured orange-haired mage falls to the ground. Carrying the bloody, unconscious mage in his arms, the knight runs frantically to escape. The knight finishes his explanation, admitting they had no choice but to retreat. The light brown-haired knight admits the hero expedition failed as the red-haired man remains silent. The red-haired man smiles knowingly, confirming he fully understands the situation. Tense pause builds as a realization begins to formulate. Sweating profusely, the man inwardly panics, realizing he is completely screwed. The knight explains they dealt heavy damage, prompting a surprised reaction from the red-haired man. The red-haired man realizes they still have time to act. He resolves to resume the expedition before Draxon can repair the tower. The red-haired man questions if Razel Chart was attacked. The red-haired man questions Disrod's failure to protect the mage, frustrating the knight. The knight explains that Disrod abandoned them right before the attack. The red-haired man and knight look back as an orange-haired woman with an eye patch arrives. The orange-haired woman explains that Disrod's sponsors benefit from the tower's survival. Officially identified as Roselle Chart, she condemns them as money-crazed bastards. The red-haired man greets Razel and notes the disastrous state of the camp. When he asks if she is willing to try again, she reacts in disbelief. Roselle fiercely declares her determination to kill the Beast Demon King. She vows not to back down after what happened to her eye.
The knight objects due to their wounded and lack of potions, but the red-haired man disagrees. The red-haired man confidently reveals his massive supply of potions. He explains the potions will allow them to fight again despite their injuries. Shock and disbelief ripple through the air at his sudden announcement. Suspicious, Roselle demands to know his identity and motives. Roselle senses an incredibly pure heat radiating from the red-haired man. The red-haired man feels the energy intensifying within his chest. The exhausted, heavily injured soldiers sit on the grass in deep despair. A long-haired blonde soldier looks down, completely drained of hope. He realizes potions alone cannot restore their broken morale. With a sudden, bright chirp sounding, a tiny phoenix companion emerges as he decides to show them his power. A sudden, brilliant light flares up, catching the attention of the resting soldiers. The blonde soldier stares in absolute bewilderment as a powerful presence manifests. Both Roselle and the knight turn back, completely stunned by the glowing light. Realization strikes Roselle as the overwhelming energy washes over her. Roselle's eye dilates in complete awe at the sheer scale of his mana. The red-haired man prepares to reveal his true power to the defeated forces.
He majestically reveals himself as the owner of the legendary Phoenix.
Roselle and the knight gaze in absolute silence at the magnificent fiery avatar. He firmly declares his ultimate mission to slay the Demon King of Beasts. Roselle struggles to believe she is witnessing the power of the legendary beast. She wonders if this man is the source of the overwhelming power. She connects him to the massive energy that recently covered the sky. She evaluates his mana as rivaling that of legendary 10-star heroes. Sweating with awe, Roselle wonders where such a powerful hero came from. Renewed hope and determination fill the eyes of the inspired soldiers. The entire camp gains a second wind, completely revitalized by his presence. Their thoughts turn in unison toward the formidable Beast Demon King. Enveloped in brilliant flames, the red-haired hero leads the newly motivated soldiers forward. Collective belief grows that they might actually defeat the Demon King. Draxen Daldorf, the Beast Demon King, laments wasting too many demonic energy points. He reveals he only has enough points to buy a single black box key. A sudden, sharp click sounds as Draxen unlocks the consented Demon King's black box. The black box opens, releasing glowing strands of film reels as a voice demands to see all its secrets. The swirling film reels surround Draxen as the voice commands the artifact to reveal everything. Draxen is shocked as he realizes the absolute unalterable truth of the black box. Sweating with realization, Draxen decides he must urgently notify the other Demon Kings of this truth. A sudden roar echoes as a subordinate frantically warns Draxen that the heroes have invaded. The subordinate continues explaining that the expedition is led by a powerful new 10-star hero. Majestic blonde hero clad in golden armor steps forward to lead the vanguard. The proud blonde warrior is officially introduced as Ralph Schmitz, the guildmaster. Standing before his army, the red-haired man remains engulfed in a spectacular aura of fiery power. Encouraged by the Phoenix, the knight passionately urges his fellow soldiers to launch their assault. A chorus of battle cries sounds as the rallied soldiers draw their swords to face the demons. With the fiery Phoenix avatar leading them, the soldiers confidently declare that the Demon King's treasure is theirs. The red-haired man privately notes that while their morale has returned, they cannot yet control the Phoenix's mana. As they walk, the red-haired man suggests finding additional reinforcements to secure their victory. Roselle smiles confidently, mentioning that a highly capable hero has just requested to join them. Looking back, the red-haired man is stunned to recognize the newcomer. Ralph Schmitz, the legendary 10-star shield master, stands ready with his massive golden shields. A pack of savage grey wolves leaps ferociously over the massive golden shields to attack. Standing as the unbreakable vanguard, Ralph Schmitz prepares to unleash his defensive revenge mission. A loud slam sounds as Ralph effortlessly blocks the attacking beast, dismissing the threat entirely. The monstrous face carved into the golden shield suddenly begins to glow with bright energy. A blinding shockwave erupts from the shield, instantly blasting the surrounding beasts away. The dust settles to reveal the battlefield cleared by Ralph's overwhelming defensive might. Ralph Schmitz stands proudly, known as the second strongest tank among the 10-star heroes. Observing the shield, the red-haired man inwardly reflects on how incredibly troublesome Ralph's impact-reflecting weapon is. He grimly recalls how this same hero mocked and defeated him in his previous life. Memory of Ralph's mocking face fuels the red-haired man's deep-seated anger. Though he desperately wants to tear Ralph apart, he reminds himself that Draxen is the immediate priority. Roselle explains that Ralph arrived late, prompting the red-haired man to wish he had delayed his own arrival. Raza laments that their combined forces could have easily won without any casualties. Walking through the cleared first floor, the red-haired man warns Roselle not to underestimate the Demon King. Roselle turns to him, expressing confusion at his cautious warning. The red-haired man explains that a dying Demon King always unleashes a hidden trump card. He contemplates the severe consequences if Draxen manages to reclaim the tower using demonic energy points. Dark foreboding text warns of the impending activation of Draxen's ultimate trump card. The heroes reach the 13th floor of the Beast Tower, confronting the Demon King on his throne. The soldiers enter, whispering in confusion about the lack of regular demons on the top floor. Holding a crackling red flame, Draxen mockingly welcomes the heroes and reveals he has prepared a special surprise. Sensing an immense buildup of demonic energy, Rosal realizes why the tower was empty of other demons.
Draxen charges a concentrated red sphere in his jaws, determined to wipe out the heroes at once.
Dark text reveals Draxen has gathered the power of all his vassals into a single attack. The red-haired man observes the loophole Draxen used to absorb an entire floor's worth of power. Draxen's eye glows crimson as he vows to slaughter the foolish heroes without leaving a trace. The group of heroes looks onward with tense expressions as the final clash begins. The red-haired man stands firm, sensing the immediate approach of the devastating blast. A terrifying roar echoes through the chamber as Draxen unleashes his massive reservoir of dark energy. Swirling currents of violent red power erupt from Draxen as he channels the collected souls of his vassals. The colossal beam of crimson energy charges directly towards Ralph Schmitz's golden shield. As some soldiers warn of the danger, others urge an immediate attack before the Demon King grows stronger. Suddenly, two advancing soldiers look back in sheer horror as a blinding red flash consumes the room. A terrifying explosion of crimson energy erupts, blasting the vanguard soldiers backward in a shockwave of absolute destruction. Amidst the flying bodies of his comrades, Ralph Schmitz stands firm behind his giant golden shields, his face turning pale with shock. The colossal red energy beam collides violently against the golden shields, unleashing a brilliant, crackling burst of defensive sparks. With a massive surge of power, the destructive energy is successfully deflected, shooting off harmlessly into the chamber's high ceiling. As the smoke begins to clear, the ominous silhouette of the beast Demon King stands tall amidst the lingering red haze. Unharmed by the deflected attack, the monstrous beast stands defiantly as green energy pillars flare up around his platform. The brown-haired knight and Roselle look on in sheer disbelief, horrified by how effortlessly the Demon King bypassed their magic. An ominous, deep crimson orb hovers in the darkness, signaling the true, terrifying awakening of the beast. The towering, wolf-like beast Demon King is fully revealed, radiating a suffocating pressure of pure demonic aura. The dark energy solidifies, confirming the terrifying return of the legendary beast Demon King to the battlefield. Enveloped in glowing red tendrils of energy, the demonic wolf master looms over the remaining heroes like a living nightmare. Surviving soldiers stand frozen in dread, staring up at the overwhelming horror of the Demon King's final form. The soldiers sweat profusely, choking on the poisonous, dense demonic energy that fills every corner of the room. Overwhelmed by the suffocating aura, several vanguard soldiers collapse onto the cold stone floor, desperately gasping for air. Suddenly, a bright flare of warmth erupts as majestic phoenix feathers scatter to push back the encroaching darkness. System notification announces the activation of high-rank defense magic, manifesting a giant pair of fiery phoenix wings as a protective barrier. Inside the warm, glowing shield, the suffocating pressure vanishes, leaving the rescued soldiers gasping in absolute shock. Saved from certain death, the weeping soldiers praise Pale's legendary power and vow never to forget his kindness. Pale, the red-haired man, looks back coldly, warning the weakened soldiers that they will only get in his way. Spreading his fiery wings, Pale commands the survivors to remain safely inside the barrier, prompting their grateful agreement. From his throne, the Beast Demon King peers down at the glowing shield, narrowing his eyes at the remaining resistance. Demon King notes that only 4 of them can still move, identifying Pale as the most annoying threat among them. Enveloped in bright orange flames, Pale stares back at the giant beast with a calm, calculating gaze. Bearing his massive fangs, the towering wolf beast demands to know the identity of the insolent red-haired hero. Pale simply responds with a cold, mocking smirk, completely unfazed by the Demon King's terrifying presence. Glowing eyes blazing with hatred, the Beast Demon King repeats his demand for Pale's identity. The beast unleashes a deafening roar, channeling the dark names of his ancient vassals. Accusing the heroes of stealing the phoenix, the enraged Wolf King leaps from his throne to crush them beneath his massive claws. Raising a gloved finger, Pale calmly activates sound removal magic to claim total control over the battlefield's noise. The Demon King's descent is halted mid-air as he collides silently against the shimmering sound-canceling barrier. Roselle praises Pale's quick thinking, noting that silencing the roar also prevents the enemies from hearing their spell chants. The tactical advantage is clear as the silence prevents the enemies from anticipating the hero's next magical coordinates. Taking advantage of the quiet, the heroes manifest high-rank binding magic, wrapping Draxen in heavy glowing golden chains. Draxen sneers at their petty tricks, mocking the pathetic insects for thinking a simple binding spell could hold him. With a violent flex of his monstrous muscles, the Wolf King shatters the golden chains into thousands of harmless shards. Breaking free instantly, the massive beast lunges directly downward, aiming a crushing blow at the red-haired hero. A sudden gasp escapes the heroes as the monstrous claw descends upon Pale with blinding speed. Draxen declares the battle to be a one-sided hunt, roaring his intent to tear Pale to pieces first. Smiling mockingly, Pale points to his ear, stating he cannot hear a single word of the beast's barking over the silence domain. A system notification confirms that the silence status remains permanently active on the frustrated, growling beast. Roselle and the brown-haired knight scream in terror as the Demon King's massive claw crashes down.
Pale dodges the devastating strike at the very last second, soaring upward on his fiery phoenix wings. The Demon King's strike shatters the stone floor, unleashing a violent shockwave where Pale stood a moment ago. The brown-haired knight panics at the beast's extreme speed, but Roselle firmly commands him to follow Pale's orders. Draxon leaps back into the air, unleashing a volley of massive red claw slashes at the flying hero. Swooping through the air like a streak of fire, Pale skillfully weaves through the deadly red arcs of energy. Enraged by his missed attacks, Draxon vows that none of the heroes will leave his tower alive. In a quiet moment of preparation, Pale explains to his allies that speed is the most critical element in defeating the Beast Demon King. Pale outlines his strategy to Rosal and Ralph Schmitz, emphasizing the need to bind the beast's feet to target his weakness. Though the brown-haired knight doubts his own reflexes, Pale reassures him that he will provide the perfect opening signal. Cargill questions the signal as the monstrous Draxon lunges at Pale with savage fury.
Pale skillfully maneuvers through the air, completely avoiding the beast's deadly red slashes.
Pale calmly reveals Ahriman's orb, which glows with an eerie purple flame in his hand. Draxon stares in sudden confusion, immediately recognizing the dark artifact as Ahriman's orb. Draxon questions its effectiveness, and Pale explains it reveals the master's location to vassals. Draxon retorts that there are no vassals left to aid Pale anyway. Shrouded in crackling blue lightning, Hillenkargel charges directly into the battlefield. Draxon reacts in agonizing pain, feeling as if his head is about to explode. Hillen angrily warns against using the orb again, while Draxon curses him in pain. Draxon is shocked a hero became a vassal, and Pale mockingly suggests trying it. Pale warns Draxon of survival as Hillenkargel descends in a beam of light. Hillen thrusts his sword directly downward with immense lightning-infused speed. Hillen slashes cleanly across Draxon's face in a crackling burst of energy. Draxon recovers quickly, mockingly calling their best efforts pathetic. Golden magical arrays suddenly fill the sky above the defiant Demon King. Draxon looks up in sudden surprise at the massive magical energy gathering above him. Pale instructs Roselle to strike as soon as Hillenkargel creates an opening. Pale urges Rosal to vent the deep-seated grudge of her lost eye. Floating amidst the glowing arrays, Rosal curses the Demon King for her injury. Roselle declares she will exhaust her remaining mana to destroy him in one blow. Roselle invokes her ultimate spell, the devastating satellite cannon. A colossal beam of brilliant golden light cascades down toward the arena. A blinding flash of light completely consumes the chamber. The colossal blast makes direct impact with Draxon's roaring mouth. Hillenkargel and Pale watch the unfolding destruction from a distance. Ralph Schmitz and Rosal shield themselves behind massive golden barriers. A violent, fiery explosion erupts as the devastating blast settles. The heavy smoke clears to reveal a shattered, hollowed-out crater. A severely wounded Draxon struggles to his feet, cursing the heroes in rage. Pale grimly notes that the Demon King won't go down so easily. Draxon lets out a savage roar, demanding they remember his true identity. Draxon violently retaliates, shattering Ralph's shields and delivering a bloody slash. Draxon slashes both Rosal and Hillen, proclaiming his dimension-conquering intent. Draxon seethes with rage, swearing that none of them will survive. Draxon lunges wildly at Pale, calling upon his vassal's name. Pale smirks, noting the proud king has devolved into a rabid dog. Draxon fiercely barks his intent to tear Pale apart. Pale commands him to shut up, promising to unleash his true trump card.
Pale manifests a fiery orb containing the stolen power of the Phoenix.
Draxon recognizes the Phoenix's aura in sheer sudden terror. Draxon looks on in helpless horror as the fire approaches. A giant burst of white-hot phoenix fire engulfs the beast. Screaming in pain, Draxon stubbornly vows that he won't die.
Draxon is blown backward as Ralph watches in utter astonishment.
A magical coordinate reveals Draxon's tail as his critical weakness. Rosal vows not to miss, preparing her binding magic. Roselle successfully wraps the panic Demon King in heavy golden links. With the beast bound, Hillenkargel prepares his final lightning-infused sword strike.
Realizing his imminent doom, Draxon screams in desperation.
Hillenkargel delivers the decisive lightning-imbued slash across the bound beast. Shrouded in crackling blue lightning, Hillenkargel continues his relentless assault on the beast. Pale smirks, expressing his intent to fully exploit the power of the Phoenix. With a bright flash of lightning, Hillen strikes down with massive force as his attack lands. The massive Wolf Demon King roars in agonizing pain as blood splatters from the fatal strike. The beast's severed head rolls onto the bloody ground, signaling the definitive end of the terrifying monster. A red-haired soldier and his companion gasp in disbelief, realizing that Hillenkargel has actually slain the Demon King of Beasts. Hillen triumphantly holds up the beast's severed tail while the soldiers erupt in celebration of his legendary victory. Behind his victorious facade, Hillen greedily relishes the crowd's adoration, desiring even more worship as the strongest hero. Bleeding but ecstatic, Hillen lets out a crazed laugh, declaring himself to be the greatest hero in history. Sudden tremors shake the chamber as the soldiers panic, desperately urging everyone to grab the treasure and escape the collapsing tower.
Standing before the giant wolf beast's head, Pale coldly questions if a second chance would ever be given to a monster like Draxon. Pale turns away indifferently as the beast's remains crumble, noting that any second chance would have been entirely meaningless. The massive tower violently implodes as a voice notes that the stubborn beast clung to his title until the very end. Amidst the settling dust, Rosal accuses someone of planning this entire scenario from the very beginning. Roselle suspects Hillen took the credit for the kill, though Hillen nervously claims it was all a misunderstanding. Roselle quietly reflects on her suspicions regarding Hillen's sudden arrival, though she grudgingly admits she owes him her life. In a comical moment, Chibi Roselle demands the beast's carcass for herself, assuming Hillen has no objections. Soldier calls out to Roselle, alerting her to an unexpected discovery in the wreckage of the tower. The soldiers locate the missing prince and princesses resting unconscious on the grass outside. Approaching the survivors, Roselle stops in sudden realization as she recognizes one of the sleeping princesses. The unconscious girl is identified as Lavinia Akan, the third princess of the Akan kingdom. Chibi Roselle screams in absolute shock, demanding to know why Lavinia is in such a dangerous place. Lavinia mutters about monsters, prompting Roselle and the soldiers to scold her for recklessly seeking chimera materials. The surrounding soldiers sweat profusely, completely bewildered by how the two are able to understand each other's chaotic conversation. Roselle asks if the beast harmed her, but Lavinia explains she was simply trading monsters for money. Pale sighs in exasperation, finally understanding where Draxon got his wealth, and suggests they head back immediately. Pale marvels at the princess's sheer madness in making deals with the Demon King just for her research. The scene shifts to a grand council room filled with glowing holograms of shadowy figures. A shadowy figure notes that the Lost Beast Tower was a highly valuable hunting ground for their faction. The council discusses how the expedition succeeded despite their efforts to keep the legendary 10-star heroes in check.
Figures express deep concern over this mysterious hero who claims ownership of the Phoenix.
A spiky-haired silhouette declares that they must tighten their control over the heroes once again. A menacing figure with glowing white eyes looms in the darkness, plotting their next move. The Dark Council reaches a consensus to immediately investigate the true identity of the Phoenix's owner. The scene transitions to the lavish Ormus Royal Banquet Hall, where a celebratory feast is underway. The emotional king tearfully thanks the heroes for saving his children and invites them to enjoy the banquet. Roselle sits alone with a cocktail, dryly noting that the banquet feels rather gloomy despite the delicious drinks. Hillen walks over to compliment Roselle's dress, prompting a sarcastic exchange between the two comrades. Roselle takes a sip, wondering where Pale is, as she has urgent questions regarding his Phoenix power. A group of enthusiastic soldiers approaches, eagerly demanding to see Pale so they can properly thank him. The elegant Ralph Schmitz praises the Phoenix's owner, leaving the surrounding soldiers speechless that he can actually speak. Hillen sheepishly raises his hands to announce that Pale has already left, disappointing the excited crowd. The scene shifts to the snowy peak of the Urzest mountain range where Burzez's tower stands. Outside the Dark Tower, a voice welcomes the true Demon King back from his arduous mission. Inside, the dark-haired elf maid is stunned to learn that her master successfully executed the beast. The maid panics comedically over the impending political aftermath, while her master dryly commands her to stop staring. Seated on his throne, the dark-haired Demon King explains he must avoid suspicion from the other rulers. The comical elf maid is instantly relieved, finally understanding his logical reason for returning so quickly. Staring ahead with intense focus, the dark-haired Demon King reflects on the lessons he learned during the intense battle. The final system message echoes his silent, determined realization that he is still far too weak. Burzy reflects that Demon King Draxon was already severely weakened from a previous hero expedition when he fell. Pale recalls Draxon's desperate final strike, noting it did surprisingly little damage to him. Holding the small, glowing phoenix chick, Burz realizes he must strengthen both his own power and the bird's. A holographic message from the white-haired Demon King arrives, confirming Burzy's suspicion that contact would be made. The white-haired Demon King requests an urgent meeting, catching Burz off guard with the suddenness. The white-haired Demon King solemnly breaks the news of Demon King Draxon's death. While internally gloating about his deed, Burz outwardly feigns absolute shock and disbelief at the news. The white-haired Demon King reveals that a new Demon King has already descended to replace Draxon. Burz is deeply unsettled by how incredibly fast a replacement Demon King has been appointed. Burzy wonders if Archduke Alkine anticipated this, but reassures himself that no evidence links him to the crime. Resolving to remain confident and calm, Burz walks into the Grand Council chamber of the Demon Kings. The pink-haired succubus queen addresses Burzy by name, acknowledging his growing reputation. She proudly introduces herself to Burzy as the ruler of the Blood Moon clan. Burzy dryly confirms his identity as he takes a seat at the round table. The succubus queen narrows her eyes, finding something intriguing or suspicious about Burz. The werewolf Demon King loudly declares that Draxon's defeat is highly suspicious, pointing toward a trespasser. Werewolf Demon King commands the succubus queen to investigate the matter and closely monitor Burzy. She sinisterly plots to toy with Berzé, believing his defensive nature makes him easy to manipulate. As the host prepares to begin, the meeting is suddenly interrupted by approaching footsteps. Walking forward, the succubus queen mockingly comments on how interesting it is that they gather over a single death. She continues her provocative walk, expressing her amusement at the entire situation. Standing confidently before the gathered kings, the succubus queen commands the room's attention with her presence. She leans in close to tease Buriz, asking if he has any clues about the culprit. The succubus queen openly flirts with Buriz, boldly complimenting his good looks.
Repulsed by her advances, Buriz sharply slaps her hand away and demands she not touch him.
The succubus queen is utterly shell-shocked that her charm was so violently rejected. Turns out being a literal queen of lust doesn't guarantee a match on this realm's dating apps.
Buriz ruthlessly demands she keep her hands off him, calling her an ugly bitch.
Reyna coldly commands Vivian Blunt to return to her seat, putting an end to the scene. Reyna states the dual purpose of the meeting while demanding everyone maintain their royal dignity. The white-haired Demon King is surprised to learn that Reyna is the one overseeing the council. Vivian mockingly asks if Reyna also desires Buriz, earning a swift, annoyed retort from the Ice Queen. The meeting officially resumes as the host shifts the discussion to the heroes of the 10 stars. The meeting progresses routinely until the discussion shifts to the mysterious new master of the Phoenix. Disagreements arise, but they ultimately resolve to carefully investigate this powerful new threat. Buriz realizes he must be extremely cautious about exposing his face after operating his file. Buriz keeps a watchful eye on Vivian Blunt, knowing she has a secret mission from Archduke Arcane. Showing no concern for the gravity of the situation, Vivian playfully blows a kiss. Observing her childish antics, Buriz decides she is not a threat worth worrying about. Finding the tower guards temporarily absent, the captive blonde girl nervously checks for any remaining demons. Realizing Princess Ernand is missing as well, she seizes the perfect opportunity to make her escape. She focuses her eyes on the giant double doors, knowing freedom lies just beyond them. A sudden thud echoes as someone steps into her path, demanding to know where she's going. The cream-haired summoner girl conjures her elemental spirits to block the exit, warning her of the dangers outside. Refusing to stay imprisoned, the blonde girl ignites her blade with blue fire, preparing to fight. The summoner girl stares firmly back, unwavering in her duty to prevent the dangerous escape. Determined to regain her freedom, the blonde girl prepares herself for a fierce struggle. Suddenly, Burz's adjutant Gordon steps between them, casually giving the girl permission to leave. Gordon dismissively mutters that keeping humans is nothing but trouble, washing his hands of her fate because underpaid labor should not include babysitting runaway captives. The blonde girl is left utterly bewildered by their bizarre hospitality and sudden indifference to her escape. Suspecting a trap but unwilling to waste the chance, she decides to flee while they are careless. Resolving to seek support at Holton Walk, the blonde girl prepares to traverse the Urgis Mountains alone. Pushing against the massive exit doors triggers a violent surge of dark magic. The escapee gasps in shock as the door's defensive magic unexpectedly flares to life before her. A violent, magical explosion throws her backward with a scream as the onlookers watch in horror. Gordon calmly explains that touching the sealed doors triggers a dangerous, defensive magical reaction. The blonde girl lies unconscious on the floor, covered in a lingering purple magic haze. Nan states that escaping is impossible without direct permission from the Demon King. Despite the maid's frantic warnings about the danger, Ernand prepares to touch the door herself. The massive doors slowly creak open, letting in a cold gust of wind. Gordon is left completely dumbfounded as the door's seal responds to the princess's touch. Ernand sheepishly confesses that she acted entirely on a whim without expecting it to work. Panicking at her sudden success, Ernand quickly attempts to pull the giant door shut. Her attempt is cut short as a sudden, firm tap of a black-gloved hand stops the closing door. The Demon King confronts Ernand, asking if she was trying to escape. Gordon formally welcomes the Demon King back, leaving the princess standing in silent shock. The Demon King demands a prompt explanation for the chaotic scene in his absence. Learning of Kaede's escape attempt, the Demon King commands Gordon to lock her in the dungeon. Gordon questions Ernand's ability to operate the doors, prompting a confused reaction from the Demon King. Gordon reveals that the tower has already recognized Ernand, shocking the Demon King. The Demon King notes that Ernand's contract with a high-ranking spirit makes escaping quite easy. The Demon King deeply questions why the princess remains at the tower despite having escape options. The Demon King continues to ponder Ernand's true underlying motives. Ernand visits Cade in the quiet, torch-lit depths of the underground prison. Kaede warns Ernand that the Demon King's apparent kindness is likely part of a scheme. Sensing a hidden presence watching her from the shadows, Ernand suddenly turns her head. Ernand shocks Kaede by revealing she entered the Demon King's tower of her own free will. The Demon King is startled, realizing Ernand has successfully detected his hidden surveillance. Ernand confesses she refused to go back because she utterly despises the royal family and her father. The Demon King wonders if Ernand spoke those words intentionally for him to hear. Kaede reminds Ernand of her outstanding talent and her destiny to become Hilderan's next queen. Kaede argues that throwing away a crown to serve a demon is completely illogical.
Hernan points out the bizarre anomaly that none of her 61 siblings' names are known.
Kaede falters in shock, noting that the official number of royal siblings is far lower. Ernand confirms the discrepancy, implying a massive dark cover-up within the royal family. Hernan suggests that Kaede ask the emperor directly about this secret once she returns. Kaede frantically asks if Ernand has no regard for their kingdom's reputation and royal honor. Hernan notes that a princess who ran away to avoid an arranged marriage has no room to lecture. Ernand playfully concludes her tease, leaving Kaede thoroughly embarrassed by her hypocrisy. Kaede blushes furiously behind the cell bars, completely embarrassed by Ernand's sharp teasing. Hernan laughs off the tension and bids Kaede a cheerful farewell until tomorrow. The Demon King sits in deep reflection over the dark secrets of Hildren's royal family.
The Demon King notes that this secret is guarded closely by high-ranking nobility.
The blue water spirit floats excitedly, inviting the others to search for spirit blossoms. Hernan happily chats with the Demon King, noting how active he has been lately. The Demon King suddenly calls Hernan by her full name, catching her off guard. The Demon King coldly declares that he does not believe everything she said is the truth. Demanding the truth, the Demon King conjures purple flames and threatens her with severe consequences. Hernan stares back in absolute terror as the Demon King's threatening aura flares. The Demon King looms over her with glowing purple eyes, demanding she reveal her secrets.
The two stand in silent, tense confrontation amidst the vast, desolate snow mountain.
The Demon King and Hernan stand in tense silence amidst the vast, snowy Urgest Mountains. From a distance, a masked spy watches them closely from behind a snowy peak. Peering through his binoculars, the masked spy confirms he has successfully located the Demon King of Urdist. The black-haired Demon King commands Hernan to reveal her hidden secrets, threatening her with purple flames. Overwhelmed by his threatening aura, the blonde-haired princess hesitates nervously under his intense gaze. Sweating profusely, Hernan stares back in deep anxiety as she tries to find her words. Seeing her hesitation, the horned Demon King coldly decides that he must take matters into his own hands. With a swift motion, the Demon King unleashes a powerful blast of purple magic. The Demon King aims a devastating spell at the peak, promising to hear her explanation after dealing with the nuisance. The masked spy leaps back in absolute shock, realizing the Demon King detected his presence despite his concealment arts. He watches in dismay as the magic blast obliterates his clone, reducing it to mere dust. Turning his head with a look of pure disdain, the Demon King scoffs at the spy's deceptive techniques. Hernan curiously questions if the intruder was a hero, while the Demon King confirms his annoyance with the persistent spy. Hernan deduces that the stealthy intruder must be Dapner Filion, a renowned hero of the 10 Stars. She explains that the hero operates as a highly skilled mercenary specializing primarily in stealth and reconnaissance. The Demon King silently recalls Dapner from his past life, remembering how his secrets were once leaked by him. Hernan voices her concern for the safety of his tower, but the Demon King confidently reassures her. High in the frozen peaks of the Urgest Mountains, the towering dark fortress of Burge stands. Searching through his binoculars, the spy is utterly baffled by his inability to locate the hidden tower. A system notification confirms that the remote control function has successfully rendered the tower completely invisible. Showing her a holographic screen, the Demon King explains he has hidden the tower from the hero's sight. He monitors the steady drain on his demonic energy, noting the tower will remain hidden until points deplete. Bringing his attention back to the princess, the Demon King sternly demands she reveal all her hidden secrets. Facing the threat of being banned from the tower, Hernan lowers her head in deep, silent conflict. Yielding to his pressure, Hernan finally agrees to disclose the dark truth about her true identity. Hernan asks the shocked Demon King if he has ever heard of the legendary spell called the World Tree's Child. Frustrated by his failure, the masked spy treks back through the snowy mountain landscape. From high above, two of the Demon King's monstrous guards watch the retreating spy closely. Sounding a low hum, the large blue-skinned demon guard remains highly suspicious of the intruder. Receiving a report that the fleeing spy was indeed a clone, the Demon King orders his guards to track down the others. The status screen displays the steady, continuous consumption of his remaining demonic energy points. The Demon King reflects on the narrow escape, realizing his fortress remains vulnerable to the hero's group. He firmly resolves that he must take swift action to eliminate the threat of Dapner Filion. Ernand reveals that the spy was most likely dispatched by her own royal father to locate her. The Demon King asks if her father's persistence is tied to her status or the World Tree's child. Nand warns him that her tale is quite long, but the Demon King patiently assures her he has time. She explains that Hilderon was once a mighty empire that slowly fell to a mere kingdom after endless warfare. She reveals that her father desperately desires to reclaim the glorious prosperity of those long-lost imperial days. To achieve this, her father believed a single genius magus was far more valuable than any massive army. Hernan notes that magical geniuses cannot be manufactured through education, and natural ones are extremely rare to find. A horrifying realization strikes the Demon King as he begins to understand her family's dark methods.
Ernand explains that her father resorted to using a forbidden spell to create artificially enhanced humans like herself. She describes the horrific process of forcibly injecting mana into fetuses to artificially cultivate high magical sensitivity. The Demon King questions the toll of such experiments, and Ernand grimly confirms that countless mothers and children perished. Ernand adds that the few survivors either lived with severe deformities or suffered from incredibly short lifespans. As she speaks, a massive tentacled green eye monster suddenly looms over the mountain peaks behind him. Realizing the monster was drawn to her mana, the Demon King orders the princess to step aside. Surprising the Demon King, the blonde princess steps forward to face the monster herself. Summoning her blue water spirit, Ernand reveals she was engineered to be the ultimate, highly successful genius. With immense power, the blue spirit unleashes a devastating beam directly at the monstrous giant eye. A devastating red energy beam forcefully pierces the center of the giant eye monster. Her fingers gesture quickly as a glowing blue magic circle crackles with immense power. With a sudden shock, Ernand conjures a massive wall of frozen ice spikes to finish the beast. Ernand looks forward with determined eyes as blue water magic cloaks her outstretched hand. Giant pillars of ice surge upward, leaving the Demon King watching her power from above. Sharp pillars of ice brutally impale the giant eye monster, instantly defeating the threat. Demon King is astounded that a human could defeat a top-tier monster in a single blow, understanding her father's obsession. Ernand sadly looks down, admitting that her incredible strength is merely a bloodstained power. Given her unparalleled strength and high position in line for the throne, the Demon King questions her refusal to return. The Demon King remains deeply skeptical, questioning if she truly expects him to believe her tale. Ernand insists she is telling the truth, suggesting he use his magic tool on her, but the Demon King explains it is useless against spiritists. Flaring his purple magic, the Demon King demands her true motives, threatening to show her his terrifying demonic wrath if she lies. Ernand pouts with puffed cheeks, utterly annoyed and frustrated by his stubborn disbelief. Ernand suddenly reaches out and tightly grabs his black-gloved hand, shocking him instantly. Ernand presses his hand directly to her chest, unleashing a vibrant wave of rainbow mana that leaves him utterly stunned. Thoroughly panicked and startled, the Demon King demands to know what she's doing. But Ernand commands him to listen to her heartbeat to verify her honesty, leaving the Demon King completely bewildered. A sudden rustle sounds as a glowing pink phoenix spirit dramatically manifests within her soul. Utilizing the phoenix spirit, the Demon King directly senses Ernand's genuine heartbeat, pulse, and deep-seated emotions. He perceives her complex emotional state, sensing a heavy mixture of anger, deep sorrow, and sudden embarrassment. Blushing intensely, Ernand explains that spirits use mana vibrations to share thoughts, proving her absolute truthfulness. Sensing her pure emotions, the Demon King silently concedes that she is indeed telling the truth. Ernand softly admits that she immediately knew the truth from the moment they first met. Ernand recalls realizing that he was unlike any other Demon King, hoping he would help her. The Demon King is utterly confused, questioning how on earth he could possibly help her. Ernand desperately begs him for help, revealing her ultimate goal to destroy her father and Hilderin. The Demon King sweat drops in absolute shock, realizing this shocking desire is also completely genuine. He silently marvels at the terrifying realization that her destructive wishes are completely sincere. A gentle breeze blows across the vast, silent, snowy mountains as the two stand together. The Demon King decides to place his trust in her, prompting a quiet, grateful thank you. The blue water spirit is left utterly flabbergasted by their sudden, intimate display of trust. The water spirit frantically interrogates them for getting so close, while a flustered Ernand frantically defends herself. The water spirit smugly teases them, joking that communication apparently requires a lot of physical contact. Acknowledging her sincerity, the Demon King suggests returning to the tower to finish their conversation. The Demon King commands her to locate the real body of Daphne Filion for capture. Quick footsteps sound in the heavy snow as the hunt for the spy begins. The hero Daphne swiftly retreats down the treacherous snowy slopes of the mountain peak. Daphne uses specialized cloning magic, allowing as many duplicates to share power and search efficiently. Although a high number of clones weakens their power, it allows him to survey massive terrain simultaneously. His radar screen sweeps the snowy terrain, marking several coordinates with glowing yellow pins. Daphne is utterly baffled how they searched the entire area without finding a single trace of the tower. Recalls calculating the route using information provided by Hill and Cargill and Wharton Colo. A single bright yellow pin marks the exact coordinate of the hidden tower's location. A sudden swoosh sounds as the faint glowing outline of the tower manifests before him. He is absolutely certain that the hidden fortress must be located somewhere in the immediate area. Seeing absolutely nothing in front of him, Daphne's sweat drops, highly confused by the complete lack of visual trace. A sudden beep warns of danger as a red skull pin flares on his map. Daphne is horrified, realizing his specialized clones, which usually bypass high-level threats, are being destroyed. Red skull alerts rapidly multiply across his radar screen, showing that his clones are being completely obliterated. The massive blue demon guard proudly reports to the Demon King that they have swiftly eliminated all of Daphne's clones.
Confident in his remaining demonic points, the black-haired Demon King smiles as his system confirms the order to eliminate all targets. While the blonde Princess Ernin prepares her blue ice magic circle, the Demon King silently resolves to subjugate Daphne after the clones are destroyed. With a confident grin, the Demon King smugly anticipates gaining absolute control over the entire continent. Gordon suddenly manifests on a holographic screen, frantically warning the Demon King of a critical problem with the tower. Gordon warns that the mana ghost is overheating while a panicked worker screams behind him. System notifications alert the sweating Demon King of a severe tower overload due to prolonged invisibility, leaving him with less than 10 minutes. The Demon King grows tense, realizing the tower's location will be fully exposed if he fails to catch Daphne in time. Gordon continues his panic report, warning the Demon King about the rising threat outside the tower walls. A visual scan reveals that the snowy mountains surrounding the fortress are completely overrun with invading clones. Cloaked in white hoods and gas masks, the silent clones patrol the frozen mountain range in search of the tower. Determined to find the fortress, the hooded Daphne recalculates his search just as warning skull alerts begin flashing red. Spreading his massive dark wings, the Demon King commands the Horned Goblin crew to search the area and protect the tower. The Demon King barks orders at Gordon, demanding the immediate coordinates of all destroyed clones to track the real body. Studying a massive blue holographic map, the Demon King deduces that the real body must remain close to the clones. The scanning system locks on, pinpointing the target coordinates directly in the center of the destroyed clone's path. Daphne freezes in terror as the Demon King's menacing face suddenly manifests right before him, confirming the tower's proximity. As Daphne prepares to escape and deliver his report, the blue-skinned water spirit Niruniel silently materializes behind him. A silent high-stakes standoff ensues as Daphne is locked under the piercing gaze of the blue-haired water spirit. Confirming she has located the real body, the blue water spirit unleashes a bright blue magical circle to trap him. A massive, freezing blast of ice magic heavily tears through the narrow, snowy canyon. Daphne swiftly slides backward across the slippery snow to narrowly dodge the lethal ass attack. Gritting her teeth, the blue-haired water spirit shouts in frustration as she realizes the spy has managed to escape. Swooping through the air at high speed, the Demon King demands that Ernon immediately point out the target's location. Pointing forward, the blonde Princess Ernon calls out to Niruniel, guiding the water spirit toward the fleeing target. Spreading his dark wings, the Demon King tracks a bright blue magical trail stretching across the snow below. A sudden, powerful blast of magic erupts directly in front of Daphne, forcefully knocking him onto his back. Bathed in a warm, warning orange glow, the cornered Daphne stares in sheer panic at his blocked path. Sweat dripping from his mask, Daphne looks up helplessly as a towering presence completely cuts off his escape. Enveloped in soaring columns of flame, the Demon King descends majestically from the sky and calls out Daphne's name. With the miniature fiery phoenix perched on his forehead, the Demon King coldly offers Daphne a simple choice: to obey or die. Daphne looks up in absolute shock, petrified to witness the majestic form of a phoenix blazing across the sky. Daphne frantically reviews his information, highly confused to see a phoenix owner other than the rumored Farah. A cold sweat breaks over Daphne as the terrifying realization that Farah is actually the Demon King begins to dawn. Daphne's eye dilates in pure horror as he realizes that Hill and Cargill is secretly working under the Demon King. Recalling the water spirit and princess, Daphne is horrified to realize they're also in league with the Demon King. Defiantly refusing to submit, Daphne leaps away, determined to sell this massive secret for a lifetime of luxury. Weaving past his remaining clones, Daphne scrambles to make a desperate escape through the deep snow. A sudden flash of bright purple and pink light halts Daphne in his tracks, leaving him utterly confused. A dark blood-red splat materializes in the air, conveying a single mocking insult to his futile escape. The ominous crimson message reminds the cornered spy that he was already given his final choice. A giant swirling vortex of dark purple magic erupts, ruthlessly consuming Daphne and his remaining clones. With a piercing, cold blue eye, the Demon King delivers his final command for the 10-star hero to vanish. Completely engulfed in the destructive magical storm, Daphne marvels in terror at the freshman Demon King's absurd power. As his specialized gas mask fractures under the immense pressure, Daphne bitterly curses the reckless mission he accepted. The protective ice barrier collapses, leaving Daphne to deeply regret not fleeing the dangerous assignment much sooner. Swirling black shadow tendrils slither through the freezing air as the magic completely consumes him. In his final moment, Daphne screams in absolute agony and regret as the purple blast obliterates him. High above the night sky, a glowing magical green bird flies toward the distant castles of the kingdom of Hilderin. A messenger kneels in the Grand Column Palace, informing the king that Daphne's report has successfully reached intelligence. Wearing a large jeweled crown, the blonde, white-bearded king eagerly celebrates receiving the exact coordinates of the hidden tower. Shocked by the sudden destruction, the road messenger reports that Daphne's mana bird caught fire and vanished upon arrival. The white-bearded king reels in shock, realizing the sudden death of the mana bird carries a grim meaning. The messenger confirms that Daphne has suffered the same fate as the bird, dying at the hands of the Demon King. Trembling in anger and regret, the king admits he deeply underestimated the power of the new Demon King.
Standing before his advisors, the furious king orders an immediate summoning of all 10-star heroes from the Hero Guild. Seething with pure rage, the king vows to personally slay the Demon King and rescue his daughter. A colossal explosion rips through the barren landscape, spewing a massive cloud of dark smoke. Panting heavily on the scorched, cracked earth, the exhausted Black-Winged Demon King struggles to catch his breath after the battle.
Black-haired Demon King grimly notes that while the Phoenix's added power is unimaginably immense, the resulting fatigue is equally overwhelming.
Slumped forward, the exhausted Demon King notes that the severe strain far exceeded his expectations. The blonde Princess Ernand catches the collapsing Demon King, frantically asking if he is unharmed.
Spotting smoke rising from her knees, the Demon King points out that she is burning herself on the molten ground. Smiling through the pain, Ernand reassures him that her water spirit magic will easily heal her burns. Ernand softly adds that she knows he refuses to show vulnerability with potential enemy orcs lurking nearby. The black-haired Demon King quietly reacts to her insight, realizing she understands him surprisingly well. A shocking newspaper headline reports that dozens of succubi have invaded the royal palace. The printed photograph captures winged succubi swarming the high towers of the royal fortress. The news reports rising public anxiety, with citizens demanding that all Demon Kings be hunted. Gripping the crumpled newspaper in a tight white-gloved fist, the white-haired man angrily mutters Vivian's name. Trembling with frustration, the white-haired man angrily reminds someone that he explicitly forbade sending vassal troops outside the tower. Swirling her wine, the pink-haired succubus queen haughtily retorts that as a sovereign queen, she answers to no one. Sitting across the massive circular table, the white-haired man warns of rising human vigilance while the queen dismisses his concerns. Smugly sipping her wine, the succubus queen declares heroes to be mere prey, calling the palace clash simple bad luck. Facepalm in frustration, the white-haired man calls her a scatterbrain nympho, sparking an outraged reaction from the offended queen. Standing up in a fury, the succubus queen proudly declares that she is actually the ultimate nympho. Amused by her absurd outburst of pride, the white-haired man breaks into a brief laugh. The white-haired man asks Vivian how many heroes she thinks exist in this current dangerous dimension. Vivian guesses there might be around 50 heroes in a reign, finding his extreme caution highly unnecessary. Laughing, the white-haired man remarks that the Archduke clearly kept her completely in the dark about this world. With a calm grin, the white-haired man reveals that there are currently over 4,000 registered heroes here. Stunned and sweating, Vivian accuses him of joking, but he points out a limited world would have fallen long ago. Terribly shaken, Vivian stammers about the Archduke's promises as the white-haired man explains that hero encounters are a daily reality. Vivian recalls the imposing Archduke reassuring her that conquering a reign would be an easy task for her. She remembers the Archduke promising her his rank if she succeeded, while also ordering her to spy on Deus. Back in the present, the white-haired man easily guesses that she was promised a promotion and ordered to spy on Burj Deus. Startled, Vivian demands to know how he knows her secret orders, while he smugly explains it is a tactic he uses too. Pointing a glowing, magically flame-covered finger, the white-haired man coldly explains he discards his informants like trash. Gasping in horror, Vivian is ruthlessly slammed to the ground as the white-haired man unleashes his magic. A sudden wave of pure shock and terror echoes throughout the dimly lit chamber. Looking down on her with utter contempt, the white-haired man declares that the foolish succubus queen has been abandoned. With a menacing shadowed glare and a glowing green eye, he demands absolute thoughtless obedience from her. Pinning her to the floor, he demands to know if she understands, leaving the terrified queen trembling in fear.
Trembling under his overwhelming aura, she weakly murmurs her complete submission to his absolute rule.
Grand circular council chamber falls into a heavy, silent stillness after the tense confrontation. Sitting alone at the head of the circular table, the white-haired man smiles with quiet satisfaction. The morning newspaper announces the tragic death of hero Daphne Filion and the exposure of the Hidden Tower's coordinates. Reports circulate that anxiety is spreading across the continent as the Hero Guild prepares to invade the tower. Staring at the news, the white-haired man mutters in frustration that this chaotic outcome is not what he envisioned. Looking at the spilled red wine, the white-haired man notes that the easily manipulated succubus queen was never his main concern. The white-haired man identifies his true obstacle as Burj Deus, the formidable and arrogant black flame dragon. Cracked magic mirror shines brightly, signaling that a difficult, unavoidable decision must be made. Staring through a cracked monocle, the white-haired man grimly resolves to eliminate his troublesome target. Over a blazing hearth, a large metal pot filled with savory soup bubbles warmly. Glowing spherical lanterns hang elegantly from the wooden beams of a cozy, rustic cabin ceiling. Slowly opening his eyes, the disoriented red-haired man weakly wonders about his current location. Blonde Princess Hernan warmly welcomes the awakened Demon King, offering him some freshly prepared soup. The red-haired man wonders if he is inside his own tower, and Hernan happily confirms she decorated her fourth-floor cabin beautifully. The red-haired man asks how they safely entered the tower, and Ernan reassures him that they slipped in undetected. Hernan happily explains how she and Niruniel sneaked into the tower through a window while Gordon was away, earning his quiet praise.
Staring at his hands, the red-haired man marvels at the incredible surge of power within his supposedly exhausted body.
The blue-haired spirit Niruniel explains she restored him with her mana, shocking the red-haired Demon King. Niruniel explains that absorbing a summoning beast enabled the red-haired Demon King to absorb mana and use spirit communication. Embarrassed and flustered, the chibi blue-haired water spirit panics over how the Demon King touched and hugged her. The red-haired man tells Ernan to keep his weakness a secret to protect his leadership. Ernan agrees to keep the secret on the condition that he grants her a favor, leaving him curious. Smiling brightly, the blonde Princess Ernan cutely demands that he grant her one wish in the future. The red-haired man agrees to grant her wish as long as it remains within reason. A holographic screen appears as Gordon warns of an urgent problem while the blue-haired spirit takes her leave. Gordon urgently reports that the Hilderin Kingdom has located their tower and is restarting the hero's journey. The red-haired man reads a newspaper article detailing how Daphne Philion revealed the tower's location before dying. The red-haired man realizes his enemy must have sent the message before they met, bypassing his carrier pigeon defense. He notes that his true identity as the Phoenix Master remains hidden, wondering if it is a blessing. Ernan looks at the holographic screen in sudden shock as she recognizes a picture in the report. Gordon explains that this massive hero's journey will gather 10-star heroes and take 6 months to prepare. The red-haired man realizes that they have only 6 months before an unavoidable confrontation begins. He notes that simple tricks will no longer work against multiple 10-star heroes marching on his tower. A massive, relentless army is depicted marching toward the tower, destined to arrive in just 6 months. The grim vision depicts a defeated armored demon king fearing another painful death at the hero's hands. The red-haired man sweatily resolves to find any possible way to overcome this looming threat. Ernan tells the black-haired man that his dark spiritist subordinate is the key to solving their crisis. The black-haired man stares in absolute disbelief at her unexpected proposal. Finding the ridiculous name childishly amusing, the black-haired man smiles as his previous tension completely fades away. Thanking her for easing his worries, the black-haired man calls for an immediate strategy meeting. He silently vows never to crumble before obtaining absolute revenge against the heroes who once killed him. Ernan shockingly proposes that they stop the hero's journey by kidnapping her younger sister, Princess Elena. The black-haired man is completely dumbfounded by her bizarre suggestion to kidnap her own sister. Ernan enthusiastically declares that they must save Elena in order to halt the impending hero's journey. Grabbing his gloved hand with immense determination, Ernan loudly demands his immediate cooperation. The black-haired man recalls Princess Elena, whom he had originally planned to kidnap himself. Ernan explains that despite having different mothers, she and Princess Elena are incredibly close. Ernan worries about Elena, noting the newspaper reported her kidnapping by the Demon King of Absolute Hardness. The black-haired man questions her worry, but Ernan insists other Demon Kings treat hostages far more cruelly. Ernan explains that Elena is one of the children subjected to magic that forcibly increases mana sensitivity. Ernan sadly describes how this excessive sensitivity left Princess Elena with a frail body restricted from magic in the outdoors. Ernan explains that staying in Deus's low mana tower would allow young Elena to safely learn to control her mana. Ernan confidently guarantees that Princess Elena will eventually grow to become an incredibly powerful ally. The black-haired man silently considers how useful another powerful ally would be for their defense. The black-haired man points out that rescuing princesses is hero work, so Ernan suggests manipulating a hero into doing it. The black-haired man sweatily notes her bossy nature, which Ernan proudly attributes to her royal princess heritage. The black-haired man orders Gordon to have Hill and Cargill organize a hero's journey to rescue the 13th princess. The long-haired subordinate shouts in absolute shock at the proposal to rescue another princess. Standing atop a desolate, wind-swept mountain peak, the spiky tower of absolute hardness looms menacingly. Inside the Demon King's chamber, the colossal one-eyed titan Ugar addresses the visiting black-haired man. Roaring in anger, the massive titan demands to know why he should help someone who insulted him. The calm remark, a sudden burst of purple magical energy erupts from the ground. Spreading his dark wings, the black-haired man reveals that he actually came to warn Ugar of an incoming raid. The black-haired man suggests moving the kidnapped princess to the first floor to pacify the heroes. Ugar dismisses the warning as nonsense, prompting the black-haired man to mock the titan's poor intelligence gathering. Trembling with rage, the massive titan's eye narrows as he threatens the smug black-haired man. Activating his gigantification magic, Ugar grows even larger to crush the unimpressed black-haired man. Facing the colossal threat, the black-haired man calmly begins listing several royal figures. He stands unfazed beneath the titan's massive fist, remaining completely calm and collected. The black-haired man explains that kidnapping minor royals avoids triggering any retaliation from the heroes. Sweating profusely, the shocked titan demands to know how the black-haired man discovered his target list. Smiling mockingly, the black-haired man points out that protecting the tower is what truly matters. The black-haired man reassures the doubtful titan that placing the hostage on the first floor is harmless. Suspicious of the helpful gesture, Ugar asks what the black-haired man expects to gain. The black-haired man secretly gloats that the titan fell for his clever trap. He notes that surviving in a rain requires strategy over raw, mindless brute strength.
He muses that the Titan secretly fears his own intellectual shortcomings in facing the heroes. This insecurity forces the Titan to target only minor hostages to avoid triggering major heroic crusades. Smiling darkly, the black-haired man remembers how the cowardly Titan behaved before his regression. He predicts the desperate Titan will seek salvation by clinging to a powerful, mysterious figure. That savior is Jason Kochman, the smug, white-haired mastermind who manipulates others from the shadows. Striding forward, the black-haired man claims he only wishes to assist a fellow Demon King. Ugar listens in silent contemplation as the black-haired man claims he wants the Titan to survive. Walking away, the black-haired man resolves to recruit Ugar and disrupt the white-haired mastermind's plans. Meanwhile, the sun shines brightly over the grand estate of the Golden Moon Merchant Guild. In the courtyard, a brilliant blue magic circle flares to life, summoning a cloaked figure. Disguised as the red-haired warrior File, Burgess Deus inquires if the raiding party is fully prepared. The brown-haired hero Hillen eagerly confirms that the expedition is ready to depart immediately. The orange-haired archmage Rosal explains she will lead them using her experience with the tower. The energetic leader of the Scarlet Hawk Mercenary Guild rallies his men to impress their benefactor. Satisfied with the forces, File turns his attention to the status of the rescued elven slaves. Granada confirms 33 rescued elves of sworn loyalty, while the merchant hopes for a bonus. Handing over a bag of gold, File dismisses the merchant with a promise of future work. File officially declares the start of the journey to rescue the 13th Princess of Hildarine. The scene shifts to the vast, stone-lined underground warehouse of the Golden Moon Merchant Guild. File confirms with the green-haired elf Granada that the rescued group swore their sacred loyalty. A red-haired elf girl expresses deep gratitude for being safe from a lifetime of slavery. File's face twists into a dark, mocking grin as he congratulates the unsuspecting elves. Unleashing his dark, fiery aura and massive black wings, he reveals his identity as a Demon King. Burjay wonders about their shock, while Granada points out that Demon Kings rarely wander around disguised. Granada apologizes to his kin, explaining he swore his loyalty to the Demon King. Horrified and outraged, the red-haired elf accuses Granada of betraying the sacred world tree. Granada passionately yells that his actions are driven solely by a desire for revenge against humans. The word of revenge echoes deeply among the scarred, traumatized group of elven survivors. They recall the horrifying torment and abuse they suffered at the hands of cruel human captors. They remember being locked in cold iron cages, treated as nothing more than disposable property. Fueled by painful memories, the elven survivors clench their fists in a shared desire for vengeance. The traumatized elven survivors passionately unite, shouting their complete support for Granada's quest for revenge against humans. Observing their hatred, the black-haired man notes how easily pure elves succumb to darkness after experiencing human cruelty. The black-haired man orders Gordon to establish an infiltration route for the rescued elves into human society. He dreads the inevitable gathering of the powerful 10 Stars hero slated to arrive in 6 months to defeat him. Knowing time is short, he resolves to recruit new talent and secure allies to strengthen his defenses. He notes that creating chaos within human society to delay the hero's journey is another vital tactic. Staring ahead with fierce determination, the black-haired man vows to survive the impending crisis at all costs. The scene shifts to the first floor of Ugar's tower, now covered in blood and defeated Titan guards. The raiding party easily sweeps through the first floor, though the brown-haired hero Hillen cautions them to stay alert. Mercenary suddenly calls out to Hillen, announcing they have successfully located the kidnapped princess. Inside the cage lies Princess Alina Hildarine, unconscious but safe, exactly as planned. Hillen instructs his allies to secure Princess Alina and withdraw while he guards their rear. Walking out, Roselle expresses deep suspicion over why the Demon King made rescuing the princess so incredibly easy. Helen nervously laughs it off, suggesting the Demon King was simply terrified of them and urges a swift return. Staring closely, the orange-haired archmage Roselle notes that Hillen is acting unusually out of character. Roselle recalls how the old reckless Hillen would have insisted on charging directly into the Demon King's chamber. She notes his past recklessness was purely for fame, contrasting it with his sudden, quiet composure. Hillen is taken aback as Roselle comments on his newfound composed demeanor. Laughing nervously, Hillen internally panics that knowing the Demon King's plan made him appear far too relaxed. Roselle offers a warm smile, concluding that his maturity is actually a highly positive change. The scene shifts to the grand castle of the Kingdom of Hildarine under a bright full moon. A lavish banquet is underway inside the palace ballroom, crowded with celebrating nobles. Tables overflow with a magnificent feast of elaborate cakes, pastries, and red roses. Nobles discuss how any damage to royal prestige would have severely crippled morale for the future hero's journey. The King of Hildarine highly commends Hillen, declaring him the true savior and hero of the kingdom. Hillen humbly shares the credit, praising Roselle Chart for her vital assistance in securing the princess. The king lauds Hillen's modesty, calling his exemplary attitude an inspiration to everyone present. Hillen asks about Princess Elena's absence, but the king reassures him that she is safe and resting. The king observes Hillen's inquiries with suspicious intensity, wondering if the hero has romantic feelings for Elena. Grinning deviously, the king plots to marry them, using the princess as a tool to bind Hillen to the throne. Standing tall, the king raises his golden goblet to lead the entire room in a celebratory toast. The crowd cheers as the king boasts about the total defeat of the Tower of Absolute Hardness. Guests joyfully raise their wine glasses, soaking in the grand banquet held in honor of their heroes. The king passionately roars that Hildebrand stands supreme and will never be looked down upon by anyone. The king loudly proclaims that the kingdom of Hildebrand shall prosper forever. The entire banquet hall erupts in a massive cheer, wishing long life to the kingdom and its ruler. Under the cover of night, a bright green trail of magic quietly shoots toward a separate palace tower. The magical projectile lands quietly at the isolated annex tower far separated from the main palace. A cheerful tiny white cloud spirit floats ahead to scout the area for any hidden guards. Wearing a jamming mask, a disguised Ernan declares that the heroes' party is the perfect distraction for their infiltration. The black-haired man effortlessly strikes down a palace guard while advising Ernan to save her strength. He knocks out another guard, warning that excessive magic output could alert the powerful heroes nearby. A sudden shout of alarm echoes down the massive spiral staircase as a guard speed spots them. The guard desperately runs to ring the alarm bell, but a floating blue slime spirit intercepts him. A loud, sudden bang sounds out as Ernan playfully strikes a dramatic pose, telling the guards not to underestimate her. A massive torrent of water instantly erupts, sweeping away the guards and the alarm bell in one go. The remaining palace guards watch in absolute horror, demanding to know the true identities of the powerful intruders. Thrilled by the dramatic setup, she prepares to deliver her ridiculously fabricated evil introduction.
Striking a dramatic pose, she loudly declares herself a dark spiritist, leaving her partner utterly dumbfounded by her excessive excitement. She attempts to introduce her companion, but suddenly gasps in shock as something unexpected catches her eye.
The black-haired man prepares to strike, declaring he hates being underestimated and wants to end this quickly, and comically yells in frustration that she was still in the middle of her dramatic introduction. Terrified guards realize they face the Demon King and demand to know if he intends to kidnap the princess. Dodging down the stairs, the black-haired man reveals he noticed the powerful defensive magic cast on the windows. Head guard mocks him, claiming his stealthy approach proves he is afraid of alerting the heroes. Realizing the intruder cannot use demonic energy without triggering alarms, the guards prepare a coordinated assault. The guards rally each other to show the Demon King the formidable strength of Hildebrand's defenders. Black-haired man calmly acknowledges he is holding back his demonic energy solely to avoid alerting the heroes. With a terrifying, dark glare, he mockingly asks the guards if they genuinely believe they can defeat him. With a sudden thunderous crash sounding out, a fierce struggle damages the chamber outside the bedroom. With a loud thud, the final guard is defeated, leaving only silence in the quiet corridor. Waking up in her bed, Princess Elena Hildebrand blinks in confusion at the strange noise outside.
Standing amidst the fallen guards, the black-haired man notes he held back to avoid collapsing the tower.
The head guard is utterly horrified to realize the elite royal defender stood absolutely no chance. Desperate and panicked, the guard swings his sword in a wild, bright blue defensive strike. The guard jumps backward through a shattered stone wall, resolved to escape and summon the heroes.
He gasps in absolute shock as the cut stone wall magically reconstructs itself before his eyes.
Trapped by the self-repairing magic, the guard curses the dark spiritist while Ernan offers a playful apology. Ernan notes that losing the rescued princess in under 24 hours will destroy the kingdom's prestige. Opening the princess's door, the black-haired man eagerly anticipates the upcoming political chaos. Grinning, he announces his arrival to take Princess Elena back to his demonic tower. He is suddenly caught off guard as something unexpected happens right in front of him. Princess Elena joyfully screams Ernan's name and leaps out of bed to tackle her. The two sisters tearfully and enthusiastically embrace, overjoyed to be reunited so soon. Ernan is completely baffled as to how Elena recognized her despite her magical jamming mask. Elena explains that Ernan's secret letter made her identity perfectly obvious from the beginning. The black-haired man's sweat drops, wondering if all Hildebrand royals share this bizarrely casual attitude. He questions her not about the letter, and she is surprised to learn he already knew about it. Manifesting his dark horns and flame, the Demon King explains he had the hero Hillen inspect the letter. Spreading his massive black wings and unleashing his dark aura, he announces it is time to depart. Under a starry night sky, the grand royal castle of Hildebrand stands quiet and majestic. At the banquet, an official frantically whispers the shocking news of the princess's second abduction to the king. The king's golden goblet topples over, spilling red wine across the table in sudden shock. The king roars in absolute veins-bulging fury at the gross incompetence of his guards. His furious voice echoes through the castle as he cancels the banquet, enraged by the Demon King's mockery. Scene shifts to the first floor of the Tower of Flames, showing massive mechanical defenses. Observing the defenses, Elena is amazed by the massive and uniquely shaped mana cannons. Clenching her fists in excitement, Princess Elena eagerly asks if the creator built them by hand. Dwarven blacksmith Lodger Friedrich proudly introduces himself as the creator of the first floor's weapons. Thrilled, Elena asks if she can try making weapons, and Lodger happily offers to make her his assistant. Elena cheers happily, absolutely delighted by the warm reception from the giant dwarf blacksmith. A beautiful blonde female knight in silver armor arrives, asking Lodger to repair her practice dummy. Gasping in awe, Elena praises the female knight's beauty and her strong, physically fit body. The knight blushes deeply, flattered but confused by Elena's surprisingly polished social skills. Ernan smiles and explains that Elena is sincere, having spent her entire life locked in her bedroom. Ernan notes that Elena is finally experiencing the world in person and is genuinely honest with everyone. The silver-armored knight blushes furiously, flattered by the sweet and genuine compliment. Gordon frantically objects to having a child in the tower, arguing it ruins their terrifying reputation. Elena walks up to the towering demon, innocently asking if he is the famous adjutant Gordon. Glaring fiercely, Gordon warns Elena that her presence threatens the dignity and fear-inducing reputation of the Demon King. Elena warmly praises her listener for being the one who works the hardest behind the scenes. Knowing deeply, Elena expresses her sincere gratitude to him for always helping her sister, Ernan. The towering, long-haired demon Gordon stands silently with his back turned, seemingly stunned by her polite words. Elena excitedly expresses how comfortable, clean, and kind everyone is within the Demon King's tower. Black-haired man sweat drops in a chibi thought bubble, realizing that everyone already likes her. The black-haired man playfully asks Elena what sweet things Ernan wrote about him in her letters. Elena flusters and stammers, completely caught off guard by his sudden question about the letters. Elena turns nervously toward Ernan, who remains completely silent and avoids eye contact. Blush-faced and visibly panicked, Ernan shakes her head vigorously to stop Elena from revealing anything. Elena quickly hides behind Ernan and loudly proclaims that she has absolutely no knowledge of it. The black-haired man questions her swift recovery, which Ernan credits entirely to the Demon King's tower. Ernan explains that Elena's weakness is caused by a massive mana overload her fragile body cannot handle. An illustration explains how high concentrations of demonic energy effectively drain and deplete excessive mana levels. Ernan realizes that Ugar's tower previously depleted Elena's mana, which prevented her from coughing. Elena runs around happily as Ernan confirms she can achieve a complete recovery here. The black-haired man asks if Elena can be ready in 6 months, and Ernan guarantees upper-level mage status. Accepting this, the black-haired man assigns Elena to the 3rd floor and tasks Ernan with her care. Ernan stops the black-haired man as he walks away, calling out with a sincere personal request. Ernan begs him to keep Elena out of direct combat, stating she is too young to see blood. The black-haired man silently contemplates if Elena was Ernan's true motivation for wanting to destroy Hildren. The scene shifts to the Grand Strategy meeting room on the 5th floor of the Tower of Flames. The black-haired man reveals he expanded the chamber using points gained from kidnapping the princess. A massive glowing holographic map activates as the black-haired man outlines plans to face the heroes. The black-haired man delegates the room's management to the elf, who eagerly accepts the responsibility. The black-haired man notes they must strengthen the tower and delay the gathering of the heroes. The black-haired man asks about their elf distribution plan, which the glasses elf reports is proceeding smoothly. A blue-skinned orc suddenly appears on the holographic screen to report an urgent problem. In the Han Kingdom, alarm spreads as news breaks that their princess has vanished once more. Anxiety grips the kingdom's tall towers over the seemingly impossible prospect of another royal kidnapping. A kneeling messenger presents a letter found in the princess's quarters to the sitting king. The letter reveals that Princess Lavinia left once again to collect ingredients for her chimeras. The worried king contemplates her drawing and deduces her destination must be a specific cold mountain. Panicked, the king commands his forces to launch an immediate rescue mission to Urgest. Fierce beast-like monsters clash violently, tearing each other apart in a snowy wilderness. A grotesque, skull-faced chimera brutally devours its prey amidst a spray of dark blood. At the snowy peak of Urgest, massive chimeras roam the desolate and freezing landscape. A girl with curly lavender hair sits quietly atop the head of the massive skull-faced beast. Princess Lavinia Ahan coldly eyes her surroundings, viewing the local orcs merely as chimera ingredients. The monstrous chimeras march through the heavy blizzard, leaving trails of blood in the snow. Lavinia peers through the winter storm, noting the sheer quantity of targets awaiting her chimeras. The blue orc reports that a human mage leading powerful monsters has breached their territory. The elf displays a hologram of the intruder, noting she is steadily approaching their tower. The black-haired man looks on in sheer disbelief as he recognizes Lavinia Akan. The elf identifies Lavinia as Zarene's sole chimera creator, questioning her legendary reputation. The black-haired man sweat drops, warning that her terrifying powers far surpass normal chimera creators. He remembers a past timeline where she single-handedly invaded and kidnapped almost all his vassals. An ominous shadow falls over the memory of his tower nearly collapsing under her assault. Lavinia's overwhelming solo conquests earned her the fearsome reputation of the solo hero's journeyer. The black-haired man worries that Draxon's death prematurely triggered her destructive activities 3 years early. The black-haired man grimly notes Lavinia's relentless drive, wondering why she chose Urgest of all places. The dark-haired glasses elf warns that harming Lavinia Akan will provoke a full-scale kingdom invasion. The black-haired man grimly admits they cannot defeat both kingdoms, clenching his fist in frustration. The black-haired man orders Crew 2 to lure the princess away peacefully while he goes to intervene. As he walks away, the black-haired man recalls the eerily similar events before Draxon's death. He suddenly halts his steps as a chilling realization crosses his mind. The black-haired man's eyes widen with sudden dread, realizing the timing is far too perfect. He suspects that someone deliberately orchestrated Lavinia's arrival to create this crisis.
An ominous thought suggests she was sent specifically as a trap to destroy him.
Flying through the blizzard, the Demon King orders Krutu's forces to retreat eastward immediately. He reasons that a hidden mastermind must have leaked information to lure Lavinia here.
The black-haired man identifies the scheming Jason Kochman as the prime suspect behind the plot.
He grimly ponders his countermove if Jason is indeed the one pulling the strings. Resolving not to remain passive, the black-haired man dives down toward the snowy battlefield. A colossal werewolf chimera with glowing green eyes and a skull mask corners the blue orc. Kneeling in the snow, Krutu finds relief in knowing his tribe managed to escape safely. He takes comfort in the thought that his beloved tribe will survive even without him. With a roaring resolve, Krutu readies his axe, prepared to sacrifice his life for his people. Facing certain doom from the monstrous beasts, Krutu silently apologizes to his Demon King. In his final moments, he begs the Demon King to look after his surviving tribe. Suddenly, a catastrophic pillar of dark purple flames erupts, engulfing the monstrous chimeras. Krutu gasps in utter disbelief as the legendary black flames rage around him. The Demon King descends, shielding the injured chief and questioning who gave him permission to die. The Demon King sternly demands to know who gave Krutu permission to sacrifice his life. Krutu humbly begs for forgiveness and accepts any punishment, but the Demon King simply tells him to look up. He praises Krutu for fulfilling his duty as chief and urges him to value his rare loyalty. Deeply moved by his lord's unexpected kindness, Krutu's eyes fill with tears of gratitude. From atop her beast, Lavinia stares down in shock at the legendary Demon King's sudden arrival. The Demon King notes that thinning out her dangerous chimera army worked out perfectly. He prepares another spell, aiming to reduce the chimera forces as much as possible. A sudden shout echoing across the snowy valley breaks Lavinia's focus as the Demon King departs. The Demon King notices an approaching search party calling out to Lavinia, realizing they came to retrieve her. Prince Kane Akin excitedly points through the blizzard, spotting his sister's chimeras in the distance. The Demon King declares he has no desire for war with the Akin Kingdom right now. He leaves a chilling warning that any future transgressors will face total annihilation. The dark flames dissipate, leaving behind only the cold wind of the mountain. Lavinia's skull-faced werewolf chimera leaps forward, leaving the battlefield behind. Lavinia gazes back thoughtfully, completely fascinated by the Demon King's formidable display of power. Under a massive green barrier, Prince Kane's army rushes toward the source of the magical light. The prince halts as he spots something unexpected waiting for them in the snow. They are greeted by an adorable round chimera holding a white message board in its hands. A sign left by Lavinia bluntly tells her brother not to search for it. Kane screams in comical despair over his sister's constant disappearances, while his advisor urges a quick retreat. Kane reluctantly agrees to head back, confident his powerful sister can handle herself and wasn't kidnapped. The chapter title confirms the story continues as the scene shifts back to the tower. The massive, ominous tower of flames looms over the snowy mountains as Lavinia's chimera observes. Inside his tower, the black-haired man reflects on Lavinia's relentless and madness-driven obsession. The elf reports that the search party has left, prompting the black-haired man to inquire about Lavinia's movements. He reasons that Lavinia shook off her scouts deliberately to avoid leading them directly to his tower. The elf suggests that if Lavinia vanishes permanently in the wilderness, the consequences could be highly favorable. He grins wickedly, realizing her disappearance leaves the kingdom with absolutely no pretext to blame or invade him. The dark-haired glasses elf eagerly suggests launching an immediate, all-out offensive to capitalize on the situation. The Demon King remains silent, sweating as he contemplates their next move. He realizes this is their ultimate opportunity to deal with the princess's threat. Yet a sudden hesitation lingers in his mind as he pauses to reconsider. He cannot shake off a persistent, nagging feeling of dread creeping over him. He quickly dismisses the doubt, hardening his resolve to move forward regardless. He makes a firm decision to handle the dangerous princess on his own. Spreading his massive dark wings, the Demon King descends directly toward the waiting princess. The colossal, skull-masked chimera stares upward, ready to face the descending demon lord. A startled voice gasps in utter disbelief at the sight unfolding before them. Watching from afar, the white-haired man with the monocle notes the Demon King's extreme caution in confronting them directly outside. He mockingly addresses the Demon King by his true name, Burjadeas. Demon King suddenly shouts out, revealing he knows Jason Kochman is secretly listening. The Demon King explains he detected Jason's demonic energy within the chimera, accusing him of providing his own body as material. Sitting on his throne, Jason praises the Demon King's sharp senses but remains completely unfazed. Jason's sinister smile widens as he prepares to mock the Demon King's desperate situation. He mockingly questions what the Demon King could possibly achieve against their superior forces. He boasts that the Demon King stands no chance against an entire army of powerful chimeras. Observing the massive army, the Demon King prepares his magic, determined to capture Princess Lavinia. Suddenly, the Demon King stops as he senses a different ancient energy lingering inside the chimera. The Glasses Elf abruptly contacts the Demon King with critical intelligence just received from Hill and Cargill. He reveals that a hero previously recovered the corpse of the deceased Beast Demon King. Glass's elf warns that the Beast Demon King's corpse was delivered to Princess Lavinia. The monstrous chimera's eye flares with a terrifying light as a low rumble vibrates through the air. The Demon King realizes in horror that Draxon's corpse was used to construct the monstrosity. Jason smugly confirms this, boasting that the beast can temporarily replicate Draxon's legendary speed in combat. Jason mockingly points out that the Demon King foolishly converted most of his power points into mere money. He taunts that defeating Lavinia and her modified chimera will be impossible for an unupgraded Demon King.
Jason warns that his hidden scouts will infiltrate the tower while the Demon King is distracted by Lavinia.
He plans to map out the tower's inner layout to devise a perfect conquest strategy. He declares he will overthrow the Demon King just like the legendary heroes of old. Jason mockingly asks what the cornered Demon King will do to escape this perfect trap. He challenges the Demon King of Blazing Fire to make his desperate move. The Demon King suddenly bursts into frantic laughter, admitting he was completely outsmarted by Jason. Clenching his fist, he prepares to unleash a forbidden power, knowing there is no turning back. With his options exhausted, he resolves to stake everything on a desperate final gambit. He mentally screams that this is an all-or-nothing gamble to turn the tables on his enemies. Shedding his dark cloak, the Demon King reveals a regal uniform and calls out to Lavinia. Through the magical screen, his panicked advisor screams at him for recklessly exposing himself to the enemy. Jason's smug expression vanishes as he sweat drops in sheer confusion over the Demon King's unexpected move. Facing the towering chimera, the Demon King confidently proposes a business deal directly to the princess. He proposes giving her one of his own horns if she cancels her contract with Jason. He solemnly swears to uphold this promise by the ancient standards of a Demon King. Lavinia stares in absolute shock, drooling at the irresistible offer of a genuine demon horn. The Demon King confidently addresses the princess once more, capturing her undivided attention with his regal presence. He firmly reiterates his solemn pledge, swearing by the sacred standards of the Demon King.
Swept away by the incredible offer, Princess Lavinia instantly produces a contract, completely mesmerized.
The Demon King sweat drops in sheer disbelief as he takes the drool-covered contract from her. Pattering sounds echo as the small chimeras happily retreat amidst clouds of purple magical smoke. Lavinia demands her prize, while the Demon King suggests entering the tower to finalize their trade. The black-haired Demon King smiles, reassuring her that they have signed a contract, adding that he swore on the Demon King's standard. Two figures walk through the giant open metal doors of the snowy fortress, the Demon King followed by the towering wolf-like chimera. A mysterious dark void with vertical blue lines creates a tense, silent transition. A menacing close-up reveals the white-haired man with the monocle smiling wickedly. The white-haired man laughs mockingly in front of a green background, remarking that the Demon King treated the standard like a joke and played the princess like a fiddle. Standing before a massive, glowing blue hologram map of Jespine, the white-haired man boasts that his next move is already planned out. A close-up of the white-haired man's face framed by his messy hair shows a glowing green eye as he asks how much longer his opponent can hold out. An ominous red-bordered speech bubble dramatically declares the name Braziz Deus. Inside the tower, a bearded dwarf standing before a massive mechanical cannon and a blonde female knight holding a hammer look up in surprise. Two young white-haired girls sit on the checkered floor, with the taller one carefully braiding the younger one's hair. The purple-haired child, disguised in a dark blue cloak, walks through the hallway with a bewildered look beside the black-haired Demon King. The purple-haired child asks where the ingredients are, prompting the black-haired Demon King to sweat drop and reply that he never promised any other ingredients. The blonde knight, dwarf, and white-haired girls gasp in utter shock, realizing the visitor is indeed Princess Lavinia and wondering what she is doing there. Inside the Demon King's throne room on the 5th floor of the Tower of Black Flames, the black-haired man sits regally on his throne. Kneeling alone on the red carpet under a bright spotlight, the purple-haired child awaits the Demon King's next move. The black-haired Demon King tosses down a large curved horn, telling the purple-haired child to take the horn he promised. The purple-haired child holds the horn and throws a furious tantrum, screaming that this is not a Demon King's horn and demanding he give her the real one. Smiling mockingly, the black-haired Demon King states that he does not care about the standard and cannot simply hand his horn to a human. A sudden, sharp tick sound marks the purple-haired child's face twisting in absolute anger. Exploding with rage, the child screams for him to die, instantly summoning massive dark wolf chimeras into the throne room. The dark-haired elf assistant Gordon quickly draws his sword to protect the throne, but the Demon King calmly tells him that it is fine. Raising a finger, the Demon King assures the child there's no need to worry because, though it is not his horn, he infused it with a power just as potent. The purple-haired child gazes in awe as the horn in her hands bursts with an intense burning flame comparable to a Demon King's power. Excitedly shouting for more, the purple-haired child is surrounded by newly summoned shadow beasts, while the Demon King observes, pleased with her reaction. Holding up a glowing purple orb called the Armani Sphere, the Demon King declares that future power will not be free and commands her to swallow it. With a gulping sound, the purple-haired child willingly swallows the magical purple sphere. A system window confirms her new status as a Demon King subordinate, though she immediately demands more flames, making the Demon King's sweat drop and think she has a screw loose.
The Demon King looks on as Lavinia happily shows off her horn to the dwarf, the blonde knight, and the white-haired girls, reflecting that the princess is now his subordinate. The Demon King resolves to build an army capable of facing the overwhelming numbers of the hero's journey. He plans his next preparations against the 10-star heroes, backed by a terrifying vanguard of monstrous chimeras with glowing green eyes. Ruto appears on a magic screen, reporting that he successfully erased all traces of the chimera's path, earning the Demon King's praise. The Demon King ponders that the Akan Kingdom will never suspect Princess Lavinia is hidden in his tower, but remains cautious just in case. The Demon King calls out Lavinia's name, causing her to turn around with a questioning look while clutching her prized horn. At a grand, light-filled White Palace tower, an announcement echoes that a letter has arrived from Princess Lavinia. The king of the Akan Kingdom holds up a cute crayon drawing from Lavinia that warns them not to look for her because she has lots of ingredients. Kneeling before the grand throne, an advisor asks the seated white-haired king if they should send out another search party. The king declines, noting that even the prince could not bring her back, and decides to leave her alone since she seems happy. The advisor warns that the king will be responsible if the princess throws the kingdom into total chaos, which the king accepts. The scene shifts to the towering, ice-covered structure known as the Tower of Intense Cold. A delicate hand drops a candy into a jar as a voice asks if Burzdeas actually helped. The blue Cyclops monster on a magic screen explains that Burzdeas warned them about the hero's journey, planning an attack, and provided useful intel. Reina, the demon queen of Intense Cold, eats a candy and asks the Cyclops if Burzdeas is truly more trustworthy than Jason. Reina argues that Jason has provided much more useful information for a far longer period of time. The blue Cyclops admits Jason provided the necessary information to survive, but confesses he still cannot fully trust him. Sitting on a luxurious white couch, Reina offers to tell the Cyclops the reason behind this distrust. Reina recalls that she, the Cyclops, and Draxen Dordolf managed to survive in a reign for decades solely due to Jason's assistance. Reina points out that rookie demon kings, such as the Demon Queen of Lust, defeated by the hero Helen Cargill, always fell within 3 years. A large speech bubble emphasizes the hypothetical premise of what would have happened if Jason had wanted to intervene. A close-up of Reina's glowing blue eye reveals her belief that Jason could have easily saved those fallen rookies if he wished. The blue Cyclops gasps in absolute shock, asking Reina if she is implying that Jason was the one who killed Draxen. Reina advises the Cyclops to decide for himself, admitting she also distrusts Burzdeas. Reina suggests asking an annoying contact for help to uncover who truly killed Draxen. The scene shifts to the volcanic landscape and stone gates of the kingdom of Burpupt. A winged figure flies high above the stone cityscape of the Burpupt Palace. Vivian, the purple-haired demon queen of lust, uses invisibility to confirm her kidnapping mission. Reina explains her suspicion that another demon king instigated Draxen's death using the dwarf princess. Reina clears Vivian of suspicion, trusting her to investigate the murder fairly. Vivian smugly boasts that she is the absolute perfect choice for this investigation. Vivian playfully demands a polite plea, causing Reina to grind her teeth in annoyance. Swallowing her pride, Reina reluctantly begs the purple-haired demon queen for her assistance. Vivian reacts with joyful teasing and mock innocence to the elf queen's desperate plea. Reina screams in pure, unbridled frustration at the purple-haired demon queen's mockery. Vivian prepares to demonstrate her true capabilities as she descends to infiltrate the city. Vivian recalls her directive from Archduke Alkine to uncover the truth behind Draxen's death. Vivian reflects on earning her ticket home, confident the dwarves wouldn't dare oppose her. Vivian sneaks past a guard, confident her personal infiltration makes her completely undetectable. Vivian approaches the princess's room, confident that only a top-tier hero could spy her. Vivian stops dead in her tracks as she spots a knight standing guard right ahead. Cold sweat drips down Vivian's face as she realizes the knight is looking directly at her. Trembling with fear, Vivian nervously asks the knight if he can actually see her. Drawing his lightning-infused sword, the knight confidently identifies her as the Demon Queen of Lust. A blast of lightning erupts as Vivian screams and barely dodges the knight's powerful strike. Vivian realizes her opponent is a top-tier hero and wonders why he is guarding a princess. Overwhelmed by the sudden danger, Vivian panics and screams that she cannot take this anymore. Vivian curses the terrible dimension as she desperately tries to escape the battlefield. A violent clash of magic and steel echoes through the corridors of the palace. Vivian frantically questions why such a powerful, high-tier hero would be stationed there. Helen Cargill recalls the Demon King's warning, realizing the succubus really came to kidnap the princess. Helen Cargill remembers his master's instructions to guard Louise, resolving to trust him completely. Leaping forward, the brave knight unleashes a lightning strike to finish the battle. The knight roars Vivian's title as she desperately flees through a crimson mist. Vivian looks back in sheer shock as purple smoke billows around her retreat. Vivian defiantly declares that she refuses to let herself be defeated in this place.
Vivian screams out, frantically searching for the dwarf princess's whereabouts during her escape.
The orange-haired dwarf princess drops down behind Vivian with glowing red eyes and a massive axe.
Vivian gasps in absolute horror as she faces the ambush of the dwarf princess.
Shouting with rage, the dwarf princess swings her giant battle axe directly at the intruder.
Vivian barely blocks the shattering impact, struggling against the princess's overwhelming brute strength. Vivian questions if she is truly a princess, prompting an angry, sarcastic reply from her attacker.
Knight leaps back into the fray, declaring the end of the Demon Queen of Lust.
Vivian tearfully despairs over facing both a top-tier hero and a battle axe-wielding dwarf princess. A dramatic clash of weapons creates a massive explosion in the castle hall. Screaming in intense frustration, Vivian is blown back by the dual assault. The knight grits his teeth, determined to suppress the fleeing Demon King.
The knight watches in alarm as Vivian transforms into a pink mist to escape.
The knight unleashes a massive blue energy blast, warning her not to escape.
A heavy iron gate shuts tightly as the pink mist manages to slip away.
The knight and the dwarf princess stand in the empty, scarred corridor after the battle. The dwarf princess throws a massive tantrum upon learning the intruder has successfully escaped.
The princess fiercely rants that she should have been killed, leaving the knight sweat dropping.
A report on the magic screen confirms the Demon Queen of Lust's expected arrival. The black-haired Demon King anticipated this outcome and asks his subordinate how the situation unfolded.
The knight reports acquiring a trophy for the tower, piquing the black-haired Demon King's curiosity. The retrieved trophy is revealed to be the severed tail of the Demon King of Lust.
A severed pink heart-tipped tail floats ominously within a brilliant pulsating purple aura. Scene shifts to the tempestuous lightning-filled waters of the Eastern Triangle Strait. A colossal, multi-armed, calamity-grade sea monster towers menacingly over a lone, tiny warrior. The muscular hero Pallav Disrod mockingly demands the sea monster put up a better fight.
Pallav Disrod freezes in sudden panic as a massive threat looms overhead. A gargantuan flaming meteor descends from the heavens, prompting a panicked warning to watch out.
Even the colossal sea monster is left sweating in absolute shock at the impending impact.
A catastrophic blinding explosion erupts as the colossal meteor obliterates the battlefield.
The orange-haired hero Roselle Chart sighs in relief after unleashing her devastating magical attack. Pallav complains about the interruption, but Roselle explains they are summoned for the hero's journey. Pallav eagerly anticipates facing calamity-grade monsters, but Roselle tells him to stay focused on the Demon King. Roselle scolds Pallav for fighting without mana, while he jokingly tries to convince her to try it. Pallav notices Roselle's increased strength and asks for a duel, earning a blunt rejection. Pallav asks how she located him, and she reveals she received a tip about his location.
Roselle looks back calmly as she prepares to reveal the identity of the informant.
She reveals that the informant was none other than the hero's guildmaster. The silhouette of the prestigious 10 stars hero, Hillen Cargill, is introduced. The guildmaster commends the knight's exceptional achievements, eliciting a humble word of thanks.
The guildmaster officially appoints the light brown-haired knight as an esteemed Argan.
Narration explains that Argans hold a highly influential leadership role within the Heroes Guild. The prestigious rank holds immense power, with even regional kings seeking to curry favor.
The knight proudly reflects on how a simple countryside boy rose to such incredible heights.
He reaches his armored hands toward the floating blade, determined to take the final step.
An intense anticipation builds as he prepares to make his final solemn vow. He passionately vows to fulfill his duties and become the greatest hero in history. A mockingly familiar voice remarks on how quickly the rookie became a big shot. The arrival of Pallav Disrod and Roselle Chart is announced as they enter the chamber. Pallav congratulates the knight on his victories and suggests a spar, causing him to hesitate. Heroes gather before the guildmaster to receive a grave, highly critical mission. Pallav aggressively demands a proper mission, leaving the young knight absolutely horrified by his disrespect. The guildmaster calmly assures the muscular warrior that this mission will satisfy his bloodlust. The guildmaster orders them to forcibly retrieve 7 10-stars heroes from Jespine. The guildmaster assures them that the Heroes Guild will manage any political fallout. He declares that launching the 10-star level hero's journey is their absolute top priority. Pallav is thrilled at the prospect of fighting his peers, despite Rose's disgust. Hillen realizes with dread that gathering the 10 stars will accelerate the hero's journey. Hillen desperately resolves that the Demon King must survive until he secures his own legacy. The flashback concludes, returning to the current report delivered to the throne room. The Demon King realizes the hero's journey will commence immediately upon the hero's return. The black-haired Demon King wonders why the sudden change was ordered without any explanation. Suspecting the abrupt shift is artificial, the Demon King wonders if Jason orchestrated the interference. The knight explains that the guild intends to intervene directly in Jespine's bloody conflict. The narrative shifts to detail the high-stakes conflict of the succession wars. In this deadly struggle, royal heirs compete with their lives on the line for the throne. Royal heirs hire powerful mercenaries to complete challenging tasks assigned by the emperor.
The grueling succession tournament spans 5 distinct stages over a 6-month period. Hearing that 7 of the 10 Stars heroes have been hired as mercenaries, the black-haired Demon King realizes they are already involved in the succession war. A warning notes that the muscular pink-masked hero's intervention could drastically accelerate the war's conclusion to just a few weeks. The Demon King falls silent as he considers the dangerous possibility of all 10 Stars heroes gathering in one place. Realizing he has no time to lose regardless of outside interference, the black-haired Demon King resolutely decides to take immediate action. Black-haired Demon King instructs the dwarven engineer Lager to begin constructing an ancient golem weapon for their next stage.
The black-haired Demon King orders Lavinia Akon to assist the dwarf with her magic tech expertise, much to her confused reluctance. The Demon King successfully motivates the excited girl by offering the severed tail of the succubus queen as a rare crafting ingredient.
Checking on Elena's status, the black-haired Demon King learns from Ernan that her mana has been nearly completely drained.
A sudden beep sounds as Ernan confirms she will begin teaching basic magic tomorrow, earning the Demon King's approval.
A magnificent fiery orange wing unfurls majestically, scattering glowing feathers through the air as power surges.
Entrusting the tower to a shocked elf-eared subordinate Gordon, the winged red-haired Demon King prepares to depart to buy them some time. The red-haired Demon King resolutely declares his intention to personally join the Jespine Empire's bloody war of succession.